The young master, practicing shooting for the first time, accidentally wounded Duke Xiao. Even though he offered a sincere apology, Duke Xiao showed no sign of holding it against him. Despite this, he faced the wrath of the nobles. Small and vulnerable, he was struck to the ground by his mother's hand. His only crime was inadvertently mingling with the nobles, a perceived threat to his older brother, Alan's, position. No matter how much he explained, he couldn't earn his mother's forgiveness. It seemed his only purpose in life was to be Alan's duplicate. 8 years earlier, on a stormy night, a carriage appeared suddenly in the slums. A beautiful, noble woman emerged. She was Lady Anna, wife of Marquis Bell. She gestured for a man to lead the way. It took me quite some time to find him. But what do you want with that child? At these words, a gleaming sword was pressed against his throat. If you want to live, lead the way. The man, terrified, dared not even breathe. Wisely complying, he quickly led them to their destination. He's there. A little girl knelt on the ground, playing in the mud. One glance at her beautiful blonde hair, and Anna knew this was the one she sought. The man cautiously gestured towards his own head, implying silence. A pouch of coins was tossed at his feet, more money than he'd seen in his lifetime. Today's events must remain secret. Of course, my lady. I wish you a pleasant evening. Anna instructed her men to ensure the man's silence. As you wish. Living in the squalor of the slums, the beautiful Korea was a sparkling jewel from the dirt. Anna slowly approached Korea. It's raining so hard. Why aren't you inside? Korea slowly looked up. Mama is working. At the word working, a smile touched Anna's lips. Is your name Korea? Do you know me? Of course. Once upon a time, a very beautiful woman, heavy with child, sought refuge in this notorious slum of the Lugu region. This woman, alone and destitute, begged on the streets. She even slept with vagrants. She was always fearful, as if hiding from someone. Until one day, she gave birth in the street. The child was out of place in the stench of Lugu. That little angel had eyes like emeralds. The mild season passed, and the bitter winter arrived. The child fell ill from the cold. The woman, penniless, was forced to deceive the village doctor to save her child. 12 years later, following a clue, Anna found this place. I came specifically because I heard your mother is very ill. Korea anxiously clutched at the woman's skirt. My mama is very sick. Korea turned to run and find her mother. Suddenly, a hand appeared from behind, knocking her unconscious. A guard caught the kidnapped girl. A 12-year-old, she's so light. Anna's gaze darkened. She didn't want any commotion. Make sure the arrangements are handled discreetly. What about the girl's mother? The mere mention of the woman irritated her. Fires are common in slums like this, aren't they? The guard felt a chill. I'm just joking. I simply hope she doesn't remain well. Let's go. And so, little Korea was torn from her mother. The slum girl, Korea, was brought to the Marquis's mansion. Half awake, she felt a comforting warmth and softness. Is this heaven? A sudden noise startled her awake. What was that? He turned his head and saw a beautiful woman looking at him anxiously. Are you all right? She asked. Everything around him felt unfamiliar. Unlike the shabby slums, this place was large and bright, magnificent and grand. Is this heaven? He wondered aloud. His innocent question made the woman chuckle. Are you hungry? Eat something first, she offered. Oh, it's a little hot. Eat slowly. Looking at the plentiful food before him, Korea's stomach rumbled. It made him think of his mother. A very beautiful woman had said his mother was sick. Why aren't you eating? Aren't you hungry? Miss, Korea asked, where are we? My mother. Where's the beautiful woman I saw earlier? Betty soothed him. Have some porridge and a bath, and she'll come back to see you. A bath? What? Korea was oblivious to his own dirtiness. Betty stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. Just then, hurried footsteps sounded from outside the door. The door swung open with a bang. Betty, didn't I tell you to inform us immediately when Korea woke up? Korea stared at the young man before him. He looked like an angel. Hello, Korea. I'm Gylan Bell. He added, you're 12, right? Korea nodded shyly. I'm 15, 3 years older than you. I'm your older brother, right? Looking at the enthusiastic boy, Korea shrank back slightly. Please take me back to my mother. I didn't even tell her when I left. She must be so worried. He thought, perhaps mistakenly, that Gylan was his little brother. Korea looked at Betty with tear-filled eyes. Betty looked embarrassed. The lady is just making sure you eat, and she trailed off. I almost forgot. I need to bathe. Looking down at his dirty self, a stark contrast to the shining boy before him, Korea blushed. Can I take a bath? Of course. We'll go right now. Bath first, then food. But I don't know how to bathe. Don't worry, I'll help you. Betty excitedly took Korea's hand to lead him away. Suddenly, a violent cough erupted from behind them. It was Guylan. Betty dropped Korea's hand and rushed to the young man's side. Guylan coughed harder, blood spilling from his lips. Korea clutched his clothes in fear. Betty's cries brought a flurry of servants. Quickly, inform Lord Angar. Towels! Bring towels! Before being carried away, Guylan looked deeply at Korea. It was as if he was telling him not to be afraid. Moments later, the servants carried Guylan away. Watching Betty's anxious form, Korea softly asked, "Will that brother die?" Betty whirled around at his words. She saw Korea clutching his lips, tears silently streaming down his face. He was clearly terrified. Betty softly reassured him. "No, he won't. Really. Let's go and get you bathed. It'll be bedtime soon." "Okay, miss," Korea said, gripping Betty's hand tightly, as if drawing strength from her. The splash of crimson on the bedsheet was a stark reminder. "Will he be all right?" he worried silently. Still reeling from the horrific sight of the angelic boy coughing up blood, Korea, barely recovered from his fear, was brought to Lady Anna's room. He faced the beautiful woman's scrutinizing gaze. Korea was cautious. He bowed respectfully to the lady. "Much better after a wash," she observed. He thanked her profusely for the delicious food, but all he wanted was to see his mother. At his words, Korea felt enveloped by the icy aura emanating from the lady. Sensing his fear, Lady Anna smiled and extended a hand towards him, beckoning him closer. Though afraid, he steeled himself and approached her, desperate to see his mother. "Korea," Lady Anna began, her voice chillingly calm. "I'm sorry, but you won't be seeing your mother again." Korea's pupils contracted sharply at her words. "Your mother committed a grave crime. She stole something very precious." Korea couldn't believe his ears. The thought of never seeing his mother again was unbearable. Despair washed over him, his eyes welling with tears. "Your mother, she stole something irreplaceable from me, and now it's gone forever. So, she must be punished. Don't you agree?" As Lady Anna's composure began to fray, Korea, in a surge of desperate courage, clutched at her skirt. "I'll find it for you. Maybe you just misplaced it." Huge tears streamed down his face as he spoke. "My mother isn't a thief." At his defiant words, Lady Anna's hesitation vanished. She gestured, and a servant, Betty, immediately presented a delicate box to Korea. Inside lay a pair of sharp scissors. Korea's eyes widened as Lady Anna picked them up. What she said next would change his life forever. "Korea Bell," she declared, "from now on, as long as you live as Korea Bell, both you and your mother will be safe. I promise you that. But I'm Korea, not from today onwards. You are Korea Bell. Short hair will suit you, Lien." And so, as Korea watched in stunned silence, his beautiful, long hair was cut off. Unable to process the shock, Korea curled up into a small ball, gasping for breath. Kind Betty comforted him daily. Lien's mother isn't being punished. She's receiving treatment. The lady isn't a bad person. So, as long as you're obedient, you'll see Laura. At the name Laura, Korea's eyes snapped open. "You know my mother?" Betty smiled. "Of course. And this is your father's house, too." It was the first time Korea had heard anyone mention his father. He followed Betty's gaze to a large portrait hanging on the wall. The man in the painting had the same hair color and the same sorrowful eyes as Korea. He remembered his mother's words. "Your father has beautiful, pale golden hair and striking emerald green eyes. Lien looks just like his father." "Mother, what is going on?" Korea's presence here was solely to be a replica of Guylan Bell. They really did look alike. Korea, who should have been living in the slums, now stood in the Marquis's mansion, disguised as a boy. He was the Bell family's hidden daughter, brought here because his half-brother, Guylan, was gravely ill. No one knew when Guylan might die, and the vast Bell family couldn't be without an heir. Until Guylan recovered, Korea had to live as Korea Bell. This was the price of seeing his mother again. Apparently, a noble family without an heir was looked down upon by others. And so, Korea, a girl, was being raised as a boy. If anything happened to Guylan, the Bell family would have a successor. After all, he was still the Marquis's child. They look so much alike, but Korea is almost too pretty. The moment he saw his father's portrait last night, he'd suspected. Perhaps his mother hadn't stolen an object at all. Everything here was so complicated. He wasn't sure that Lady Anna would really return him to his mother, even if he obeyed. This place, filled with flowers and opulent decorations, was a world away from the Lugu region. A sudden gunshot startled him. What was happening? He looked towards the sound and saw a young man lowering a gun. He seemed quite pleased with his performance. Sensing the weight of the situation, the young Kuria turned back. Such a handsome older brother. Such a beautiful younger brother. Their paths intertwined in the midst of it all. Just then, Guylan appeared as if from nowhere. Kuria bowed respectfully to his brother. He was met with a crushing embrace. You're finally out of your room. You have no idea how worried I've been. Kuria could barely breathe in his brother's tight hug. Guylan finally released him. He enthusiastically introduced his younger brother to Claude. Hearing the affectionate tone, Kuria abruptly pushed him away. Claude had approached him unnoticed. Kuria hesitated for a moment. Looking up, he met Claude's gaze. Claude studied the young boy before him. He gave a slight humph, and turned away. What did that mean? The young man picked up his gun again, broke off a piece of earplug, and gestured for Kuria to cover his ears. Kuria didn't understand. Claude had to verbally tell him to cover his ears. Though unsure why, Kuria obediently complied. Only then did the young man smile. Remembering the previous loud bang, Kuria flinched and covered his ears. Claude loaded, aimed, and fired in one fluid motion. Bang, bang, bang. Birds scattered from the trees. The delicate scent of lavender mingled with the sharp tang of gunpowder. This was Kuria's first impression of Claude. Don't you find it unsettling, suddenly having another brother? Why unsettling? Because it's proof of deception. Guylan placed the gun on the table and spoke calmly. Deception comes at a price. My brother, Lien, has already paid a heavy price for deception. Tension hung thick in the air. Neither of them yielded. Regardless, I'm happy to have another brother. You needn't worry, Claude. Despite their similar appearance, Kuria was nothing like Guylan in other respects. Watching Kuria diligently practicing pronunciation, Claude smirked. This kid's a bit gloomy. Kuria, a girl from the slums, was abducted by the Marchioness without warning and forced to become the young master of the Bell family. To properly impersonate Guylan, her brother, she diligently studied reading and arithmetic. But without her mother, she couldn't eat or sleep well. Guylan noticed Kuria's weight loss. He'd heard she was performing well in her lessons. Instead of praise, Lady Anna offered only snide remarks about how she wasn't as good as her son, Guylan. Guylan disagreed. Kuria had only started lessons a week ago. Such progress was commendable. He felt his mother shouldn't put so much pressure on his brother. Seeing her son constantly defending an outsider, Anna's anger flared. It seemed she would have to speak with Kuria privately when Guylan wasn't around. Kuria kept her head down throughout, silent. Only after Lady Anna left did she slowly raise her head to look at her angelic brother, who had finally returned to school. Guylan told her about his encounter with Claude. Claude, it turned out, was the young master of the Ihar dukedom, the ruling family of the Northern Territories. They were the same age. Kuria thought he seemed incredibly handsome, but also terrifying. Guylan enthusiastically invited her to hunt with them next time. Kuria immediately refused, having never touched a gun before. It's all right. Everyone has a first time. A commotion erupted outside the door. The young Marquis has returned. Hearing that their father was back, Guylan sprang from his chair. They ran out to find the servants lined up, ready to greet the lord of the castle. Guylan was the apple of his father's eye. He doted on his son. Kuria stood at a distance. Kuria felt only a sense of estrangement towards the man before him, his father. The Marquis, noticing Kuria, quickly lowered his head, startled. Kuria felt a growing unease as his father approached. The Marquis crouched down before him, calling his name. Kuria timidly looked up to see his father holding out his arms, beckoning him closer. He hesitated for a moment, then, with tentative steps, slowly walked towards his father. In the next instant, he was enveloped in a warm embrace. His father gently ruffled his hair, and a strange, unfamiliar feeling welled up inside him. Tears began to well up in his eyes. Welcome home, Carrion. What the Marquis didn't know was that Kuria was already weeping silently. I was told it was a girl, but the Carrion I see is dressed as a boy. How can my lady dress a girl as a boy? We don't need a daughter. He only needs to pretend until Guylan recovers. For the sake of the family, I only hope he can temporarily serve as a stand-in. For the family's benefit. That's truly cruel. What's truly cruel is that the Marquis could show such affection to a child born of. I initially thought the Marquis's affair was just a fling. I believed he would soon come to his senses. But just as Guylan was learning to walk, that woman's belly began to swell. Because she might have been carrying his son, the servants started to cater to her whims. And the day Guylan had his accident, I felt like the sky was falling. I'm certain that woman was to blame. Because the woman was pregnant, I could only send her away. I will never forgive her for what she did to me. And from that day on, Guylan has been inching closer to death. The Marquis now only wanted to know how Carrion's mother was doing. But how could Lady Anna tell him? She wished the woman dead. A sturdy man leaned down to comfort his wife. He swore on the family's honor that he would never forgive that woman. Curia, who should have been attending tea parties in pretty dresses, now stood alone in the snow, tasting snowflakes, in his role as the young master of the Marquis's house. It turned out that to become a suitable replacement, he had to live as a boy. Snow began to fall from the sky. In contrast to the children's excitement, the adults wore somber expressions. Marilyn, let's go outside. Marilyn quickly declined the princess's invitation, claiming it was too cold outside. In reality, he was simply afraid that being with the princess would make him seem childish. He feared his childish side would be revealed to the princess he admired, his secret crush exposed. Marilyn suddenly felt embarrassed and angry. A commotion outside caught the princess's attention. It was the arrival of her favorite boy band. The princess excitedly pressed her face against the window pane. Marilyn casually joined her at the window. His gaze quickly settled on Claude. But Claude was looking in another direction. Following his line of sight, he saw a small boy, thinly dressed, looking up at the sky. Everyone wondered what he was doing. He seemed to be tasting the snow. The noble women began to murmur amongst themselves. Lady Anna, feeling he was disgracing the Marquis's family, sharply ordered a servant to bring Lien back inside. The princess, however, was intrigued by the little boy. Lady Anna plastered a smile on her face as she answered the princess's questions. The 12-year-old princess was 3 years younger than Guylan. Marilyn now deeply regretted refusing the princess's invitation to play outside, although they looked very much alike. The perceptive princess still had her suspicions. Is that child really a boy? Lady Anna's heart skipped a beat. He's so pretty. Anyone would believe he's a girl. Having lived for so many years, Lady Anna had seen it all. Princess Marilyn offered a bright, practiced smile. Many people have said that. Not receiving the answer she desired, she scoffed and turned away. After all, his eyes held only her brother, Guylan, and Claude. He truly was gentle. Watching Duke Claude take Curia's hand, Marilyn nearly dropped her plate. Why? Even though he was a boy, was he so beautiful? Several days had passed since she first met Curia. After the royal tea party, Claude went alone to the shooting range. He was there to meet someone. From afar, he could hear the Bell brothers bickering. The moment Curia saw Claude, her heart sank. Until that moment, she hadn't known that Duke Claude would be her instructor today. Now, she felt like crying. But Claude didn't respond, instead lifting a rifle and examining it. May I ask you a question? Why do you always imitate me? Curia hadn't expected her intentions to be discovered. Her face flushed crimson. She was just curious. Curious about what? The taste of snow. Thinking of this, Claude couldn't help but chuckle. Isn't that something only vagrants do? He handed her the rifle. Before Curia could even react, Claude was already behind her. So what does snow taste like? Answer me, Curia. Quickly, they were standing far too close. Curia felt her heart pounding in her chest. She was both nervous and afraid. Her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. In her panic, the rifle discharged. Curia's eyes widened in horror as she watched the bullet fly wildly off course. And at Duke Claude's hand, which he hadn't had time to pull away, now grazed and burned. Her mind went blank. Seeing Claude injured, everyone cried out in alarm, yelling for a doctor. But Claude calmly said, "It's not necessary." The attendant's faces paled. "It's just a small burn. There's no need for fuss." Then, he heard a soft sob behind him. Turning, he saw Curia crying. He started to ask if she was hurt. "Why are you crying?" But Curia didn't answer. Instead, she knelt in the snow, frantically packing a snowball, oblivious to her freezing hands. Claude was utterly confused. A moment later, Curia grabbed his injured hand and pressed the snowball against the burn. Whether from the cold or fear, Curia trembled. The thought of having injured such an important person and the punishment she might receive made her squeeze her eyes shut in terror. After a long moment, she whispered, "Please forgive me. It was all my fault." Just then, Marilyn and the others arrived. Marilyn anxiously pushed Curia aside. Taking out her handkerchief, she grasped Claude's injured hand. "I've already sent someone for a doctor." Princess Rosina had also followed. Guylan politely greeted her. Claude, disliking Marilyn, immediately pulled his hand away. Marilyn turned and glared at Kuria, scolding her. You idiot! You're too young to be handling such a dangerous thing as a gun. How could you be so careless? Kuria flinched back, terrified. Suddenly, a large hand landed on her shoulder. Are you yelling at my brother? Kuria's body trembled, but he hurt Duke Claude's hand. Guylan's face darkened. He spoke slowly, each word precise. So, I ask you again, are you yelling at my brother? Marilyn, startled, admitted her outburst and quickly apologized to Guylan. Guylan, however, pulled Kuria closer. You should be apologizing not to me, but to my brother. His voice softened. Kuria apologized to his grace. Under Claude's gaze, Kuria bowed deeply, forcing herself to maintain composure. I'm sorry, Duke Claude. Kuria's sincerity brought a sense of relief to Guylan. Marilyn, however, remained deeply troubled. A clear laugh suddenly rang out, and Marilyn's handkerchief fluttered to the ground. Sensing Duke Claude drawing closer, Kuria abruptly looked up. Claude extended his injured hand. Do it again. Kuria didn't understand what he meant. Do it again like just now. Kuria's shot had been far more powerful than a simple snowball. During his first shooting lesson, the young Kuria had accidentally injured the esteemed Duke Claude. Even though he had apologized sincerely, the Duke showed no sign of holding him accountable. He still endured the scorn of the other nobles. Small and vulnerable, he was struck to the ground by his mother's hand. Simply for inadvertently mingling with the nobles, he had somehow threatened Guylan's position. No matter how he tried to explain, his mother remained unforgiving. His wide, round eyes filled with disbelief. He couldn't believe his mother could utter such cruel words. You have the nerve to cry? How pathetic. Remember this. All you need to do is stay alive. If you dare steal Guylan's spotlight again, I will not spare you. These words, every single one, reached Claude, standing just outside the door. He found it absurd. The victim himself hadn't pursued the matter. What was this so-called mother so agitated about? Outside, the snow fell heavily. The faint sound of child's sobs carried on the wind. It was Kuria, punished by Lady Anna. He wasn't allowed inside. At this moment, he desperately longed for his real mother. Suddenly, a dark shadow fell over him. Someone was approaching. He looked up sharply. It was the injured Duke Claude. Claude crouched down beside Kuria and, mimicking Kuria's earlier actions, packed a snowball. He placed it gently against Kuria's swollen cheek. The Duke's unexpected gesture startled Kuria. Both their hearts began to race. So, this is what it feels like. The experience ended. Claude stood, brushing the snow from his hands, and turned to leave without another word. The vast garden was once again empty, leaving Kuria alone, as if the Duke had never been there. The Marquis, upon learning of the incident, argued with Lady Anna. Kuria is our child too. Slapping him was too much, but Anna insisted that she had punished Kuria for the sake of the Bell family. If he doesn't make any more mistakes, I certainly won't hit him again. If it were Guylan who had disgraced the Bell family's honor, I would have done the same. The family could be ruined by a child's mistake. It was the most ridiculous thing the Marquis had ever heard. He didn't know who was truly disgracing the family. With that, the Marquis stormed out. It turned out that a diamond mine had been discovered in the neutral northern territories. If the Emperor didn't intervene, the mine would belong to Princess Ahar, and the Kingdom of Joar was already making moves. Even if it was just to counter their machinations, the Bell family needed to support the Duke and strengthen their forces. Just then, a servant rushed in with urgent news for the Marquis. Guylan was gravely ill. He was having difficulty breathing. Kuria, after injuring Duke Claude and being punished by his mother, was kneeling in the snow when news arrived of his brother's critical condition. By the time the Marquis arrived, Guylan had lost consciousness. Even the Empire's finest medicines were proving useless. This was practically a death sentence for Guylan. Just as everyone was at their wits' end, Claude appeared. He proposed crossing the neutral territories to reach Greer. Apparently, the greatest physician, Dimitri Danner, as far as the Marquis knew, was the royal physician of Sergio. But what he didn't know was that the physician was indebted to Duke Ahar, and Claude was unwilling to lose his close friend. Hearing a glimmer of hope, Lady Anna clung to it like a lifeline. As long as it could save her child, she was willing to gamble everything. Please, consider it carefully. Upon leaving, Claude saw Kuria standing alone against the wall. It turned out she wasn't even allowed to offer a greeting. How old are you? 12. Have you gone to the academy yet? I study with Master Tydo. Well, then we'll have to wait until you're older. We won't be able to see each other until you're in the upper grades. For years past like this, one sunny morning, Korea's hair had grown long again. Her greatest joy was playing freely in the water. This worried the maids, who pleaded, "Young master, please come out. The sun is so beautiful. How can you not swim?" It turned out their mistress would be returning soon. They absolutely couldn't let her see Korea with long hair. At times like these, Korea was always compliant. Because of her striking beauty, the maids were always infatuated with her. But she just wanted to be a beautiful young man in peace. Even this small request couldn't be fulfilled. At this moment, she thought of her brother again. He had gone to study abroad in Greer for his health, but it was a necessary lie to cover the true reason for his absence. For 4 years, she hadn't received any news of Guylan or Duke Claude, but only if Guylan returned healthy could she return to her true home. Just then, a servant announced, "Young master, someone from the academy is here." Simply because she was so beautiful and a boy, she had gained a reputation at a young age. Even the teachers at the academy were impressed. Because she was disguised as a boy, her family had repeatedly postponed Korea's enrollment. But upon learning of the opportunity to study in the capital, she couldn't sit still any longer. "Father, I want to enroll." Using the pretense of family honor, she successfully obtained her father's approval. "Then I'll arrange a residence for you near the academy." Korea's eyes lit up. With the matter settled, the delegation from the academy prepared to leave. But among the crowd, an inconspicuous man with a handlebar mustache repeatedly scanned Korea's name. In truth, her insistence on going to the capital had another, deeper reason. The Donlu Kingdom was in the capital, and her mother was in the Donlu Kingdom. This was her last chance to find her mother. As she daydreamed about the future, a dark shadow fell over her. She had seen this man before. He was her future alchemy teacher. The man's name was Eddie, and he was currently looking at her with a disturbingly appraising gaze. Korea felt uncomfortable under his scrutiny. Excessive beauty often invited trouble, not just for humans. It's the same for all living things. As he spoke, his large hand rubbed against Korea's shoulder. No matter where you go, there will always be people who dislike you. You need to be careful, pampered young noble. Because she was a girl, the Marquis wouldn't allow her to travel to the capital alone. He arranged for a maid, Pepe, to accompany her. "You've wanted me to wear a dress for a long time, haven't you? Let's try it when we get to the capital." The reason was simple. She was afraid her mother wouldn't recognize her dressed as a boy. The capital was both prosperous and bustling. It was nothing like she had imagined. So, he had never left the Lu territory before, only because his mother had always warned him of the dangers beyond. They soon arrived at their destination. Before anything else, Korea needed to be fitted for a school uniform. "Wait, let me show Korea the way," said the Crown Prince. "It's been a while, Marquis." "In Korea," he greeted. Invoking his father, the Emperor, the Crown Prince insisted on personally escorting Korea to the fitting platform. The Crown Prince's unannounced entrance irked the shop owner. After all, there were other customers present. He claimed, however, that he was merely guiding a lost customer. "Look who it is. Claude." "Hello," someone called out. Korea realized the previous customer was Duke Claude. It was Korea's turn for fitting, but Claude showed no sign of leaving. The shop owner then asked Korea to remove her shirt. Korea's current shirt was too large, though dignified and elegant. But a well-fitting uniform was crucial for the academy. Such a loose garment was clearly unsuitable. "At this rate, I'll be discovered sooner or later. Could you please draw the curtain?" Korea requested. Since this was her father's recommended shop, Korea felt completely at ease. Claude, however, seemed perplexed by the request for privacy. Though embarrassed, Korea removed her shirt, revealing her fair skin. The old shop owner was stunned. She was clearly a young girl. In her quest to find her birth mother, Korea had resolutely come to the capital to study. An elegant uniform was essential for the academy. She had come to the royal tailor shop and unexpectedly encountered someone she hadn't seen in 4 years. Would her true identity as a girl be exposed? Fortunately, the shop owner, Frank, a discreet man, didn't expose her secret. He even crafted a perfectly fitting shirt for her. Compared to the conspicuousness of a loose shirt, a well-fitted one was far less likely to attract attention. The Crown Prince, seeing Frank's attentiveness to a customer for the first time, couldn't resist teasing him. He then invited Korea to visit his palace. This led to the current situation. Unable to ride a horse, Korea was forced to share a mount with Claude. This close proximity flushed her cheeks crimson. Duke Claude leaned closer. "You should be laughing, Korea. Don't look like I've kidnapped you." Korea blushed even deeper. Why is the road to the palace so long? She wondered, feeling both awed and apprehensive on her first visit. The palace is magnificent, and you two are friends of my brother, the crown prince remarked. Claude, however, responded sarcastically. His tendency to flatter irritated Korea. Seeing this, the crown prince rushed to comfort her, but Claude stepped in front of him. Apparently, the crown prince had teased someone in a similar manner before. He appreciated beauty in all forms, including men. This had led to a humiliating experience for the person involved. There was no need for Korea to suffer the same fate. Besides, Korea was exceptionally beautiful and would undoubtedly attract unwanted attention. The crown prince seemed unconcerned. Korea found both of them exasperating. She turned and walked away briskly. I wasn't flattering anyone, she called back. I was being considerate of their feelings, Your Highness. I don't expect to gain anything by flattering people. With that, she hurried past Claude. This series of actions amused him greatly. How interesting, he mused. Korea and the others arrived at the crown prince's palace. Looking at the array of exquisite pastries, her stomach rumbled. Claude couldn't stand it any longer. Don't just stare, he said. Korea replied haughtily. I'm admiring their beauty. But the crown prince saw right through her. Korea locked up and rode over in a carriage. You haven't eaten yet, have you? These two are devils, aren't they? Doesn't Korea care about saving face? Well, I suppose I could manage a bite. The crown prince took a skewer of grilled squid and placed it on her plate. Hesitantly, she took a small bite and chewed slowly. The next second, her eyes lit up. How can anything be this delicious? Princess Rashina is finally getting engaged to Korea's brother, Gailan. Clearly, she had no idea. Perhaps it was normal that they hadn't told her. After all, she wouldn't have been invited to that sort of event. Sensing Korea's discomfort, Claude cleared his throat. The Marchioness has been staying in the north. It's perfectly understandable that Korea hasn't heard the news, simply because she wasn't skilled at riding. The young master was forced to share a horse with Duke Claude. Her face flushed crimson. Just now, from the crown prince's lips, she had unexpectedly learned of her brother's impending engagement. The realization hit her. In this family, she was still an outsider. Just then, Claude, who had been silent for a while, suddenly spoke. The Marchioness has been staying in the north. It's perfectly understandable that Korea hasn't heard the news, just as she was feeling grateful for Duke Claude's consideration for her supposed ignorance. You and I both seem rather hungry, so eat quickly. Korea broke out in a cold sweat. What on earth was going on in this man's head? I know, so Duke Claude doesn't starve. I'll just reveal myself, she said, stuffing her mouth with food. Claude finally offered a satisfied smile. Seeing Korea eating like a little kitten, Claude reached out, intending to wipe her face, but changed his course. He gently grasped her chin. I greatly anticipate Korea Bell's loyalty. It was certainly beyond imagination. As dusk settled, Korea was the first to leave. Her deliberate avoidance of the noble's advances and the flustered reactions she displayed when caught off guard all seemed so endearing to Claude. Wait, I actually find a man endearing. I must be mad. This masterclass performance of feminine disguise left the crown prince utterly bewildered. It seems Duke Claude is quite fond of Korea, the crown prince stated frankly. I appreciate all things beautiful, just as I'm fond of Claude and Gailan, for the same reason. Don't give him too much trouble. Perhaps, as you say, Korea is merely a substitute for Gailan, but sooner or later, he will be mine. Seeing Claude's continued silence, the crown prince rose to leave. It seems the banquet is about to begin. The main purpose of this banquet was to find a suitable crown princess for the prince. Claude recommended Marilyn, the young lady from the Selby Marquis. The crown prince froze. Isn't Marilyn your fiancée? Everyone knows you're supposed to be engaged to Miss Selby. The mere mention of it vexed him. He simply didn't care for Marilyn. Korea hadn't been feeling well since returning from the palace. It turned out she'd simply overeaten and had indigestion. Knowing this, her father didn't force her to attend the banquet. Hearing this, Korea breathed a sigh of relief. She truly disliked such occasions. With her father gone, she could finally rest properly. Free from the troublesome charade, she felt alive again. At that moment, all she wanted was some fresh air. So she opened the window. enjoying the breeze and savoring a sweet. The feeling was exquisite. Her mother was somewhere just beyond the city walls. Just as she was agonizing over whether her mother would recognize her, a woman's voice drifted up from below. Looking down, she saw a beautiful woman beside Claude. She had met this woman before, as a child. It was Marilyn, the daughter of the Selby Marquis. Shouldn't we be getting engaged, too? Claude said with a look of displeasure. There are plenty of good men in the Empire. Plenty of men with small eyes, too. But none can compare to Ahar's beard. She tossed out the words and turned to flee. At that moment, Korea wanted nothing more than to disappear. It seemed she had seen something she shouldn't have. Just as she was tiptoeing towards the window, ready to close it and escape, the candy she held in her arms slipped. Korea's eyes widened in alarm. The word careful barely reached Claude's ears before the sky began to rain candy. And there, not far off, was that familiar figure. In the next instant, he was caught in a sweet, sticky downpour. Looking at the sugar-coated Korea, Claude's face darkened. So there you are. The only response he received was the resounding slam of a closing window. The sky fell silent once more. While Duke Claude was being subjected to a forced marriage proposal, the young master was upstairs enjoying the spectacle. Then, suddenly, the sky rained candy. After experiencing the sugary onslaught, Duke Claude spotted the sugar-coated Korea. His face darkened instantly. Finally found you. So, there you were. In her panic, Korea ducked into a nearby room, worried that Claude might come looking for her. She froze when she saw the undergarments on the floor. Claude must not see these. A rapid knocking startled her. She turned to see Claude already barging in. You showered me with candy, and you're hiding in here? At this point, Korea was beyond caring about the candy. Her undergarments were clutched tightly in her hand. The most pressing issue was how to dispose of them. Muttering a random excuse, she tossed them aside. My stomach hurts, and you think I can eat candy? They're too sweet. I only had a few. Watching the flustered Korea, Claude calmly patted the sofa. Come here. Korea stiffened. Had he figured it out? She swallowed nervously. I need to confirm something. Come here. But Korea remained rooted to the spot, clutching her secret, making no move to approach him. Seeing this, Claude's expression softened. You really do think I'm a villain. In truth, Korea's reluctance stemmed from the insecurity of being without her undergarments. You need to be careful around the Crown Prince. He likes beautiful and dazzling things, regardless of gender, regardless of social standing. Don't let anyone pressure you into marrying him. Keep a safe distance. And your voice is very pleasant. The unexpected compliment brought a blush to her cheeks. She coughed, trying to dispel the awkwardness. Suddenly, something occurred to her. Claude, with his impeccable posture and tall, slender frame, sharp eyebrows, long, thick lashes, straight nose, and thin, firm lips, exuded an aura of natural nobility. If the Crown Prince likes beautiful things, shouldn't you be the one to be careful, Duke Claude? Claude's expression cleared. Because I think you're more beautiful than anyone. The words barely left his mouth before he turned and fled into the bathroom. He couldn't explain why he'd uttered such an embarrassing confession. His heart pounded in his chest. Then, a chuckle echoed from the other room. It was Claude. Are you trying to toy with me? The only response was the loud bang of the closing door. Looking at the shirt Korea had dropped on the floor, he inexplicably picked it up. Compared to his own, it was incredibly small. The faint scent of lavender emanating from above curved Claude's lips into a pleasing crescent moon shape. Just then, the sound of rushing water came from the bathroom. This kid really has no sense of security. When Korea finished his bath and came out, the room had become quite bright. Just as he was wondering about the unfamiliar light, he heard whispering sounds near his ear. Turning his head, he saw Claude and a group of maids. A short while later, Claude got up. He saw Korea following him out. He smiled brightly. Have a pleasant evening, he said, looking very happy. But this only caused Claude displeasure. It was only when they were parting that Korea ever showed him such a nice smile. But thinking back on how Korea looked fresh from the bath, Claude decided this evening had been quite pleasant after all. The beautiful Korea, living in the Marquis's treasury, possessed beautiful, pale golden hair and a pair of emerald green eyes. Yet, he was forced to live as the young master of the Marquis. His older half-brother, Guylan, was seriously ill. The family needed a replacement for Guylan, and Korea was the unlucky one. During the 4 years his brother had been abroad, no matter how many letters he sent, he never received a reply. It turned out that the Marchioness had been obstructing their correspondence. missing his sister terribly. Guyland sought a reliable helper. The man's name was Ian Segrio, the third prince of the kingdom of Jor. Over the past 4 years, they had become the best of friends. Guyland entrusted the letters to him, asking him to send them to his sister, Korea. He had long wanted to meet the angelic sister his friend raved about. "All right, I'll deliver it to your sister," Ian said. "To be precise, I'll deliver it to your sister Korea's hands." By the time Guyland reacted to Ian's presumptuous plan, Ian was nowhere to be seen on the stool. As Guyland watched in utter shock, Ian vaulted out the window and ran off with the letters. Just then, Anada's voice called out. Guyland felt a lump in his throat when he thought of his mother, who had caused a disruption in communication between him and his sister. He was grateful that this foreigner was so close to his son. However, due to political reasons, Anada didn't want Guyland to be close to Ian. Although Guyland always obeyed his mother verbally in Anada's eyes, her son was indeed drifting further and further away from her. In order for his mother to recognize him, Korea had to wear a girl's outfit. However, due to the recent crimes targeting noble women in the capital, although Korea looked like a boy, he could still be mistaken for a young lady at first glance. Betty was worried about her parents, but this didn't faze the highly intelligent Korea. He made up an excuse about a gift and successfully convinced Betty. "All right, then I'll go prepare the carriage. But you must be careful." She looked up, but the two were already gone. They were now galloping freely down the street. Meanwhile, outside the Selby Marquis, soldiers surrounded the area. It turned out that Marilyn had been poisoned by an unknown assailant last night and was currently lying in bed, unconscious. His Highness will personally lead the royal guard to arrest the culprit. We will severely punish them. Please don't worry. The one leading the troops this time was Duke Claude. The culprit's identity had been confirmed. He was a revolutionary dissatisfied with the class system. He excused himself and left, leaving the crown prince standing there alone, bewildered. The streets were bustling with people. He happened to pass by a candy store. Thinking back to the last time Korea scattered candy everywhere, a slight smile played on Claude's lips. Was a face full of candy really that shocking? Was that expression really necessary? He mused. Korea, strolling along, suddenly stopped. It seemed he'd spotted a familiar face. However, this didn't interrupt their shopping trip. Korea was most interested in clothes. "Don't we need a dress for our play?" he thought, his gaze fixed on a dress displayed in a shop window. Would Betty like this? He wondered, his attention then caught by some noble young ladies passing by. He sighed inwardly. I should be like them, wearing beautiful dresses, strolling with friends, enjoying afternoon tea. But I suppose that will never happen. Just as this melancholic thought settled, a man's voice called out to him. Korea froze, every muscle tensing. The man had clearly called him Korea. Aside from a few close confidants, no one knew his true identity. He'd certainly never met this stranger before. Hesitantly, he stammered, "You've mistaken me for someone else." But the man was insistent. "Impossible. You must be Guyland's younger sister." The siblings did bear a striking resemblance. It took Korea a moment to remember to ask who the man was. The stranger, however, remained coy. "I'm here to eat shaved ice with you," he declared, leading Korea to a popular dessert shop. In contrast to Korea's apprehension, the man was practically buzzing with excitement. Korea, on the other hand, was about to melt from the heat. He suggested they sit on the patio, but Korea quickly refused. His companion's flamboyant foreign attire was far too conspicuous. Ironically, Ian thought Korea, in his male disguise, was even more so. Korea was exasperated. "I am a boy," he insisted. His brother was clearly playing a joke on him. But to Ian, who knew the truth, it didn't matter. Calming down, Korea's thoughts turned to his brother. "How is he?" he asked. "Of course. Guyland has been waiting for news from you," Ian replied. "He said he's never received a reply from you." In truth, Ian knew their mother, Anada, had been intercepting the letters. "But Guyland is desperately worried about his sister, so he asked me to deliver this." "You need to eat quickly so I can get back," Ian urged. Korea was bewildered by Ian's insistence on calling him Korea. He raised a hand to decline being fed, but Ian seemed even more delighted, continuing to call him Korea with every other breath. "Guyland will be returning to the capital soon. You can give him your reply yourself then," Ian said, placing the letter in Korea's hand. Staring at the letter, Korea felt a flicker of apprehension. If his brother returned healthy, what would become of him? Could he truly return to being Korea again? He glanced at the seemingly oblivious girl across from him. Ian, still grinning, remarked, "What a charming young lady." "I am Korea," Korea insisted. "Korea, I invite you to I'll send a formal invitation as soon as I return. You must come. I'm eager to see you in a dress." With that, he gently took Korea's hand and bestowed a proper kiss upon it. Korea, staring at the letter, was lost in thought. How should he reply? Suddenly, a plate of delicate pastries appeared before him. It was Betty. She had brought 5 new dresses for him, and Pepe had arrived as well. "I heard you went out for ice cream with a rare foreigner," Betty said, her tone laced with concern. "You should be more careful when you go out alone without me. Don't you know what happened to Lady Marilyn? You must be more cautious, especially now. What if something happened to you while I wasn't there to protect you?" Seeing Betty's genuine worry, Korea reassured her, "I bought Pepe a dress to thank him for accompanying me to the capital. He deserves it." As always, Betty was the first to concede. He could never win an argument against her. Then, a sudden question popped into Korea's mind. "How did the Count's family find me 4 years ago?" Betty's hands, busy arranging the dresses, paused. "Master, why do you ask so suddenly?" "It was because of a servant who ran into Laura. Madam has already married her off." As soon as these words were spoken, Cadian's face fell. Sometimes he wondered why that person had insisted on choosing him. It turned out that Jiayan's life had been in danger. With Anata busy every day, and the people around them gossiping about the sick Jiayan, everyone was discussing the issue of the heir. Relatives were putting pressure on Anata, wanting her to adopt one of their sons. But once he had an adoptive mother, even if Jiayan recovered, those covetous relatives wouldn't let him go. So they found Cadian, simply because he was expendable. That was the truth. Jiayan had recovered and would soon return to his original life. So he decided to tell Betty his true thoughts. He wanted to find his mother. He also wanted to know why the Marquis scholar had chosen him in the first place. This question had always troubled Lien. He finally took this opportunity to voice his doubts to Betty. But the moment he learned the cruel truth, he couldn't bear it any longer. He was going to find his mother, to reclaim Cadian's life. He rushed out of the room, ignoring Betty's pleas. He took off his shoes and neatly placed them aside, then jumped into the water. The truth was too much for him. He didn't want to think about it anymore. Only by immersing himself in the water could he find a moment's peace. The day was as beautiful as ever. He didn't want to escape from this place, but there was also someone he didn't want to leave. It was such a pity. Just then, a familiar male voice interrupted his thoughts. The moment he saw who it was, his pupils constricted. Why was His Grace Duke Claude here? Claude looked at him with a playful smile. "You really are interesting, Cadian. Is swimming your hobby?" He then started to take off his clothes. What was going on? Betty shook her head vigorously. She didn't know either. It turned out that Duke Claude had come to visit Jiayan, but had gotten the date wrong. He happened to see Cadian swimming. "It's been a while since I've gone for a swim. I'll join you." Cadian's face paled. His undergarments were visible in the water. What if Claude noticed? Claude, completely oblivious to Cadian's panic, dove into the water without waiting for a response. The splashing water hit Lien's face. When he opened his eyes again, Claude was already behind him. "This is my first time swimming with you." Cadian was submerged in the water, his undergarments faintly visible. He fearfully covered his chest with his hands. This action caught Claude's attention. He dove underwater. When he opened his eyes again, Claude was already behind him. "This is my first time swimming with you." Lien panicked and plunged underwater. He had to escape immediately, but Claude caught his hand. He looked back questioningly and saw Claude giving him a charming but threatening look. His heart pounded. He used all his strength to break free from Claude's grasp. In his panic, he accidentally opened his mouth. The intense discomfort forced him to surface. Seeing the girl choking and sputtering, Betty was very worried, but Claude mocked him for his poor diving skills. Lien was instantly furious. "It's because you suddenly grabbed me. Then I'll give you another chance." Lien wasn't falling for it. He turned and left, leaving Claude alone in the water, looking bewildered. Betty worriedly draped a shawl over Lien. Looking back, she saw Claude calmly getting out of the water and walking past her sit on the camping chair. She sighed deeply. "Come sit and rest. You could do that much, can't you?" After much hesitation, Korea obediently complied. "You don't need to be so bundled up in this weather. You shouldn't catch a cold now." Korea bit her lip, fearing she might cry. The strange fellow, Claude, muttered this and drifted off to sleep. Just as Korea was about to leave, Claude called out to her. "How about I stay awake and play with you instead of sleeping? Don't tease me. I'm not a child. You're a child. I'm 16, you know." Yes, he's 16, Korea thought, and Galen will be back soon. Then, Claude suddenly asked about Korea's plans. According to noble law, second sons couldn't inherit any property. It'll be too late if you wait until after graduating from the academy to find work. I'll take care of it myself, Korea replied. Come work as a steward for the Hall family. I'll take you in. Korea was utterly bewildered. She had always thought Duke Claude disliked her. Besides, she had other aspirations. I haven't decided yet, but it won't be as a steward. Although I don't know what you want to do, it certainly won't pay as well as being a steward. The money doesn't matter, Korea insisted. What matters is being able to do what I want to do. Her gaze was resolute as she spoke, leaving Claude at a loss for words. Only the rustling of leaves in the wind broke the silence. Korea, stop your chattering. Wake me up in an hour, Claude said, turning over and settling back down to sleep. Korea found Claude truly perplexing. He asked her a question, then refused to listen to her answer. I rode my horse here, and I'm a bit tired. I need to sleep for a while. Why don't you lie down too? Claude's handsome face and captivating smile sent a blush creeping up Korea's cheeks. She bit her lip, remaining silent. She was supposed to forget this place, yet beautiful, unforgettable things kept happening here. Things that happened while he slept. She couldn't fathom what he was thinking. Korea clutched the water pendant at her chest, then gently tucked it under Claude's head. Seeing the slight upward curve of his lips, she slowly withdrew her hand. Korea pulled her collar higher. A girl living as a boy for 4 years. The moment she learned the cruel truth, she resolved to leave this place. Yet beautiful, unforgettable things kept happening. How could she possibly bring herself to leave? Although Claude had been the one to suggest sleeping, Korea had fallen fast asleep as well. When she awoke, she was lying in bed. Night had fallen. Betty, what happened? How did I get here? It turned out she had fallen asleep outside, and Claude had carried her in. Her face flushed crimson. She was thankful Claude had left after bringing her back. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known how to face him. Korea ate her dinner absent-mindedly, worrying about her weight. Hearing Betty's reassurance that she was, in fact, lighter than before, she couldn't bring herself to feel happy. The next time they met, Claude would surely ask why a man was so easily moved to tears. Such sentimentality was common for adolescent girls. In truth, Korea now looked more like a graceful young woman. Anyone with eyes could see she wasn't a man. I heard young Master Guyland has recovered. How long do you intend to live like this? Betty, you're overstepping, Korea admonished. But Betty had a point. Even if Korea wanted to hide it, she couldn't forever. Prince Lian had expressed his anticipation of seeing her in women's clothing. Claude, too, had said that even he thought she looked, even if it was just to find her mother and return to a normal life. She couldn't afford to become entangled with those two any further. Soon after, Guyland returned, scooping Korea up in a hug the moment he saw her. Brother, you've changed so much. I almost didn't recognize you. You've grown up too, Guyland replied. Korea was stunned by her brother's newfound health. But Guyland's next words brought her crashing back to reality. Korea, you look just like a graceful young woman now. The Marquis had also returned with him. He simply gave his siblings a cold stare. When Korea tried to greet him, he turned and walked away. Talion, I have something to tell you. Come inside with me first. He gulped nervously, fear and helplessness swirling within him. Guyland, beside him, remained silent, his hand gripping Talion's tightly. Talion's golden eyes were wide. Let's go in. The setting sun cast a long shadow, making Guyland appear even taller. You've been apart for so long. You and Guyland are still so close. Have you been in contact privately? No, this is the first time we've seen each other in 4 years. So, the day after tomorrow, you're going to the capital? Yes, thanks to Mother's arrangements, I've been enrolled. Tidal spoke very highly of you. You've done well, Korea. Now you're qualified to have Guyland call you Hyungnim. Korea bit her lip, wanted to speak, but hesitating. Will you look for your mother when you go to the capital? Seeing her silence, Anata asked again, how will you answer him? She had disguised herself as a boy for 4 years, serving as a stand-in for her brother for 4 years. But now, with her brother recovered, she decided to return to an ordinary life and search for her birth mother. But this was no simple matter. Korea had been active in aristocratic society for 4 years under the name Korea. Many nobles knew her knew the name Korea. Even Princess Rashina, out of concern, had sent letters. To revert to her former self overnight, to make Korea disappear, was clearly unrealistic. Anata had warned her long ago to live quietly, like a shadow. But now, it wasn't entirely hopeless. Soon, Korea would go to the capital to study. If she could maintain a low profile, she could disappear under the pretext of recuperation. And when people gradually forgot her, they could hold a funeral for Korea, and she could become Korea again. Holding a funeral for a living person was absurd. Korea's emotions surged, but Anata laughed, claiming it was simply to keep the promise she made at the Selby Marquette. But Korea's performance far exceeded my expectations. My son, Gylan, has recovered because of it, so I should give you back your freedom completely, shouldn't I? Her words were accompanied by a chilling laugh. Seeing Korea's continuous efforts, Anata allowed her to attend her brother Gylan's engagement party, only because Gylan also wished for his sister to be there. And after the engagement ceremony, Gylan would return to Grego. Oh, in that case, I also have a request. Please forgive my mother. Korea had already made a concession, but Anata had no intention of forgiving her mother. Don't you think this request is absurd? Korea, you dare ask me to forgive her. But she was interrupted mid-sentence by Korea. If asking for forgiveness is absurd, then what about the 4 years I spent disguised as a boy for my brother? Worried about his sister facing their mother alone, Gylan had been waiting silently outside the door. He heard every word. The reason I became Korea was to ask for forgiveness for my mother. At this point, she could no longer hold back the tears of humiliation. So please forgive her. But even though she was crying, Anata showed no sign of relenting. Get out. A warm hand rested on Korea's shoulder. Mother, enough. It was Gylan. Strictly speaking, Korea is also a member of the Bale family. Holding a funeral for a living person, treating family this way, is too much. But Anata had never considered Korea family. It seems he came to the Bale family only to be a substitute for Gylan. And now his task is complete. Useless things should be discarded. A heated argument ensued. But Korea didn't want to put her brother in a difficult position. She turned and left silently. Gylan called out, Korea. Her hand paused on the doorknob. Brother, my name is Lilia. Then, without looking back, she walked away. Lilia felt utterly wronged. A funeral for a living person. How could she even think of such a thing? The 4 years she lived as Korea weren't entirely fake. After going to the capital, he likely wouldn't return here again. Yet, a flicker of reluctance ignited within him. Just then, a figure appeared behind him. Betty, don't come any closer. I want to be alone for a while. Today, she wasn't dressed as a woman. The voice clearly wasn't Betty's, but that of the strange man. Lost in thought, Korea didn't notice the man approach until he was at her side. We meet again. Korea, why are you crying here? She had been disguised as a boy for 4 years. Finally, she could live as a girl again. But the condition was that a funeral had to be held for her, for Korea. A funeral for the living. How absurd. Anata, her mother, was discarding her like a used tool. Anata wouldn't agree to the conditions Korea proposed. Liam was utterly distraught, so she ran to the riverbank to cry, only to be discovered by the foreign prince. Liam, Korea, why are you crying here? Meanwhile, at the Selby Marquette, preparations for a grand event were underway. Today was the day of a celebratory banquet for Marilyn's recovery. Noble families from all over had been invited, even Princess Rashina. The venue buzzed with congratulations for Marilyn's restored health. But Marilyn's gaze was fixed on someone else. Claude, the Duke, the object of her fervent, secret affections. Rumors circulated that they were to be married. Marilyn approached him and looped her arm through his, only to be unceremoniously rebuffed. Now that you're well, miss, we'll be taking our leave. But the party hasn't even officially begun. The truth was his friend, Gylan, had returned. They had arranged to meet. But today was also the celebration of Marilyn's recovery. Unwilling to let Claude go, she tried to detain him, but was met only with his look of displeasure. He didn't want to upset her. Resigned, she conceded. Thank you for your understanding, Mississippi. With that, Claude bid the princess farewell and departed. The crown prince, ever well informed, had heard that the young Marquis Gylan had brought a guest, the third son of the king of Lowen Sergio. Rumor has it he's a warmonger. We can't underestimate the Grego's savagery. That prince is surely just like the king of Lowen Sergio. Anything he wants, he'll get, no matter the cost. Yet, Gylan seemed to hold this foreign prince, Talion, in high regard. As the crown prince voiced his disapproval to Gylan, Claude, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. He protected Guylan in Grago. The Crown Prince, stunned by Claude's defense, was speechless. Even you? That's like sleeping with the enemy. Guylan is a nobleman. He wouldn't act solely on personal preference. He paused. I trust you haven't forgotten you are nobles of the Empire. However, Talion is a prince of an enemy nation. That's an undeniable fact. And now, with the dispute over the diamond mines, conflict has erupted in the neutral zone. If anything happens to Talion Sergio and the Empire, war is inevitable. But the Talion they spoke of was currently trailing after Leon like a shadow. I'm a guest here. Korea, why do you keep running away? You're hurting my feelings. I'm not Korea. I'm Carrion. In fact, Leon had just brought Talion back to the main hall, where a guest should be. But Talion shamelessly declared he had come to see Leon, not to tour the estate. A foreign prince chasing after a girl. What a sight. Suddenly, Talion leaned in close to Leon's face. Talion, call me Talion. A charming smile played on his lips. Leon, truly unskilled in handling such situations, could only comply, dropping the more formal address. Talion instantly lit up like a happy puppy. But I have a lot to do. It's difficult for me if you keep following me around. He had hoped to use this excuse to shake Talion off. But, to his dismay, Talion offered to help. There was simply no reasoning with this person. He needed to find his brother, but his foot caught on some leaves, and he stumbled backward. He landed squarely in the arms of Prince Talion, who had been right behind him. Even the heavens seemed to be conspiring. Korea, he, momentarily stunned, inexplicably stiffened. Looking at the man's smiling face, he realized he'd misspoken. See, you really are Korea. Leon stood and pushed him away. Honestly, you're hopeless. A familiar male voice called out from behind Leon. Turning, he saw his brother Guylan glaring at the two of them. Leon, I specifically told you to stay put and wait for me. This guy was flirting with my sister while I wasn't looking. Guylan stepped forward, protectively shielding Korea. Leon also shifted his demeanor. In the tomb, the siblings, united against a common foe, looked remarkably alike. Seeing this, Leon hastily explained that he was bored and had simply followed a familiar scent, which led him to Korea. This bizarre behavior made Guylan instinctively recoil in disgust. Are you some kind of animal? Sniffing people out. The man considered him a brother, yet all he seemed to want was to woo the man's sister. This underhanded behavior drew Guylan's ire. He'd explicitly told him to stay put and not wander off. Seeing the situation turning sour, Leon offered a flimsy excuse. He'd only stumbled upon Korea because he'd caught a familiar scent. Are you an animal? Following scents. Before this, Guylan had also heard that his friend had secretly sought out his sister. He'd gently asked Korea, he didn't harass you, did he? After all, Leon was a prince of a foreign land. Accusing him of harassment to his face wouldn't be very diplomatic. Contrary to his expectations, Korea didn't accuse Leon of harassment. Instead, she offered a bright, sunny smile. He just shared some ice cream with me. Talion, are you an angel? Leon's heart melted. Since his sister had spoken, Guylan couldn't very well press the matter. Elsewhere, distinguished guests had arrived at the Marquisate, the Crown Prince and Duke Claude. The Crown Prince had always been rather unfriendly towards the Kingdom of Sigrio. But while you were busy courting Prince Talion, I was having a delightful conversation with a lovely Korea. This statement was immediately met with Claude's disapproval. Your Highness must remain by my side. He wasn't about to let the Crown Prince have Korea all to himself. Although Korea was merely Guylan's replacement, Claude always felt a surge of happiness whenever he saw her. He found her quite intriguing. The Crown Prince's gossipy nature began to stir. A few days prior, Claude had suggested that Korea come work at the ducal estate, a proposal that had been flatly rejected. But that hadn't deterred him. On the contrary, it made him want Korea even more. She was a rare talent amongst the nobility, a stark contrast to those heirs who effortlessly stumbled from one disaster to another, squandering their family fortunes. How could he not be captivated? After the two princes exchanged brief pleasantries, Claude, standing behind the Crown Prince, caught Talion's attention. So you're the master of Decasa. But you'll inherit eventually, won't you? The Crown Prince interjected, putting a stop to their childish banter. But Talion's gaze drifted back to Korea. Being caught up in these social gatherings made him incredibly uncomfortable. He only relaxed when he heard them suggesting they move to another location to continue their conversation. He breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness Lady Inada didn't see me. I would have been in for another scolding. The two childish men, each harboring their own ulterior motives, were reluctant to leave first. You go first. I still have something to say to Korea." This statement caused both Li En and Gailan to groan inwardly. "Your Highness, they're waiting for you." Later wasn't the answer Talion wanted, but seeing Korea's uneasy expression, Talion ignored the prompting and strode towards her. Lian was taken aback. Talion looked directly at him and explained, "You're wrong. Korea, you're the most important person to me. You haven't answered my question. Why were you crying earlier?" Claude was forced to stand there like a piece of furniture. Were these two just ignoring him completely? This is so irritating. Just then, Gailan stepped in again to save the day. "Princely and of Lowen Sergio," he called out formally. The full title and address carried weight. Lian quickly backpedaled, claiming he was only joking. Seeing this, Claude finally relaxed and left them. Lian sensed Duke Claude's clear annoyance and felt a pang of guilt. "Duke Claude Selby, huh?" The two men, vying for Korea's attention, continued to subtly insult each other, both openly and in their thoughts. But the object of their affections wasn't even present. Treated as a mere stand-in for her brother, Korea wasn't even allowed to join the dinner table. Anata, Korea's mother, feared she would steal the spotlight from Gailan. Yet, the guests, many of whom favored Korea, inquired about her absence. Anata cheerfully lied, claiming Korea was resting due to feeling unwell. She attributed Korea's supposed poor health to the fact that her bandages had been removed. Claude didn't believe a word of Anata's fabricated story. All he could think about was Korea crying earlier. In truth, even if Korea had attended the banquet, the sheer opulence of it all would likely have made her nauseous. That's probably why she was deliberately avoiding the event. It seemed Claude would have to make do with sweets for sustenance today as well. The thought brought the sweets before him to his attention. "You, take this to Korea Belmond," he instructed his servant. Meanwhile, Lian, also concerned about Korea not eating, remarked that skipping meals was a bad habit. This thoughtful gesture impressed the crown prince, raising Li in his esteem. "If Korea's health worsens, I'll take her to Gur this time," Lian declared. Anata was startled by this unexpected offer. She couldn't allow Li and to disrupt her plans. Then, to her further dismay, Gailan intervened. "Thank you for your kindness. If her health deteriorates, we will consider your offer." Lian wasn't merely being polite, he was serious. In this place, a child without the means to protect themselves would struggle to survive. Perhaps Gur would be a better option. "I don't think this is a suitable environment for Korea." "What do you think, Duke Claude Selby?" Caught off guard, Claude could only stammer in confusion. I was asking about the meat. That meat comes from Gur, doesn't it?" At this, Claude, without hesitation, spat out the meat he had just eaten. "Forgive my rudeness, but Gur's cuisine truly doesn't suit the imperial palate." "Is that so?" Lian replied with a knowing smile. "It doesn't look very appetizing either. It's not made from spoiled meat, is it?" The crown prince, sensing the escalating tension, quickly interrupted. Only then did Claude cease his verbal assault. "Excuse me, I must take my leave. I'll be sure to attend the after-dinner drinks." He had no desire to remain in Li An's presence a moment longer. "Talion Belmond avoids me at all costs, yet he's thick as thieves with that foreigner. How infuriating." Just then, he saw a servant carrying a tray of food. Startled by Claude's sudden call, the servant nearly dropped the tray. He learned the food was meant for Korea. But as far as he knew, Korea preferred sweets to savory dishes. An intriguing idea sparked in his mind. "Take that away. Bring the sweets from the dining table. Try to win Korea over with Jirian food? He clearly doesn't know her at all." His mood instantly brightened. "Go and fetch what Korea truly desires." The servant, now carrying a tray of sweets, knocked repeatedly on Korea's door. But there was no answer. Claude frowned in frustration. Meanwhile, in the Marquisade's back garden, the servants were holding a farewell gathering for Korea. Everyone was saddened by her impending departure. Talion, though initially uncomfortable at the Marquisate, had unknowingly garnered the affection of many. "Don't forget us when you go to the capital," they pleaded. "Thank you for always being so kind to us." Betty, a motherly figure among the staff, was especially heartbroken. The person most reluctant to see Lian leave was Betty. So, Lian swept Betty through the doorway. "Thank you." The 16-year-old boy surprisingly loved sweets. A sweet aroma always seemed to emanate from him. The usually aloof Duke Claude was utterly captivated. He intercepted the fragrant food scent by his rival mid-delivery. He swapped it for Korea's favorite candies. "Haha, it seems I'm the only one in the world who truly understands you." But he knocked on the boy's door for a long time, yet the boy was nowhere to be seen. It turned out that tomorrow was the day Korea was leaving for the capital. Everyone in the valley was reluctant to see him go. They gathered together to throw him a farewell party. Like a father sending his son off on his first journey, Guylan repeatedly warned Leon not to get hurt. Don't wander around outside late at night. Be especially wary of those who are too kind to you, especially those who try to entice you with food. Be careful. Of course, the most important thing was to find his mother. Encouraged by these words, Leon felt full of confidence. In truth, this might be the last time he saw these people. Just then, a large bowl of candy was placed before him. He looked up in confusion, but the servant girl simply bowed respectfully and left. Just as he was wondering who had sent the sweets, a familiar head of hair caught his eye. It was Duke Claude. Relieved, he picked up the bowl of candy. Ever since he was little, he had always found Claude intimidating. It was hard to define him in a single word. He made people nervous, afraid of being mocked. He also had a penchant for occasional pranks. He was like the scent of lavender, sometimes inexplicably thoughtful. Korea picked up a candy and put in his mouth. The sweet taste instantly spread through his mouth. Honestly, I'm not a child who likes sweets anymore, but his burning ears betrayed his true feelings. The next day arrived quickly. Guylan was the first to arrive to see him off, looking haggard. Learning that his mother wouldn't be there to see him off, while not entirely unexpected, still left him feeling a little disappointed. Seeing this, Guylan pulled Leon into a hug. But mindful of propriety, Leon pulled away. Seeing a chance, Ian rushed forward, also wanting a hug from Leon. But he was completely ignored by the siblings. Brother, please give my regards to Mother. We'll see each other in the capital. I'll be going now. Turning back, he saw Ian standing there looking dejected. Leon sighed and finally gave him a proper farewell. It was because Prince Ian always did things that put him in awkward situations. Just then, a figure flashed past. It was the Crown Prince. He looked even worse than Guylan. I'm going crazy. I'm never drinking Guylan's liquor again. I've called dibs on this carriage. Talion, you can take the car. Last night, he'd wondered what those four had been doing all night. It turned out they'd all gotten drunk. Aren't you getting in? Claude's voice suddenly rang out. Why was he the only one looking refreshed and energetic? Seeing Lee Ann's hesitation, Guylan patted his shoulder encouragingly. Get in the car. It's much faster than the carriage. It'll be a good experience. Don't worry, Duke Claude will be there. Leon giggled. Isn't Duke Claude the most dangerous one? Saying such strange things again. Korea didn't want to deal with him. Suddenly, his hand was firmly grasped. Leon leaned close to his ear and whispered, all men are charmers. Korea, you need to be careful. The sudden closeness made Korea blush. He snapped at Ian, but the man just chuckled. This behavior was no different from flirting. Claude was seething with jealousy. I hope you two will stop wasting my time. Hearing this, Leon hastily apologized and climbed into the carriage. Claude scolded the prince for his overindulgence, blaming it on the alcohol. But his eyes kept glancing back at Korea. This time, it was a true departure. Goodbye, everyone. You smell sweet. It seems those candies weren't ordinary sweets. The young master, on his first car ride, caused a commotion. A sudden brake sent him, unbuckled, flying forward. Luckily, the quick-thinking Duke Claude caught him firmly, preventing an injury. But are these really a boy's hands? They were too delicate. Fearing discovery, Leon quickly pulled her hand back. I just have a big appetite. The candies you gave me yesterday were so sweet and sticky. I felt like my mouth was glued shut, but I ate them all anyway. This explained things. A question had been troubling Claude. To confirm his suspicions, he took Lee Ann's hand again and brought it to his nose, inhaling. You smell sweet. It seems those candies weren't ordinary sweets. This gesture, coupled with his words, turned Lee Ann's face the color of a ripe tomato. How do they taste? Very good. You should get some sleep. Even by car. It will take us a long time to reach the capital. Having just experienced such a moment, how could this supposed brave warrior be so calm? Leon's eyes widened in disbelief. But a moment later, a loud thud startled Claude. Korea, that boy. He finds a way to make even riding in a car eventful. Hitting his head that hard, and he still sleeps. Claude gently drew Korea closer, both in childhood and now. Korea evoked a protective instinct in him. Perhaps because they were so close, the sweet scent was even stronger. This fragrance emanating from a boy, it drew him in. He's too sweet. And just now, too, even though he's a boy, he's undeniably appealing. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden sound. A button had popped off his shirt. I must be going mad. Or perhaps I already am. A dangerous thought surfaced. His heart pounded. Leanne's innocence was strangely captivating. It drove him to lean in inexplicably, recklessly. Damn it. Leanne only woke when the carriage stopped, rubbing a small bump on her forehead, puzzled. Her lips felt moist, too. Could I have drooled in my sleep? It's just a car ride. The fact that Korea wasn't staying in the dorms irritated Claude. Apparently, his father, worried about Korea adjusting to dorm life, had arranged for him to live off campus. But given Korea's status, the academy would have surely given him the largest room. There was no need to live elsewhere. Hearing Leanne describe herself as introverted, Claude smirked. So intimate with a man you've just met? It seems your introversion doesn't apply to foreigners. Korea had actually met Prince Ian before, so she hadn't immediately understood. To Claude, this behavior was a blatant attempt to hide something. He glared at the lying Leanne, his stare making her skin crawl. Finally understanding that Claude was referring to Prince Ian, she started to explain, but Claude cut her off. He didn't want to hear about that foreigner from Leanne's lips. The sweet scent emanating from the young master kept drawing Claude closer. He'd barely managed to suppress his inner turmoil. Then, the carriage lurched over a rock. This road is terrible. Your Highness, are you all right? Unexpectedly, the jolt had brought them closer. Claude pulled away abruptly, his face burning crimson. Even after they arrived at the estate, the image of kissing Korea lingered. He was actually attracted to a boy. Damn it, Korea. More than once, Claude had sensed that Korea didn't seem like a boy. Even his choice of residence reflected a similar style. Whenever Claude was involved with Leanne, he couldn't help but overthink. Just then, the royal family sent over a collaborative document. Claude, with his golden gaze, widened his eyes. Meanwhile, Korea was plotting something significant. Her wardrobe was overflowing with adorable dresses. Because her current appearance was so different from her childhood, she was afraid her mother wouldn't recognize her. Finding her mother was the one thing she couldn't give up on. A few days later, Korea arrived at the academy. The gatekeeper, upon hearing her name, was utterly shocked and rushed inside to report her arrival. Just by standing there quietly, Korea attracted a great deal of attention. The gazes directed at her were endless. Before long, the headmaster and a group of faculty members personally came out to greet her. "It's a pleasure to see you again, Belle," the headmaster said. The same strange, leering instructor from before was also present, fixing Korea with a creepy smile. It made her skin crawl. Thankfully, the headmaster intervened. "Go straight to the examination hall. Theodore has sung your praises. Everyone is curious about your exam results." On the way to the examination hall, the surrounding chatter was incessant. "That's Belmar. How can a man be so delicate?" Suddenly, a familiar figure blocked her path. Seeing who it was, Korea was overjoyed. It had been several days since she last saw Claude. Yet, faced with her greeting, Duke Claude turned his head away. His sudden avoidance left Korea bewildered. Even after she entered the examination hall, the whispers continued. "Did you see? He's so pretty. How can he be so petite? I heard he's a bastard." Claude heard every word. "Greetings, Duke Claude. Did you see? I haven't seen him in 4 years, and he's still so sickeningly sweet. I never thought he looked like a man." With that demeanor, who would call him a man? The blonde-haired young man sneered, oblivious to Claude's increasingly contorted expression. He continued his relentless mockery of Korea, and he reeks of vulgarity. He's obviously a bastard brought in from somewhere. How could the Marquis allow such a person to enroll? He has no shame. Claude had finally reached his limit. He stood up and glared at the young Earl Thorin, who suddenly realized the crudeness of his words. "It won't be long before you lose your tongue," Claude threatened. Thorin broke out in a cold sweat. "If you want to keep your tongue, stop gossiping. You, a mere earl, dare to speak ill of the Belle Marquis's family affairs, a family deeply favored by the Emperor? Are you brainless? Is your head filled with horse dung? How else would you dare gossip about the Marquis's private matters?" By the end of Claude's tirade, Thorin was flushed crimson. Still defiant, he clenched his fists. "I admit I was wrong to speak so freely, but with Korea's appearance, won't he become prey for those with unsavory inclinations?" Thorin's words gave Claude pause. "I'll keep your concerns in mind. Becoming prey for those with unsavory inclinations? You have quite the imagination," Claude retorted before entering the examination hall. Upon entering, he saw Eddie standing before Leanne. As Claude approached, Eddie's expression became increasingly clear. It seemed Thorin's concerns were not entirely unfounded. simply because of his delicate features. The young master was facing criticism on his first day, and he was being targeted by a teacher with a less than stellar reputation. Watching the teacher's wandering gaze, the young duke's fury reached its peak. When he had studied under Theodore, Leon had found every subject fascinating, and he had eagerly anticipated academy life. But upon receiving the exam paper, a sense of unease settled over him. This didn't feel like an exam at all. Korea's origins were shrouded in mystery. People whispered about his identity. These exam questions felt like a judgment, a test to see if he was worthy of nobility, if they should accept him into their ranks. If this was the academy, perhaps he had expected too much. The exam ended quickly. Eddie collected his paper. The first thing Leon did after finishing the exam was look for Claude. He found him glaring at Eddie. Claude turned, saw Korea, and instantly looked away again. Leon's heart clenched. What was wrong with him? The instructors crowded around Korea's exam paper, incredulous. He had scored perfectly. It was the first perfect score since Jillian Bell. The same bloodline indeed. Everyone praised Korea lavishly, since he had already decided to live off campus. All that remained was to choose a year in class. I think year 9 would be a good fit for you, Eddie said. He was in charge of year 9. Fortunately, a decision didn't need to be made immediately, just sometime that week. The headmaster was looking for someone to show Korea around the academy. Then Claude, who had been avoiding him, volunteered. You know, I've been waiting for Korea to enroll. Leon's heart pounded at his words. So what the headmaster had said was true. The next moment, an arm slipped around her waist. Not only that, but Claude nudged Leon closer to his side. And so, Leon stiffly exited the classroom. The Crown Prince's gossip-loving spirit ignited. Once they were alone, Claude's demeanor changed. He warned Leon not to go into year 9. He didn't want to explain why. Just don't go into year 9. Korea pestered him with questions. Eddie, the teacher in charge of year 9, has a bad reputation. Didn't you sense anything from his gaze? Korea scoffed, and I thought you were going to say something important. Don't you understand what I mean, Your Grace? I'm a student. I'm not interested in gossip about professors. Right now, he had no time for anything else. He just wanted to advance quickly. His brother was back. His stepmother wouldn't let him stay here forever. He just wanted to find his mother as soon as possible and avoid any further complications. A professor's sexual orientation is irrelevant. As soon as he said that, an imposing figure loomed over him. Irrelevant? You really think so? Thinking Claude was just being difficult, Korea continued, rather than worrying about that. I heard the academy has a huge stable. Don't change the subject. Go to year 8. Going straight to year 9 is too much too soon. You haven't adjusted to academy life. You'd be buried in books for a whole year. You should have just said that from the beginning. Claude turned and whistled. A moment later, a horse galloped towards them. Just as Korea reached out to greet it, Claude stopped him. He'll bite you. Apparently, the horse was only friendly with its owner. But then, seeing Korea's eager expression, Claude relented. Do you want to ride him? He immediately refused, however. Korea's delicate, glistening lips brought back pleasant memories. Honestly, doesn't he have any self-awareness? Claude Sudoni ligne creuseur. Leon's eyes widened. Your Grace, you have something on your lips. What? What is it? Claude turned away, his ears flushing red. We'll tour the academy another time. Just then, one of the family soldiers approached. Claude quickly sent Leon away. His Majesty has suggested integrating the Duke's private army into the capital's security force. That would allow Your Grace to personally command them. The criminal who harmed Miss Marilyn shouldn't have gotten far. They're likely hiding in the Liu Kingdom. We must find someone very familiar with the roads. We'll move tonight. After 4 years, the young master finally donned women's clothing again. He needed to hurry to find his mother. He hesitated, wondering if his hair color was too conspicuous. His maid, Pepe, offered a comforting reminder. It's been so many years. If even your hair color has changed, how could your mother possibly recognize you? Reassured, Leon finally left. He hired a carriage. Please wait for me in the north. I'll come out from that side. It was unexpected that a noble young lady would be so familiar with the roads of the slums. After instructing the coachman to wait for him, Leon, with a heart, embarked on his journey home. Just a little further, and he'd be there. Around that corner, he would see his beloved mother. Leon excitedly ran towards his mother. Little did he know, a fateful encounter awaited him around the corner. With a bang, he collided with someone. The force of the impact sent him stumbling backward. At the critical moment, someone caught him tightly, just as he was sighing in relief. Claude, above him, was already speechless with shock. Hearing the familiar voice, Leon's heart lurched. He looked up to meet the Duke's incredulous gaze. Why was Claude here? Liam was momentarily stunned. After Claude called out to him repeatedly, he spun around abruptly, pulling his hat down to cover his face. The sudden appearance of the Duke had frightened him to the core. If his true identity were discovered, the consequences would be unimaginable. But the next second, the man's apologetic voice came. "I beg your pardon. I mistook you for someone else, Mississippi." At that moment, Claude wondered if he was losing his mind. How could this woman be Courier? Faced with Claude's barrage of questions, Leon only shook his head silently. If this continued, he would be exposed sooner or later. Courier backed away fearfully, but the Duke relentlessly pressed closer. He lowered his head, trying to see the woman's face. "Can't you speak?" He hadn't expected his clumsy acting to actually fool the Duke. Seizing the lifeline, Leon nodded vigorously. "So you can understand. If you're lost too, let's go together." Torn between the lost Claude and his longing for his mother, he struggled to decide. Soon, Leon noticed something. Claude had been making marks on the walls along the way. He really was lost. What to do? He couldn't just leave him. After careful consideration, Leon finally mustered the courage to run in front of Claude. He stretched out his arms and pointed towards the exit, motioning for the man to follow him. In the end, he chose to help Claude get out first. The woman before him was clearly very familiar with the roads of the Lu Kingdom. "Are you a local?" Claude asked, but Courier didn't react. Soon, they reached the agreed-upon location. Suspecting he'd been tricked, Claude's expression darkened. "Hey, you were pretending to be mute, weren't you? Who are you? If you were exposed here, it would be over." Thinking it might be a trap, Claude subtly rested his hand on his arrow. But the next second, the woman ran away. The sudden flight caught Claude off guard. Courier quickly boarded the carriage. The coachman was startled by the situation. "Miss, are you a criminal?" "No. If anyone asks where I boarded, tell them it was on the South Street of Lion Bridge. Take me to St. Matthew." "Well, you're certainly a mysterious young lady." The coachman finally started the carriage. And so, Courier successfully escaped. Claude's guards finally arrived. It turned out they had gotten lost too. They only found their way thanks to the marks Claude had left. "Help me check the carriages that crossed the bridge tonight." It was a dark green Landau carriage. "I finally found the guide we were looking for." Young Master Lien, venturing into the slums at night, unexpectedly bumped into Duke Claude around a corner. Thankfully, his clumsy acting wasn't seen through. He returned home, heart-pounding but safe. Even so, Courier worried, unable to sleep all night. He was so close, just a little further. Lost in thought, his maid, Pepe, burst into the room in a fluster. She began tidying Li An's room frantically. "Young master, this is no time to be daydreaming. Please get ready quickly. Duke Claude is here." By the time Courier, feigning a delicate voice, descended the stairs, Claude had already been waiting for some time. "Why so slow?" "I apologize. I didn't sleep well." "Why are you here so early?" "What do you think? I'm not Duke Claude. How could I possibly know what you're thinking?" Courier's reply successfully irked Claude. Being watched while eating made him feel incredibly uncomfortable. Lacking any appetite, Leon ate in small, delicate bites. This concerned Claude. "You don't have to force yourself. You can eat your fill. I need to go out with you." "It was Eddie who asked me. He specifically requested that I take his adorable younger brother, Courier, to familiarize himself with the capital." "But Duke Claude." Claude interrupted him mid-sentence. "Call me Claude. Don't call me Duke anymore. I don't want to hear it." Courier coughed awkwardly. "Why? Don't you like it?" Leon quickly responded, "No, it's not that I don't like it. Just eat. Once we're full, we'll go out." "I suggest you eat more, Courier." A short while later, they found themselves in the bustling heart of the city center. The two handsome young men drew the attention of passersby. Remember this street. When locals give directions, they always use Cohen Bank as a landmark. You're starting in year 9. Remembering this should be easy, right? But Courier hadn't been listening at all. Lost in his own thoughts, he murmured, "I've heard of this place. 2.7 kilometers northeast of Cohen is the Academy. 3 kilometers away is the Royal Palace." A silence fell between them. Claude couldn't understand his feelings for Leon. They were making him act foolish. Attracted to a man, he had even kissed him. He was calling a woman by the name Courier. He couldn't believe he'd made such a basic mistake. How frustrating. "Aren't you coming?" He looked up to see Courier, practically glowing, beaming at him. This unfamiliar feeling, where impulse had overtaken reason, irritated him. Courier was exceptionally cheerful all day. The people of St. Matthew seem so relaxed. Everyone appears prosperous. Where there is sunlight, there are shadows. The brighter the light, the darker the shadows. Everything follows this principle. Don't jump to conclusions. But Courier, who came from the darkest of places, had a different perspective. Those in darkness don't know they live in darkness. Perhaps not knowing is bliss. Happiness is relative, after all. Seeing someone different, someone better off, makes people feel unhappy. But if they were ignorant from the start, they wouldn't feel unhappy. They would accept that life as normal. There wouldn't be a question of contentment or dissatisfaction. Claude was rendered speechless by this empathetic observation. Korea, Claude's sudden call startled him. Clear your head. We have another place to go. As soon as he finished speaking, he tossed a jar filled with candies into Korea's hands. Predictably, Korea was delighted. Still a child, so easily appeased. Korea, indignant, retorted, I just like sweet things. Stop treating me like a child. I'm not treating you like a child. You just are one. The young duke isn't that much older, Korea muttered. Claude, seemingly aware of his slip-up, quickly changed the subject. We've seen the light. Now, let's experience the darkness. We're going to Lu Kingdom. We'll enter through the north entrance. Lian's heart lurched. Had his trip to Lu Kingdom the previous night been discovered? To appease the young master, Duke Claude produced a jar of candy from seemingly nowhere and tossed it into his arms. Undeniably, the young master was quite pleased. Lian had thought the matter of exploring the slums was over. Who could have predicted Claude would invite him to journey inland? Could he be so lucky again? Lian was filled with unease throughout the journey. Going to the Lu Kingdom so suddenly, perhaps Claude already suspected something. After much hesitation, he finally couldn't bear it any longer. The Lu Kingdom you speak of, is it the place I know? Unexpectedly, Claude countered with a question. What was the Lu Kingdom like in Lian's understanding? Lian shook his head, a look of repulsion on his face. What else could it be? I've heard it's a place one should absolutely avoid. One shouldn't even entertain the thought of going there. But these words couldn't bring Claude any sense of satisfaction, because from Lian's room, one could see the Lu Kingdom just across the Lion River. Claude had noticed even such a small detail. Now, Lian had to play dumb no matter what. Lian suddenly feigned a look of terror. Really? That dark place is truly the Lu Kingdom? Oh, so that's how it is. Soon, the carriage arrived at its destination. This is the Empire's failure and shame. People also call the Lu Kingdom a Terror's trouble. But Lian's mind was consumed with worry. Claude was testing him. So, he lied, feigning fear. This place reeks. I feel nauseous. I don't want to look anymore. Can we please go back? But Claude wasn't about to let him off the hook. Even in this forsaken place, people live. It's the darkness born from the light you speak of, isn't it? Lian's heart pounded with panic. He couldn't react. He had to feign ignorance. Suddenly, the young man began to tremble violently. I want to go back. I am truly scared. All right. His voice was thick with tears, his eyes brimming. The sight tugged at Claude's heart. Finally, defeated by Lian, Claude agreed to his request. On the way back, Lian remained silent, head down, fiddling with his fingers. It seems you were truly frightened. But why do I have the feeling you know a great deal about the Lu Kingdom? Those words sent a chill down Lian's spine. He swore he had never been there, never even set foot inside. Claude's response was a look of cold indifference. Did he really believe me? I truly can't understand his thoughts. Lost in thought, Claude suddenly turned around. Lian straightened up, feeling like a deer caught in headlights. I have an appointment for dinner. I'll just take you home directly. These were, in Lian's opinion, the most beautiful words Claude had uttered all day. He breathed a sigh of relief. But Claude wasn't satisfied. It's also quite boring when someone is always the same. Lian was bewildered by the nonsensical remark. Are you that happy? Every time I say I want to go back, you seem particularly pleased. A thoroughly confused Lian, in an attempt to appease Claude, made excuses the rest of the way. They soon arrived at Lian's residence. He had already bid Claude farewell, but the man walked straight past him towards the house. I'll just wait here until the carriage arrives. Lian was thunderstruck. His expression left Claude speechless. Can you please not look at me like that? Being with you always makes me feel like the villain, you know? Lian immediately realized he'd overdone it. Scratching his cheek, he apologized to Claude. Only you would openly dislike me. I don't openly dislike you. Then you secretly dislike me? Just then, a horse nearby caught Claude's attention. It seems you have a guest, or perhaps an uninvited one. As soon as he stepped inside, Lian sensed something was amiss. The servants were lined up, awaiting his arrival. Lian mouthed the words, "Who is it?" to his servant. "It's someone from very far." Before the servant could finish, Claude provided the answer. A guest from Jor, it seems. Claude glared at the guest, lounging casually on the sofa, a look of displeasure on his face. Hearing his name, Prince Ian Sergio slowly rose to his feet. Well, if it isn't Duke Claude Ihard to St. Matthew. Stretching languidly, he appeared to have been there for quite some time. Leon's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Your Highness, what brings you here? Hearing Leon call his name, Ian's smile was dazzlingly bright, a sight that was, however, a thorn in someone else's side. Duke Claude had just escorted the young master home when he saw his rival lounging on the sofa. How could he leave with peace of mind? Seeing that Claude showed no intention of departing, Leon, as Korea, gently reminded him that it was almost dinner time. However, he was met with a glare from Claude. It turned out Claude disliked Korea addressing him so formally as Your Grace. Let's invite our guest to my villa, Claude said. I can't leave you two here alone. Leon, utterly bewildered, tilted his head and asked, Is there a problem with that? In the next instant, the candy in his hand was snatched away by Claude. I don't want to see you covered in sweetness again. Leon wondered what game Claude was playing at. Their bickering was particularly irritating to Ian. Suddenly, Ian leaned in, his chin resting on Leon's shoulder. Stop messing around. Let's have dinner. I've been waiting for you all day, and I'm starving. Leon immediately pushed Ian away, nervously glancing at Claude. He hadn't realized Claude had already approached. Claude pulled Leon away. Allow me to entertain His Highness. Korea just arrived in Ader and doesn't have time to entertain guests right now. But Ian was insistent. He only wanted to be with Korea. Because of the tiring journey, I plan to spend the whole day lounging on the sofa with Korea. I don't want to go out at all. Ian's suggestive words sent a shiver down Leanne's spine. So you should go back, Duke Claude. The scene changed. Claude was already at the prearranged dinner. The girl from the Piengian family reminded him of Korea. That person always made him feel restless. So, before he'd even taken a bite, he rushed back. The driver asked him where he was going. To his surprise, Korea's house slipped out, shocking the driver. I meant the villa. He recalled how Korea had stood between the two of them, and lounging on the sofa, and Duke Claude, I will escort His Highness to the Marquis residence. So, please return. The fact that Korea hadn't called him Ian Sergio, but simply Ian, inexplicably irritated him. For so many years, Korea had only ever addressed him as Your Grace. That damned prince definitely had ulterior motives towards Korea. Just then, the knight Anya, whom he had tasked with investigating, sent him a message. There had been a breakthrough in the matter Claude had asked him to look into. That night, there was only one coachman driving a green Landau carriage. He said a noble lady got off in St. Matthew. He doesn't know what happened after they parted ways. But the only noble residence near there belongs to the Claude family, and his villa hasn't received any guests. This can only mean the coachman is lying. Meanwhile, Leon stared at the candy, completely puzzled. Even Ian had told him to eat properly and have less sweets. But he hadn't eaten that much. Would you like one? The sudden offer caught Ian off guard. He happily accepted the candy from Leanne's hand. As he took it, his tongue brushed against Leanne's hand. As if not satisfied, he even kissed Leanne's hand. Leanne's face flushed crimson. Please maintain your royal decorum. Just for a misplaced candy and a stolen kiss, the young master was so startled he stumbled backward, urging the maid to bring a towel quickly. He accused the foreign prince of such a disgusting act. He was about to flee, but Ian caught him. Now that no one was there to interfere, he wanted to have a proper chat with Korea. So, after Ian's repeated pleas, Leon reluctantly sat down. Duke Claude, doesn't he know you're a woman? He hadn't expected such a blunt question. Leon warned him to be careful of eavesdroppers, but Ian, completely disregarding Leon's feelings, continued to ask how long he planned to live with his current identity. Seeing Ian's serious expression, Leon patiently answered. He didn't expect Ian to suddenly draw closer in the next moment. Apparently, his father, the emperor, wished for him to marry into the Kayan Empire's nobility. Undoubtedly, it was the easiest path to diplomacy. Hearing this, Leon assumed Ian wanted him to help with introductions. Unexpectedly, Ian flatly refused, because he intended to formally propose to Marquis Bell. Following this, the two stared at each other in speechless silence. Regaining his composure, Leon hastily questioned him. Are you mad? But you know I'm a woman. How about an engagement next year? We'll hold a formal ball. You'll make your debut in society and return as Courier Bell, unless you have a man you're interested in. Suddenly, Ian's gaze sharpened. Could it be Claude Ihar, the Duke? His thoughts exposed, Leon vehemently denied it. Seeing this, Ian didn't panic. After all, there was still a year. He could help Leon completely escape that monkey-like woman, as he thought of Anya. Unexpectedly, Leon was still unwilling, simply because he knew deep down he wasn't truly a nobleman. Disappearing quietly was the best choice. The unaware, Ian still refused to give up, earnestly trying to persuade Leon. Suddenly, Leon stood up abruptly. Proposing to someone you've only met 3 times is far too presumptuous. Besides, I only want to be a good second son to the Bell family. Then you'll just have to have a funeral. Leon froze, dumbfounded. You were eavesdropping? An elegant marquis's wife should speak softly. Did only I hear that? Holding a funeral for the living. The marquis's wife has quite frightening ideas. Well, I refuse. I don't want to get involved in political games like diplomacy or marriage alliances. He didn't expect Ian's next words to completely shock him. It's not a complicated matter. I'm simply captivated by you. So let's spend a year getting to know each other. At these words, Ian's grip tightened on the crown he held. Getting to know Prince Ian, this relentless pursuit disgusted him. Just as he was at his wit's end, Ian informed him that G. Allen would arrive in 10 days. And until then, they would be alone together. He spoke with a dazzlingly bright smile. The next day, Leon officially began classes at the academy. He still attracted quite a bit of attention along the way. He felt as if this body wasn't even his own. Ever since hearing the dreadful news of having to spend 10 days alone with Ian, he'd been so worried he couldn't sleep a wink. He felt he needed to write to his brother and urge him to return quickly. Just then, a figure swaggered up behind him. It was that petty Count Thorin, the one with the terrible memory. This time, seeing Leon alone, he wanted to get even. The moment he approached, he belittled Leon as a mere imitation. He even accused him of only receiving acceptance into the academy because of his pretty, woman-like face. You're a first year. You'd best not cross me a 9th year. Otherwise, you'll only tarnish the Bell Marquisite's reputation. You know, don't you, Korea Bell? You're the family's disgrace. It seemed Thorin's information was truly lacking. Leon placed a hand on Thorin's shoulder and replied, each word precise. I'm on an errand for the Marquis. Your disregard for me, I can only interpret as an insult to the Marquis himself. Speaking ill of the Marquis, it seems Count Thorin is confident in bearing the consequences. Also, I'm not a first year, but a 9th year. We'll be seeing each other often. Since Count Thorin dislikes me so much, you should just stay out of my way. After 4 years, the young master finally saw his birth mother again. Just 2 hours prior, Leon had been summoned to the headmaster's office because he'd told Count Thorin he was a 9th year, even though Claude had explicitly warned him against choosing the 9th year level. Leon could only lament the Duke's ill-timed words. The appearance of a military officer startled him. After all, getting into a fight with another student so soon after enrolling could very well have brought the guards down on him. The officer's sudden question made him jump. Is your voice always this soft? The officer asked, correcting his posture. I'd like to know if you have any experience with weapons like daggers. Not expert level, but some familiarity. Leon realized the officer was here to recruit someone specific. Someone who can disguise themselves as a young noble lady. Recently, there have been attacks specifically targeting them. The nobles are terrified. They're keeping their daughters indoors. So, the culprit has started targeting younger children. To catch the perpetrator, the military wants to use a child as bait. But the combat team is full of burly men. They need a young boy. That's why they've come to the academy. Korea's appearance fits the bill perfectly. All you would have to do is appear at designated locations. Places like the library near Ruber, the theater, or the train station. Liam was still unsure, but his gut instinct leaned towards refusal. Just then, a carriage approached. A lady with curly hair inside caught his eye. He froze, his eyes widening. It was his mother, the woman he'd been longing to see. Forgetting everything else, he ran towards the carriage. Wait, please stop, he cried, but 2 legs couldn't outrun 4. He couldn't even call out mother. It was unbelievable to have come so close to his mother, only to miss her in such a way. Meanwhile, Claude learned of the military's proposal. He asked if Korea had agreed yet. Hearing that Leon hadn't, he breathed a sigh of relief. Still, he was curious. Whose idea was it to have Korea dress as a girl? The other person remained tight-lipped. They countered, asking why Claude was so upset. Korea Bell is the Marquis's second son and a dear friend's beloved younger brother. If a single hair on his head is harmed, everyone involved will face the consequences. At that moment, a visitor arrived. It was Leon, returning unexpectedly. He had decided to accept the proposal. Claude emerged as well. After nodding to the officer, he ignored Leon, walking right past him. clearly avoiding him again. There was no time to dwell on it. Lian was ushered inside by the officer. For this operation, they not only had the support of a guest from the Duke's residence, but they were also borrowing personnel from Serbia. In truth, it was Mary who had recommended Lian to the officer. She'd said no one was more suited for this task. She also asked the officer to relay a message, an invitation for Lian to visit the Marquis of Serbia's residence in 4 days. Ever since seeing the woman who resembled Lian in Rubur, Claude couldn't stop his mind from racing. Hearing that Lian was going to participate in a dangerous operation, a simmering anger rose within him, uncontrolled. Yet, it was none of his business. But anything involving Lian, he couldn't ignore. Just then, the Crown Prince arrived. He brought news of Lian's acceptance into the 9th grade. Claude's face darkened considerably at the news. I hear you even humiliated Count Thorin. Korea is certainly interesting. Although the Crown Prince had been preoccupied with official matters in the royal city lately, he had heard about Lian confronting Thorin. He didn't believe it was all for the sake of the Marquis. After all, he was rather looking forward to Claude's preferences aligning with his own. Claude began to question his own inclinations. Meanwhile, at Lian's residence, the maid, Pepe, stood guard at the door. Lian had instructed her not to let Ian leave without his permission, but Pepe was no match for Ian's agility. With a feint, he slipped past her, thoughtfully telling her not to worry. Make sure you never go out alone. Tell my brother I'll be back in a year. I'm afraid I can't do as you wish. My orders are to return to the capital immediately. He didn't even know when he'd become so close to his brother. In truth, his brother was simply worried that if war broke out, Ian wouldn't be able to stand on the front lines. After all, throughout the entire country, there was no weapon more powerful than him. That's why his brother had sent someone to watch over him. Does my brother's plan have any hope of succeeding? The other person nodded. Just then, Lian's carriage arrived. Ian flashed a brilliant smile. Tell my brother that raising an army now is premature. It would be a shame to destroy Can. There are many beautiful things here. Lian wouldn't let Ian wander around freely. Many people here disliked the GR, but Ian shrugged nonchalantly, unconcerned. After all, he just wanted to see Lian sooner. Ian never tired of uttering sweet nothings. It's best to hurry home now. Lian extended a hand, inviting Ian into the carriage. An ordinary gesture, yet it caused his heart to flutter as Ian lightly took his small hand. What are you dawdling for? Every time I see you, I want to turn into a puppy. Lian was bewildered and asked Ian what he meant. His only reply was a burst of laughter. One day, a week after starting school, G. Allen approached Lian, who was alone, and asked if he was adjusting to school life. But Lian's mind was preoccupied. He hadn't seen Claude attend any classes. G. Allen told him that Claude wasn't at the academy to study, but to keep an eye on the Crown Prince, who was a bit too free-spirited. Just then, a light rain began to fall. It was during the rainy season that he had left Rubur, and now he was back during the rainy season again. His chance encounter with his mother had given him a lot of hope. He couldn't give up on finding her. Lian, after class today, could we? Before the other person could finish, Lian quickly slipped away, leaving G. Allen dumbfounded. Lian really is adorable. If he threatens you, just stab him here and here. Respond. Just a moment ago, Lian had arrived at the Marquis of Serbia's residence as agreed, to help catch the culprit behind the serial killings. He had accepted Mary's uncle's proposal, because at the academy, there was no one more suited to dressing as a woman than him. Accompanied by the maid, Pepe, Lian arrived at the dressing room, ignoring the Serbia butler's suggestions. He chose a brown wig, fearing that Claude would recognize the honey-colored one. Seeing that the butler had no intention of leaving, Pepe, in a burst of protective energy, declared, "The young master hates being waited on." The next second, the butler was locked out. Elsewhere, Mary was deeply moved. I can't believe His Grace, the Duke, would come personally. You really were worried about me, weren't you? Claude was speechless. But I'm fine now. You didn't need to come yourself. Claude couldn't listen any longer. I believe that to quell the noble's anxieties, the Duke's family should show their support. Then you didn't need to personally escort Lian, did you? That question struck a nerve. He hadn't intended to get involved, but upon learning that Eddie Kakan had requested to escort Lian, he had gasped, and ultimately volunteered to wade into these troubled waters. After a cup of tea, Lian's transformation was complete. Claude's eyes nearly popped out of his head. What kind of beauty could make him so indulgent towards Mary? Following his gaze, he saw Lian, a strikingly graceful figure of a young woman. Even he, who considered himself quite handsome, felt a pang of self-consciousness. Sensing that burning stare, Leon abruptly looked up. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the air thickened. Leon, snapping back to reality, quickly lowered his head. Claude's heart was a whirlwind of emotions. "You're quite the chameleon," he thought. "No one would ever guess this is the second son of the Bell family." Leon, outwardly cheerful, inwardly cursed. Only now did he realize Claude was there as his bodyguard. "You accepted such a strange proposal, dragging me into this mess. Why didn't you refuse? And yet, you treat Mary differently. It's utterly preposterous for me to appear before such a beautiful young lady like this." Mary, however, was still fixated on the brown wig Leon had brought without permission. Panicked, Leon could only offer the excuse that the original color was too conspicuous and had to be toned down. Such a flimsy excuse couldn't fool Claude. His sharp eyes had already seen through the butler's little scheme. On the ground lay a gorget. Though it looked like leather, it was actually a material used in crafting knight's armor, designed to protect the neck from injury. Leon was touched. He hadn't expected Mary, who usually didn't fuss over him, to be so thoughtful at such a crucial moment. As Mary reached out to fasten it, Claude intervened. "A matter concerning life and death. I'd rather handle it myself," he finished. "Even without this, I wouldn't let her neck be harmed." The sudden assurance sent Leanne's heart racing. Claude truly exuded a sense of security. One man's joy is another's sorrow. Mary watched from the side, consumed by jealousy. After the two departed, she questioned the maid about who had helped Leon dress. The answer, unsurprisingly, was the maid Leon had brought. This further fueled Mary's suspicions about Leanne's true nature. "Next time, don't leave your room until you're fully dressed." "Understood," she commanded. The two shared a car ride, a rare occurrence, and the atmosphere was as awkward as ever. Finally, Claude broke the silence. "You were trembling with fear when we were about to enter Ruber before. What's gotten into you that you're assisting with something like this?" Leon had been waiting for the chance to explain. "The officer asked for my help. He said no one else could do it, so I had to." His innocent look made Claude blush. He scowled, and in the next moment, thrust a dagger into Leanne's hand. Using the pretense of teaching him how to handle the weapon, Claude seized the opportunity to be close to him. Leanne's heart pounded in his chest. Whenever he was with Claude, he couldn't resist the urge to draw closer. They had just arrived at their designated location, the Royal Library, when Leon was targeted by his nemesis, Ian, who trailed him relentlessly for 9 blocks. Yet, whenever he turned around, Ian would vanish. Leon was at the library to meet his contact, whose identity he didn't know. Claude's mission was only to escort him. From here on, Leon had to proceed alone. Just as he was starting to panic, a figure approached him. The next second, they collided. Ian, completely smitten, recognized Leon despite his disguise. Could his helper be Eddie Cochon? As Ian continued to gawk, Eddie launched into a dramatic performance. "Oh, my lady, I apologize. I've been terribly rude. I didn't realize you were the niece of Princess Roshina's distant uncle, and also the distant cousin of Duke Herwin. Please forgive my impudence, my lady." Ian, upon hearing this, was thoroughly intimidated. Outmatched in social standing, he could only slink away, relieved. Leon was astonished. He hadn't realized dealing with Ian could be so simple. "I heard you be helping me. Getting into Ruber must be difficult," Leon said. Eddie adjusted his glasses. "Not at all," he replied. "I'm a Ruber native." Leon was stunned. Before he could recover from his shock, Eddie had given him a complete makeover. "You're truly beautiful, Leon," he remarked. "It's no wonder he's so worried about you." Utterly sinful. He stepped closer as he spoke, his manner unsettling. Ignoring Eddie's disturbingly lecherous expression, Leon steered the conversation back on track. "Let's skip the pleasantries and discuss the plan." Eddie finally got down to business. "I know the roads of Ruber are like the back of my hand. Tonight, they'll kidnap you. You'll let yourself be captured and taken to their hideout. I'll immediately signal the police. They plan to raid the murderer's den." "Absolutely," Leon agreed without hesitation. Entering Ruber directly might be the fastest way to find her mother. Having concluded the official business, Eddie reverted to his usual self. "After you graduate, have you considered returning to the academy as a teacher?" His gaze, undisguised and unsettling, made Leon freeze. Before she could answer, Eddie lurched forward, invading her personal space. "Come work for me. I've always wanted a bright, sharp student like you as a disciple." Leon, utterly disinterested, took a step back, only to be firmly grasped by the lecherous Eddie. He had a burning question for Leon. "How do you do it? You're clearly a man, yet your disguise as a woman is flawless." His hands, restless and unwelcome, traced the lines of Leanne's palm. Do you even wear women's undergarments? Leanne cried out in alarm. She finally understood Claude's warning. She hadn't expected this beast to prey on his own students. Shoving Eddie away, she drew the dagger Claude had given her. I'm warning you. Keep your hands to yourself. The threat only seemed to pique Eddie's interest. We're both men. What's there to be shy about? I'm just curious how you manage it. I wasn't trying to harass you. Backed against a wall, Leanne was terrified. Leanne, in her second attempt at wearing women's clothing, had caught the eye of the academy's supervisor, Eddie Cochon. He grabbed her hand, intending to check if she was wearing women's undergarments. Leanne, unable to bear it any longer, drew the dagger Claude had given her and pointed it at Eddie. But this only seemed to excite him further. Leanne was trapped, with nowhere left to retreat. Then a familiar, deep voice cut through the air. A moment later, a dagger was pressed against Eddie's throat. Claude had arrived, ready to defend Leanne. I warned you not to lay a hand on my students. Just an hour ago. After completing his escort mission, Claude met with the military. The suspect's hideout was near the central tower. The informant hadn't revealed the exact location. The suspects changed their hideout daily. It was possible their network spanned the entire Ruber region, and Eddie Cochon had agreed to help. This map was his creation. Are you referring to Eddie Cochon from the academy? Yes, he should already be at the library, meeting with Leanne. Claude's head dropped to the news. Lieutenant Brighton, if a single hair on Leanne Bell's head is harmed, you'll all pay the price. Claude raced to the library, arriving just in time to witness the scene. He was furious. You're overreacting. This is perfectly appropriate. Eddie, seeing Claude's rage, backed away nervously. He only relaxed slightly when Claude demanded an apology. Duke Claude Shaud, you don't need to be so overprotective. Leanne isn't a child. He's about to have his coming-of-age ceremony. He's a grown man. Claude had never encountered someone so shameless. I should cut out your tongue. He reached out, but the person in his arms held him back. Claude's anger didn't abate. Leanne was simply afraid Claude would act rashly. Besides, the library was full of academy students. This scene would damage the Duke's reputation. Claude suppressed his fury. This is my final warning, Eddie Cochon. But Eddie just laughed. Do you have any right to judge me? The words struck a nerve. Seeing Claude's hesitation, Eddie decided to retreat. He apologized to Leanne and left. Leanne tried to reassure Claude, but he didn't seem to hear. He was only concerned with what that repulsive man had done to Leanne. He couldn't believe it. He'd seen it with his own eyes, yet Leanne still lied, claiming he hadn't done anything. Claude couldn't bear to imagine what might have happened if he hadn't arrived in time. He grabbed Leanne, forcing him to meet his gaze. I told you to be careful, but I didn't know that street person was Eddie Cochon. It hurts. Let me go. Let you go. And then what? You'll just hide behind someone else again. The question struck Leanne dumb. When will you ever act like a man? The way you look, the way you act, it's just pathetic. Unjustly accused, Leanne felt deeply wronged. I've never hidden behind anyone. If you find me pathetic and annoying, then don't help me. I can handle my own affairs. I've managed perfectly well up until now without your grace's help. Why are you treating me like this? What have I done to anger you? Is it because I'm not like a man? What does it even mean to be like a man? Leanne's voice cracked as he poured out his frustration. The next moment, Claude shoved him against the bookshelves. He'd meant to express concern, but the words twisted on his tongue. You irritate me. You're an eyesore. Damn you, Leanne Bell. Leanne stared in disbelief. His eyes wide, he whispered, I know. No, you don't. I said I know. I've known ever since you called me a counterfeit. Humiliated tears welled up. Claude sucked in a breath. He hadn't realized a childhood taunt had stuck with Leanne for so long. Ian stepped up to Claude. Please forgive my impertinence, Your Grace, Duke Shaud. I'll try my best not to appear before you. Leanne's trip to the Royal Library had not only failed to uncover the culprit, but had also led to an unpleasant encounter with Duke Claude. Not only did he not find the culprit, but he also had a falling out with Duke Shaud. Dejected, he returned home. To avoid worrying his maid, Pepe, he lied, claiming he was simply tired from wearing the formal attire. As if on cue, his stomach rumbled, reassuring Pepe, who then took her leave. Gazing out at the night, Leanne's thoughts were a whirlwind. Claude's words, damn you, Leanne Bell, kept echoing in his mind. Just then, Prince Ian of the enemy nation appeared. He had been captivated by his chance encounter with Leanne in his female attire. He longed to relive the moment, but Leanne had already changed back into men's clothing. He was curious why Leanne had dressed that way, considering he had always refused Ian's previous requests. Since it was a covert operation, Leanne hadn't told Ian about it, simply saying he had something to do that day. Reaching out, he gently brushed Ian's hair. What happened to you? Your hair is all wet. Leon's touch was something Ian craved. Wagging his metaphorical tail, he leaned closer, startling Leon. Ian was always doing strange things. Leon's panicked expression made Ian chuckle. I just wanted to hug you because you looked so vulnerable. I don't have any impure intentions, I assure you. Leon didn't believe a word of it. Not only was he far from vulnerable, but the rain had already stopped. The next moment, Ian's hand covered his. Don't be scared. It's the rainy season, so it's cold today. Leon knew Ian was trying to comfort him. Although he didn't understand Ian's intentions, he declined his offer. He could warm up with soup. Leon had just gotten out of bed when Ian flippantly climbed onto it. Leanne's usual composure was his charm, but at this moment, it made him seem heartbroken. Suddenly, Leon had an idea. Can you teach me how to use a knife tomorrow? The next day arrived quickly, and Ian, as promised, was teaching Leon how to use a knife. Angling the blade downwards like this makes it easier to strike vital areas. Here and here. The familiar words reminded him of Claude. His expression made it clear he was thinking of someone. Ian, consumed with jealousy, attacked with lightning speed. Before Leon could react, he pulled Leon into his arms, the young man's face flushing crimson. What are you doing? You scare me to death, Ian said with a mischievous grin, facing Leon, who held a knife. The moment you react, you lose. Leon retorted, exasperated. Do you want to kill me? I haven't even drawn the knife. In truth, Ian was more concerned about why Leon suddenly wanted to learn how to use a knife. As long as Leon stayed by his side, he would never need to raise a blade against anyone. Leon gripped the knife tightly, Claude's words echoing in his mind. He just wanted to prove he didn't need anyone's protection. He wouldn't hide anymore. Taking advantage of Ian's momentary distraction, Leon launched an attack. The strike was impressive, even to Ian, a seasoned warrior. A few days later, Leon appeared at the academy. From the whispers circulating amongst the students, he learned of Eddie Coccon's expulsion. It had to be Duke Claude's doing. He'd always seen Eddie Coccon as a thorn in his side. Coccon had once made a move on him when he was younger. It was from that moment. Before Leon could recover from his shock, his nemesis, Torin, called out to him. Ignoring the clear indication that Torin wanted to speak, Leon turned to leave. But Torin's peculiar question stopped him in his tracks. Do you have a sister? Or a younger sister? One that nobody knows about. Ever since he'd seen the woman who resembled Lee and in the library, the young Earl Torin had been obsessed. Abandoning his usual caustic demeanor, he'd awkwardly sought out Leon solely to inquire about the girl. Do you have a sister? Or a younger sister? One that nobody knows about? The question, practically an accusation of hidden parentage, was met with Lee Ann's icy indifference. Such an impertinent question. What would people think if they overheard? Just then, Claude's voice rang out. Excuse me. As Claude drew closer, Leon bowed respectfully in greeting. But Claude, clearly still angered by the previous incident, ignored him completely and walked away. A pang of hurt resonated within Leon. The hateful words, detestable Leon, echoed in his ears once more. The scene shifted, and Leon was now dressed in women's clothing. Because Marilyn had personally chosen the outfit, he hadn't been able to refuse. His exquisite beauty made Marilyn envious. You look too delicate, not like a man. I almost suspect you're actually a woman. Isn't it ridiculous that I'm even thinking this? She muttered to herself, then opened a small box. This is a gift for you, Leon. If you're lucky, it will protect your heart. Leon was truly grateful for Marilyn's concern. But just because I look delicate doesn't mean I'm not a man. I can protect my own heart. He undid the buttons of his shirt, revealing a bulletproof vest beneath. But upon arriving at the drawing room, Leanne's bravado vanished. Claude's gaze was fixed on him. And then there was Prince Ian of the enemy nation. The crown prince had given the order to kill on sight. This time, he had to deliver a fitting punishment. But if the criminal were killed on the spot, the hostage would be in danger. And Leon was the hostage Claude spoke of. Putting Leon in harm's way was absolutely unacceptable. Leon hadn't expected Claude to be so concerned for his safety. Just a while ago, he'd called him detestable. The crown prince had also considered this, which was why he'd requested Prince Ian's assistance. After all, Prince Ian was known as a killing machine. And the reason he insisted on accepting help from the enemy nation was because Marquis Bell would be arriving in Ruber in 2 days. They had to resolve this matter before then. If the Marquis found out, Lian's punishment might be far worse than confinement. The thought that Claude would risk Lian's safety simply to avoid confinement was infuriating. Claude shook his head in frustration and stormed off. Seeing this, Lian also rose to leave, as he was expected to accompany Duke Claude. Before leaving, he specifically warned Ian not to make a scene, as it would complicate matters. It wasn't the prince who was protecting him. It was the dagger at his hip. On the road to Rubur, Lian was so embarrassed he was practically digging his toes into the carriage floor. He tried to break the awkward silence by speaking to Claude. "Where are we going today?" But Claude acted as if he hadn't heard, keeping his gaze fixed out the window, silent. "I heard Adika Khan was expelled," Lian continued, pushing further. "Without a guide, well, definitely. I could be our guide." He'd finally managed to pry a response from the Duke. But Claude's reply was unexpected. "I'll guide us." If Lian remembered correctly, the last time Claude had acted as a guide, it had resulted in the Duke becoming quite notorious. "Don't worry, I've memorized everything," Claude said. "We've already made arrangements. The informant in Rubur will leak your information to them. That will give them an excuse to kidnap you. Everything will go smoothly after that." Having said this, Claude fell silent once more, lost in thought. Lian finally voiced the question that had been plaguing him. "A few days ago, I saw a woman who looked exactly like you." His heart pounded in his chest. He lowered his head, trying to appear calm. "Haha, even our hand are the same size." Lian chuckled nervously. "There must be someone out there who looks like me. Lots of people have said they've seen a woman who resembles me. Torin said so too." But Claude wasn't so easily fooled. "I'm looking for that woman. I want to confirm something." "I think you might be that woman," said Lian. "Are you crazy?" Lian blurted out. "I'm going crazy because of someone." After they disembarked, they wandered around the outskirts of Rubur. They walked close together, but Lian felt a distinct difference this time. If he's the culprit, he wouldn't want to be seen with Duke Shad, Lian thought. Claude, seemingly unconcerned, flashed a devilish smirk. "Let the culprit think, CA. Lian's my lover. That's their excuse to kidnap him. Because outwardly, CA, Lian doesn't look like my sister at all. But Miss Selby is your lover, Your Highness. Isn't that common knowledge?" Lian challenged. "If Marilyn were my true lover," Claude purred, "then you would be my secret one." Suddenly, Lian's gaze was drawn to a figure on the bridge. A bespectacled man in a tall hat. It was the doctor who used to visit his mother's shop when he was a child. Just as he was thinking this, Claude spoke. "It seems his time to leave has come. I'll have the carriage ready and waiting for you, Miss Callian." Claude had used Leanne's real name. Lian froze, his heart leaping into his throat. He asked cautiously, "What Callian?" Claude leaned in close, his warm breath tickling Leanne's ear. "That was just a name I came up with," he explained. Leanne's heart fluttered. "Stay here. They'll approach you soon." He placed a reassuring hand on Leanne's shoulder. "Be careful," he warned, before turning and walking away. Lian watched him go, lost in thought. He's so composed, even towards someone he finds detestable. Is it a necessary trait for a high-ranking nobleman? Or does he really suspect I'm a woman? What does he want to confirm with me? Lian waited alone for a long time. Finally, someone approached him, but he never could have imagined that they would send such young children. "We're so hungry," one of them pleaded. "Could you buy us some bread?" If he cooperated too readily, it would arouse suspicion. So, Lian offered them a gold coin. "Buy whatever you want," he said. The girl suddenly became agitated. "The bad men will steal the money. Please, miss, buy us some bread. Pretty please." Lian leaned in conspiratorially. "Then hide this," he whispered, slipping her something small. "I'll go buy you some." But as he turned to go, his expression hardened. Using such pitiful children for their crimes, he couldn't accept it. He followed the girl, his mind drifting back to his childhood. When he was their age, he too would search for bakeries with cheap, delicious bread. "You must be starving," he said gently. "Let's go." He didn't know that this simple act of kindness would save his life. Before Lian could buy the bread, the girl suddenly declared she wasn't hungry anymore. They wanted to go straight back. It was then that Lian noticed the path behind the girl. It was a small road leading to Rubur. The culprits must have had people lying in wait there. "Miss, could you do me a favor?" the older sister asked. She then whispered something in the girl's ear and, with a smile, sent the two siblings on their way. So much bread. Lian left it all at the bakery, asking the owner to give it to the children when they returned. He took only one loaf for himself. Having made these arrangements, he set off on the road to Rubur. Sure enough, there were people waiting in ambush. He was promptly knocked unconscious by the assailants. His handbag fell to the ground. "What? This isn't much. I thought we were kidnapping a noble lady. But why does he look so familiar?" Let's just take him. As for why he looks familiar, we'll figure that out when we get there. To lure out the real culprit behind the serial killings, Leon, disguised as Duke Claude's secret lover, allowed himself to be kidnapped. Claude soon arrived at the scene. By following them, he could find the culprit's hideout, but he couldn't wait for the police. He had to get to Lee and immediately. The next moment, Prince Ian of the enemy nation appeared beside him. He wanted to go with Claude. Your Highness, it's best you stay out of this. Leon has been kidnapped, and you expect me to stand idly by? This is part of our plan. Strictly speaking, this is a matter for the Kayan Empire. But for Claude, it was Leanne's business. For Ian, it was a personal matter concerning Leanne. This gave Claude pause. What exactly is Lee into your Highness? Ian stopped dead in his tracks. Someone I intend to spend my future with. Amidst the rising tension, the siblings from earlier appeared. They recognized Leon's bag instantly. The hot-headed Ian immediately drew his sword. Where is the owner of this bag? Claude stopped him at once. Please put your sword away, your Highness. They're children. At Claude's words, Ian suddenly smiled. If Claude knew Leon wasn't a man, he doubted he'd be so calm. It seems you don't understand. The more innocent, the more cruel. It wasn't Ian who spoke, but Claude, striding towards the children. Please spare us. They said if we brought the lady, they'd let us go. Just then, the bakery owner came running. These children are innocent. They're terrifying. None of the residents dare disobey them. I saw him go down that alleyway over there. The little girl, trembling, gathered her courage. That lady told me to hold on to this, and said if I met a handsome man with blue eyes, I should give it to him. She opened Leon's bag. The loaf of bread inside looked strangely out of place. Sure enough, looking up, they saw the mark Leon had left. Breadcrumbs would guide them. Meanwhile, on a dilapidated boat by the river, you saw it, right? Duke Claude dotes on him. This time, it'll definitely be different from Marilyn. What about the children? They saw our faces. We can't leave any witnesses. Leon, blindfolded, was thrown to the ground. One of the kidnappers was about to cut off his finger to send to Claude, but the doctor stopped him. He looked so familiar. I'm sure I've seen him somewhere. Leon slowly opened his eyes to see a group of kidnappers standing over him. His relaxed nerves instantly tightened. The doctor crouched beside him, studying him carefully. Except for the hair and eyes, he really looks like Laura. He couldn't believe how much his daughter had grown. Realizing this, he snatched the word mama from his lips for Leanne's sake. But he was met with Leanne's fury. Why are you targeting women and children? Why are you doing such despicable things? The doctor, speaking formally, continued to justify himself. You live in luxury every day. This doesn't seem like a question you should be asking. You have weapons in your hands. You should at least be going after people who are also armed. You don't actually think you're dispensing justice, do you? The badly injured kidnappers instantly darkened. But Leanne's accusations continued. This is a crime. What's next? Murder? Then he was cut short by a sharp blow. Stop your nonsense. I can be sure you're not Laura. It seems I was mistaken. Leon, pretending to be Duke Claude's lover, successfully lured the kidnappers into revealing themselves. From their mouths, he heard the name Mama. Sadly, in her search for her lost son, Mama had already left Ruber. But one thing was certain. The leader of the kidnappers was the doctor from all those years ago. Now they intended to cut Leanne's hair and use it to threaten Duke Claude. Seeing this, Leon suppressed his fear and deliberately brought up the children working for the kidnappers to stall for time. Do you really intend to kill the children who work for you? Why should we worry about that? They were abandoned by their parents long ago. It's because of nobles like you that people can't even feed themselves and have to abandon their children. In other words, you're the reason those children are in that situation. Hearing this, Leon could only find it ludicrous. Don't try to justify yourselves. You're using children as tools for your crimes, even silencing them. Do you call that justice? His words instantly enraged the kidnappers. One grabbed Leanne's hair. Shut up. You should be begging for your life. Facing their threats, Leon showed no fear. The one who should be begging is you, not me. Enraged, the kidnapper chopped off half of Leanne's hair. He didn't understand why nobles were so arrogant, clinging to their dignity even when facing death. But once blood was shed, things were different. After all, they had killed 12 nobles already. Killing Leon would make 13, and every single one of them deserved it. They treated us like slaves, killed commoners without reason. You wouldn't understand what it's like to live a life worse than an insect's. But what they didn't know was that those children, the ones they considered worse than insects, those they had abandoned, were already under surveillance. Lian, having anticipated the kidnapper's arrogance and loosened his own bonds, slowly stood up. He informed them, "Those children have already been taken in by the royal guard. I'm curious how you plan to silence them. What awaits you is judgment by the very nobles you despise. And I'm not Duke Claude's lover. I am Lian, the second son of Marquis Bell, one of the children they supposedly abandoned. If you pull that trigger, you'll give away your position. You're men with grand ambitions. You wouldn't choose to throw your lives away, would you?" But the kidnappers didn't believe a Marquis would abandon his own son. They were sure they could escape by holding Lian hostage. However, Lian's next words filled them with terror. "I told you I'm bait. The nobles will shoot me first, then capture you all. That's why I'm here." As he spoke, he proudly tossed the bread crust from his hand. The kidnappers were stunned. The brat had left a marker without them noticing. Furious at being tricked, they decided to kill him. To stall for time until Duke Claude arrived, Lian pretended he wanted to understand their motives. He asked why they were doing this. He couldn't have imagined their answer would be so simple. They were starving. "The jewelry you're wearing is enough to feed my family for months." But now, jewels and money were useless. If their location was revealed, it would be too late. One of the kidnappers, agitated, aimed his gun at Lian. The doctor tried to stop him, but it was too late. The kidnapper pulled the trigger. In the next instant, Lian collapsed into a pool of blood. Desperate to prove his worth and uncover the truth behind the serial killings, Lian had put himself in harm's way. He hadn't anticipated that before Duke Claude's reinforcements could arrive, he would be shot down by the panicked kidnapper. Just as Lian had predicted, the gunshot quickly revealed the kidnapper's location. The guards rushed in with lightning speed. At this rate, the kidnappers would be completely wiped out. To avoid exposing the mastermind behind the operation, the doctor thought of a plan. He stabbed his own arm with a sword, pretending to be a hostage himself. He pleaded with the guards to spare his life. Just then, an authoritative voice boomed from above. "Where's the lady?" He looked up to meet the sharp gazes of Duke Claude and Prince Ian. In the next second, the dark muzzle of a gun was pressed against his head. "Answer me. Where's the lady?" Duke Claude's face was a terrifying mask of fury. The doctor trembled, pointing a shaky finger towards a door. "And in there, he's already dead." Hearing the word dead, Claude felt the world tilt. The image of Lian lying alone in a pool of blood flashed through his mind. He froze, rooted to the spot, unable to move. Then, Prince Ian, who had been standing behind him, stepped forward. Composed in contrast to Claude, he said, "Duke Claude, don't believe him. They're all in cahoots." Exposed, the doctor immediately fell to his knees, lying through his teeth. "I was forced. They said there was a patient here. Then I saw a woman die. I was just trying to escape." For Claude, these words were another devastating blow. He couldn't bear the thought that Lian was gone. Ignoring Ian's calls, he strode towards the dilapidated boat. He had to see for himself if the doctor's words were true. But the moment he opened the door, he was stunned. Lian lay motionless in the cold blood. Claude's mind went blank. Snapping back to reality, he rushed to Lian's side. To his immense relief, Lian was still alive. The light returned to Claude's eyes. He gently knelt beside Lian. At that very moment, Lian opened his eyes and whispered, "Your Grace." Relief washed over Claude. He anxiously checked Lian for injuries. It turned out that in the critical moment, Lian had stabbed one of the kidnappers. Because the wound wasn't fatal, the kidnapper was still alive. Lian had captured one of them. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was that Lian was safe. Just then, a guard rushed in. "Your Grace, the boat is sinking." The last one to escape scuttled it. Claude whispered, "Lian, can you stand?" Ian's voice came from behind him. "I'll take him. He needs a doctor. I can handle this, Your Grace. Let's go home." And with that, Ian lifted Lian from Claude's arms. This tender scene was a painful sight for Claude. He seethed with jealousy. Why was it Ian and not him? The guards approached. Claude's face was a thundercloud. "Pursue the remaining kidnappers. Apprehend the witness. That doctor. Arrest this one too. Find out who owns this boat." Having issued his orders, he left the scene. He was completely unaware that his own home was about to be stolen. Prince Ian carried the injured Lian back to his residence. He carefully tended to the wound on Lian's face. As he reached for the other injuries, Lian gently pushed him away. "Let Pepe do it." Ian chuckled softly. "I assure you, my skills are superior to your mates. After all, this sort of thing is rather commonplace for me." He paused. "Why did you do something so reckless?" Lian lowered his gaze. "Because I could help." Understanding dawning in his eyes, Ian deliberately applied a bit more pressure to the wound he was cleaning. This fool, risking his life for such a reason. Moreover, Leon's actions were far too serious. Even if he didn't want to look, he knew. The more he looked, the more he would discover. Before Leon could figure out what exactly Claude would discover, he was startled by Ian's next shocking words. Actually, I quite like that side of you, but I don't want you to be in danger because of it. Hearing this, Leon was instantly irritated. Ian, please stop joking, saying things like you like me. His words were cut short by Ian's sudden interruption. Carrion, do you still think I'm joking? After the question, he put on a practiced, fake smile and abruptly leaned in. A sudden, unexpected kiss landed on Leanne's cheek. The sudden stillness gave him goosebumps. Leanne hadn't yet processed it. Is this punishment for tempting others? Ian was utterly bewildered. Who exactly had he tempted? But Ian didn't offer an answer. Instead, he patted his backside and left. Outside the room, Pepe, who had been anxiously waiting, bowed respectfully. Go help your master change clothes. If there are any serious wounds, tell me. Despite Ian's seemingly calm demeanor, Claude's words, he's my carrion, continued to bother him. Could it be that his rival already knew about carrion? Just as he was thinking this, Duke Claude appeared before him, followed by a man dressed in Guer clothing. You planted something strange around Carrion's house. Your Highness, this is Kian, not Guer. You're a guest here, and you're planting spies? You seem to have forgotten your place. Seeing this, Ian didn't show any panic. Instead, he gave a meaningful smile. That person wasn't watching Carrion. He was sent by my brother to watch me. He had failed, but such an excuse wouldn't be satisfying. He also understood that Claude's displeasure was reasonable. Currently, although Claude didn't seem to want to pursue the matter, it didn't mean that he himself wouldn't. Come with me. Inside the room, Leanne, drenched in sweat from the pain, said, as Ian had predicted, your skills are impressive, but it's unbearable. Pepe was nearly in tears from worry, but Leanne insisted, it's not going to kill me. Continue. As expected, the pain was excruciating for Leanne once again. Just as Pepe was frantically tending to him, Claude said, let me see, startling both servant and master. Doesn't this man make any sound when he walks? Then Claude took over from Pepe. He wanted to see how badly Leanne was injured. After confirming that his arm was all right, he wanted to check his ribs. Leanne immediately crossed his arms defensively over his chest, putting on a look of defiance. Claude was instantly annoyed. You're clearly rejecting me now. I'll have Pepe bandage me later. Seeing this, Claude didn't press the issue. He simply told him to lie down and rest. Leanne was still curious about the reason for Claude's sudden visit. Could he still suspect that he was the woman he met in Ruber? To avoid unnecessary trouble, he mustered his courage and lied to Claude. Your Grace, I'm not the woman you're looking for. For a moment, the room was so quiet that only the gentle patter of rain could be heard. Why would you suddenly say that? Weren't you here to confirm? Claude's hand reached out and gently caressed Leanne's cheek. The atmosphere became somewhat ambiguous. About that. Now, whether you are or aren't that woman, it doesn't matter. After nearly losing Leanne forever, Claude finally understood his own confused feelings. Now, whether Leanne was male or female didn't matter. Because those foolish police officers readily believed slander, the doctor they had finally caught escaped. Now Claude needed a witness, and that witness was Leanne. But considering Leanne's current physical condition, he didn't intend to do so. Besides, he himself remembered the doctor's face. He still hadn't explained the purpose of his visit. Seeing him constantly browsing through books, Leanne came to an improbable conclusion. Could it be that you're here to read? Claude looked at him, speechless. Seriously? Speaking of witnesses, Leanne remembered something. The two children who helped him deliver the bag to Claude needed a benefactor. Although he wanted to take them in, he didn't have the authority to hire anyone. So I want Duke Claude to take them in. Compared to me, they're the real witnesses. The kidnappers will soon target those two children. After all, those villains said they would kill them. Those bastards. They not only hurt Duke Claude's fiancée, Miss Selby, but also many innocent women. So you got involved in this for them? Of course, because I can help. His voice grew quieter as he spoke because he had another motive. That was to enter the Lu Kingdom region. Maybe he could find his mother. Claude still showed no sign of agreeing. Leanne had a sudden inspiration and thought of Marilyn. For your fiancé's sake, haven't you always wanted to catch those villains? Let those two children be witnesses. But before he could finish, he was interrupted by the other man's sudden laughter. What's so funny? I'm not joking. A devilishly charming smile played on Claude's lips. Oh, guess what's so funny? First of all, Marilyn and I aren't engaged. Are you guessing I'm joking with you, or trying to prove I'm crazy? In truth, he wasn't sure when it had started, but his attention had become completely focused on Lee, and wherever Claude went, he was always surrounded by fawning admirers. They would trample their own families and self-respect underfoot for him. He had long grown tired of this pattern of interaction. One day, Princess Rashina asked him a question. Do you think the Duke of the Empire could ever have a friend? Claude remained silent. Seeing this, Rashina continued, I gave up long ago. Even those you consider friends and love will one day bow down before you. At that moment, he realized the princess was right. No one would ever truly treat him with sincerity. It was a flaw that came with the power he possessed. But just as he was getting used to this, Leon appeared. The second son of the esteemed Bell family, scared by a gunshot, was he. Leon and his younger brother Ian's identities were revealed before him. Unlike other nobles, Leon didn't know how to hide his feelings. It was as if, for the first time, someone from the Empire was looking at him with such an intense gaze. It made him genuinely happy. But when he realized that Li An's awkward gaze was directed solely at him, he felt inexplicably irritated. Waywardness, annoyance, worry, confusion. These were all emotions he never associated with himself. But it wasn't until he was completely consumed by them that he understood. Perhaps from a moment he first saw Li An, he was destined to fall deeply, irrevocably for him. Your Grace, you intimidate me. Li An's sudden words brought Claude back to reality. At least he doesn't think I'm easy to bully, he thought. Don't you hate me? Hate me intensely, even. But why don't I hate you? What? I don't hate you. Li An really? As Claude said this, his cheeks flushed. The sight was so captivating that Li An thought he was hallucinating. Even after Claude turned and left, his heart continued to pound uncontrollably. That strange feeling once again filled his chest. The hand that Claude had held was still burning hot. He could only repeat to himself over and over, get a grip. Get a grip, Li An. His son had nearly been shot by kidnappers, yet his mother not only showed no concern, but instead added insult to injury by saying she would punish him. Li An braced himself for the arrival of his mother and brother. He hadn't expected such an outcome. It left him feeling deeply hurt. Thankfully, his brother, Ian, was as warm as ever, giving Li An a big hug. No matter what, as long as you're all right. The next second, Ian's demeanor suddenly changed. I heard that while I was away from the capital, some vermin were constantly tormenting you. I won't say who those vermin are, but now that I'm here, no one will be able to torment you. You've been through a lot, Leon. For Leon, his brother was truly an angel sent from heaven, effortlessly dealing with the vermin that had been plaguing him. Not only that, but Ian's arrival in the capital for the succession had single-handedly conquered the capital's social circles. Princess Rosina von Witzmann, the heir to the Marquis of Bell, favored by the Emperor. It wasn't just these titles that held sway. Ian himself was truly charming and capable in every aspect. Just as Leon was internally celebrating his brother's triumph, a throng of people quietly surrounded him. Goodness, it really is Callian. You look just like Marquis Shao. Please pass a message to Marquis Ian Shao for me. Startled by the sudden commotion, Leon froze, then took off running. If you have business with my brother, go find him yourselves. He had thought that with his brother's return, no one would notice him. He hadn't expected that these people would try to get close to Ian through him. To escape the throng, Leon stumbled into a place he'd never been before. The frantic run aggravated his wounds, sending stinging pains through him. Only then, catching his breath, did he notice the room's furnishings. He hadn't even known such a room existed in the academy. A faint scent of lavender hung in the air. Preoccupied with his surroundings, he looked for a place to rest. But the firm surface beneath him made his eyes widen in surprise. A sudden sound made Leon jump nearly out of his skin. He had inadvertently stumbled into Claude's private quarters. A shriek ripped through the air, followed by a firm hand encircling his waist as he tried to scramble up. Quiet, you're making my head ring. I was sleeping. In my private space. Is there a problem with that? Leon immediately stammered that he hadn't known, and certainly wouldn't have intruded if he had. There was still the small matter of Claude's arm, which remained firmly around his waist. Could you let go of me? I'll I'll go get you something to drink." Instead of releasing him, Claude pulled Leon fully onto the bed. "There's nothing else to drink. Stay here. Wait until it's quiet outside." The feeling was strange, awkward, yet not unpleasant. The tiny fragments of memory Leon had tried so hard to suppress bloomed unexpectedly, and he ducked his head, changing the subject. "It smells like lavender in here. You're not wearing any scent. I've been running around all day. If you can't smell my sweat, you should see a doctor." Claude grinned. Leon genuinely didn't smell of sweat. Seeing Ann's incredulous expression, he added with a laugh, "Or maybe your sense of smell is the problem." The next moment, Leon leaned in, sniffing like a puppy at Claude's clothes. Claude was completely taken aback. Leon, seemingly oblivious, continued, "Marquis Xiao smells of lavender. My nose is fine. It's Marquis Xiao whose sense of smell is off." Claude already harbored feelings for Leon, but now Leon was pressed against him, sniffing like a curious puppy, just to confirm the scent of lavender. For a moment, Claude's mind went blank. He sat up abruptly. "Fine, whatever you say." Leon was startled by Claude's sudden movement. It seemed the commotion outside had died down. To hide his embarrassment, he decided to make his escape. He hesitated at the door, voicing a lingering question. "But Marquis Claude, why didn't you ask about what happened on the boat that day?" Claude looked at Leon, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "I stepped in to protect you. The rest doesn't concern me." Those words hit Leon harder than the close proximity moments before. He was utterly flustered. The only response Claude received was the resounding slam of the door. He was equally flustered. He was being driven mad by Leanne. At the same time, Leanne's heart pounded in his chest. A daring thought arose. Could Claude have realized he was a woman? Or could he like him as a man? As he wrestled with these possibilities, the voice of Prince Ian from the enemy nation sounded behind him. Injured to the point he could barely walk, he nonetheless bounded about like an enthusiastic puppy. Ian and Claude remained oblivious to his affections. His adoration was always so blatant, a constant, unspoken "I miss you" radiating from him. But a certain villain persistently thwarted any opportunity for connection. "I'm taking a huge risk just to see you." The villain in question was none other than John, Kalian's older brother. John was currently holding someone responsible for his younger brother's injury. "So," he pressed, "to apprehend the culprit who assaulted the noblewoman, Eddie Han proposed that my brother disguise himself as a woman. Is that it? Is that what this is about?" The officers, interrogated to the point of perspiration, could only manage a nervous assent. But Ian, who had vanished along with Kalian, was now implicated as well. 7 individuals had perished that day. However, the bullets retrieved from their bodies weren't of their nation's make. Despite the deceased being criminals, the police were still obligated to ascertain the shooter's identity. Their investigation was abruptly halted by Prince Ian from the enemy nation. He's a guest of the royal family. Cease your inquiries. His sole concern was Eddie Han's location. Just as the officers found themselves in a predicament, Claude materialized, providing the answer. Eddie Han has been dismissed. The entire capital is in an uproar because of you. Is Princess Rashina pleased? I've heard rumors that you have more than a few admirers vying for your attention, despite your engagement. You're joking, right? Rashina is the only one for me. Is something troubling you? You appear anxious. This isn't your usual demeanor. Prompted by this observation, Claude finally divulged the reason for his visit. I recently encountered a woman who bears an uncanny resemblance to Kalian. A fleeting expression of alarm crossed Prince Ian from the enemy nation's face. He swiftly recovered his composure. A woman whose beauty rivals my Kalian's? I'm not jesting. Prince Ian from the enemy nation. I intend to find her. Fearful of betraying himself, Prince Ian from the enemy nation made to depart. I believe you're mistaken, Claude. Claude, however, had no intention of releasing him. Are you certain? Sensing Claude's unwavering resolve, Prince Ian from the enemy nation abandoned his amiable pretense. I fail to comprehend what you hope to gain from me. I suggest you take your leave. I have a dinner engagement with Rashina. Claude instantly recognized Rashina as a mere pretext. He saw through Prince Ian from the enemy nation's clumsy lie. Regardless of Kalian's whereabouts, Prince Ian invariably located him with remarkable speed. His fondness for Kalian was both ardent and unconcealed. Kalian was aware of this and ill-equipped to handle it. His reprieve was imminent. However, Prince Ian was soon to return to his homeland. Though reluctant to depart, further postponement was no longer feasible. He was obligated to leave immediately following Prince Ian from the enemy nation's engagement ceremony. Before his departure, he wished to bestow a gift upon Callian, anything Callian desired. Prince Ian's underlying meaning was unmistakable. Callian, however, was incapable of reciprocating. Observing this, Prince Ian refrained from pressing the matter, instead modifying his proposition. He offered to facilitate Callian's entry into the Lu Kingdom. He knew this was Li An's most fervent desire. I'll create a diversion. You go and seek what you're searching for. The typically composed Callian was momentarily taken aback. How did you discover that? Did my brother divulge something? At that precise instant, Prince Ian placed a kiss upon his cheek. Since my arrival, my gaze has been fixated solely on you. By observing you intently, I've gleaned numerous unforeseen insights. Callian, I've already confessed, it was love at first sight. A sudden rustling sound interrupted the charged moment. Prince Ian glanced upwards. As anticipated, Claude had arrived. Contrary to expectations, he refrained from intervening. Instead, he turned and departed, a departure from his customary behavior. Callian's gaze followed Prince Ian's line of sight, but Prince Ian swiftly redirected his attention. Just a rat, likely scurrying back to its nest. Now tell me, how can I assist you? Despite the allure of Prince Ian's offer, Callian declined. His earlier mention of a parting gift had been a mere pretense. His true intention was to express his fear of being forgotten by Callian. That was the message he yearned to convey. Callian, however, was incapable of reciprocating his affections. He hastily excused himself and fled the scene. Undeterred, Prince Ian remained resolute. He resolved to expedite his plans. It was only after the interrogation at the Capitol Police Department 10 days later that they realized this matter exceeded their jurisdiction. The kidnappers were all following the instructions of the man who called himself a doctor. However, there's someone else behind him. Kidnapping wasn't their real objective. Their true purpose was to raise funds. Therefore, Callian suspected his mother might be in danger. Perhaps her situation was more precarious than he imagined. The scene shifts, and he's submerged in water again. Security in the Lu Kingdom must be tight these days. The prospect of finding his mother seemed more distant than ever. Does Mother know how dangerous that so-called doctor is? Lost in thought, he didn't notice a figure quietly approaching. I wondered who it could be. So it's you, Callian. He found himself face-to-face with Claude once again in this unexpected way. Enjoying the water? I didn't expect to see Marquis Ian Xiao here. Callian clutched his chest, feigning fear. Claude undid another button. Care to join me for a swim? It's the first time since leaving Kosovo. I haven't swum in ages. I'll come in too. Callian was struck dumb. Why you? You're not hunting. I am hunting, but there's a certain wild beast that keeps appearing in my hunting grounds. After 2 seconds of rapid mental processing, Callian stammered, "Are you referring to me? Think what you will." As he spoke, he buttoned his shirt again. Callian, puzzled, asked, "Aren't you coming in?" Claude chuckled. "You really were hoping to swim with me, weren't you?" Callian quickly backpedaled. He realized Claude had come hunting with Prince Ian. He simply didn't want anyone else to see Callian like this. "Wait until I'm out of sight before you come out. And it's best not to swim any further out. The water's deeper than you are over there." Callian bristled. "This depth is nothing to me." His indignant display made Claude laugh. "Really? You're not a child anymore." It was the first time Callian had seen him smile so brightly. It was captivating, almost mesmerizing. A single moment of feigned sweetness, yet it was hard to forget. But for him, his true self appeared false in the eyes of others. This false life was truly awful. It's revealed that Prince Ian confessed his feelings to Callian once again. Unfortunately, Claude stumbled upon them. He couldn't be as nonchalant as Ian, but he found Callian as a man utterly adorable. It was an undeniable truth, one that even he found frightening. The experienced Prince Ian recognized it instantly. Love. It seemed even the esteemed Marquis Ian Xiao wasn't immune. It was time for him to experience the torment, that terrible, inescapable emotion. A few days later, at the royal banquet, news spread that Marquis Ian Xiao had brought the culprit who attempted to harm his fiancée to justice. It became the topic of conversation. For a time, Marilyn became the object of everyone's envy, greatly satisfying his vanity. But the appearance of one person made him frown. That person was Callian. He'd heard that Callian had made a significant contribution to the recent suppression campaign. Just then, the Empire's three most handsome men entered, immediately capturing everyone's attention. Claude's eyes first sought out Callian. Marilyn caught this subtle gesture. The atmosphere between the three suddenly shifted, becoming strangely charged. The scene changes. Callian escaped to the back garden. Attending the event with the Marchioness was exhausting. After John's engagement ceremony, quietly returned to Kosovo. Today, observe the other nobles carefully. If you're confident you can handle the honor and disgrace, I'll give you a choice. But if you decide to be a nobleman, you'll have to live disguised as a man forever. And why was his mother so insistent on giving him a choice? Lost in thought, a male voice called out to him, "Callian, long time no see." He looked up to meet Marquis Ian Shao's fierce gaze. Callian immediately turned and fled. Ever since their last encounter in the library, when he was dressed as a woman. "You're like a bad penny," Ian said, his voice laced with a hint of amusement. "That woman in the library the other day, it was you, wasn't it? I heard all about it, though I fail to see how it's any of your business." "And yet you called me impertinent," Claude retorted, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "It was Marquis Shao who asked the impertinent question in the first place." Ian's lips curved into a sly smile. "You're just a pale imitation of John, Marquis Shao, and just as impertinent. Besides, does it really matter if it was me? Could it be that you were captivated by my feminine disguise?" Claude flushed crimson, Ian's pointed words striking a nerve. "If you want a contest," he snapped, "then challenge me to a proper duel. These constant skirmishes are tiresome." He turned sharply, only to collide with a solid wall of a man. To his surprise, it was Duke Claude. "Playing hide-and-seek with Marquis Shao, are we?" Duke Claude asked, his voice smooth but laced with steel. "Hide-and-seek," Ian replied, feigning innocence. "We were merely conversing." "What sort of conversation leads to talk of duels?" Duke Claude pressed, his gaze unwavering. Marquis Shao, startled by the sudden interrogation, stammered, I merely wanted an apology for the insult." Before Duke Claude could respond, another commanding voice cut through the tension. "I'd like to hear how my brother insulted you." It was John, the protective older brother, stepping in to defend Claude. "How did my brother insult you?" he repeated, his eyes fixed on Ian. "Tell me, and if it's justified, I'll have him apologize." John's powerful presence caused Marquis Shao to recoil. Callian, sensing the shift in atmosphere, began to quietly edge away. He knew John would smooth things over, but his attempt to escape didn't go unnoticed by Duke Claude. He caught Callian's arm as he turned. "This all started with you," Duke Claude said, his grip firm. "Where do you think you're going?" "If I stay," Callian replied, forcing a casual tone, "there's bound to be a huge fight, right? So, wouldn't it be better if I stayed with the Marchioness?" As he finished speaking, John noticed the commotion. "I think that would be best," Callian added, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Only when I'm gone can my brother truly unleash his fury, right?" "You're getting bolder, Callian," John remarked, a hint of exasperation in his voice. Their playful exchange caught John's attention. "My sister's romantic entanglements are truly never-ending," he muttered to himself. "Ian, go inside," John instructed. Ian, relieved, scampered off without a backward glance. John, rubbing his temples, turned his attention to Marquis Shao. He had something more important to confirm. "During our conversation," he began, his voice low and serious, "you suddenly disappeared. Was it because of Callian?" "Of course not," Marquis Shao replied a little too quickly. "We just happened to run into each other." "If it was a coincidence," John countered, "it's quite a remarkable one." "What are you implying?" Marquis Shao asked defensively. "Overprotectiveness isn't a good look, John. Let's go back." "The overprotective one is you," John retorted. Duke Claude stopped in his tracks, his expression thoughtful. He knew, deep down, that he was the one who couldn't let go of Callian. A proposal. A proposal. The news spread like wildfire. The Imperial Prince has proposed to the Marquis Bell family. To ensure a smooth return to his own country, Ian, without Callian's knowledge, had proposed to the Marquis. He had already learned Callian's true identity from John. Seeing the Marquis's troubled expression, Ian offered a compromise. In 1 year, he proposed, "Please hold a debutante ball for him. Once he has returned to presenting as a woman, I wish to become engaged." The Marchioness, upon hearing this, felt the world crumble around her. Lien only wishes to live a peaceful life, she stammered. The imperial family wishes to make a deal with Gur, she continued, her voice trembling. Wouldn't it be better to choose a bride from among the princesses? Ian dismissed her suggestion without hesitation. Callian is all I need, madam. The Marquis, however, insisted on consulting Callian first. Callian has always lived as a man, he pointed out. Ian, undeterred, vowed to do everything in his power to win Callian's consent. Then I'll consider this agreement settled, Ian declared confidently. But before that, the Emperor wishes to meet me. It concerns the Gur nobility who possess the neutral territory. After this matter is settled, the Marquis added, we can discuss your marriage to my daughter. John, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. You needn't inquire about the owner of the neutral territory. Father, he stated firmly. Prince Ian, standing before you, is the owner of that neutral territory. Just the day before, Duke Claude's father, Grand Duke Ahar, had arrived in the capital, bearing an enormous, exceptionally pure diamond. And this diamond, it turned out, originated from the diamond mines of the neutral territory. The imperial family was deeply interested in this development. That's why they need to find out who owns the neutral territory. Grand Duke Ahar was ambushed on his way here. He suspects it was most likely the Gur people, but within the Empire, there are many factions that want him dead. To better ensure the Grand Duke's safety, the Emperor is keeping him at the Imperial Palace. In the reception hall, John was fuming. He'd known for a while that Ian harbored impure thoughts towards Callian, but Callian was still young. Besides, he hadn't told Ian the truth, so he could propose. In truth, Ian also knew that John's confession was meant to ease his own conscience. Because of that, John bore some responsibility for trapping Callian in this male persona. He didn't try to make excuses. To atone, he wanted to give Callian freedom to go wherever he wanted, to live the life he desired. Marrying into the Gur royal family sounded prestigious, but the moment Callian revealed his true identity as a woman, he would lose that freedom. Doing this will only make things difficult for Callian, but at least it will save his life. You don't really think the Marchioness will let him go, do you? If you do, I'm deeply disappointed in you. Besides, I will strive to ensure he has complete freedom by my side. You might think I'm being selfish, but this is my way of loving him. John felt he had completely disarmed Ian, but what he didn't know was that someone even more obsessed than Ian was close by. That person was the young Duke Claude. If Marilyn loves me, then who I love, I think you should know. After a period of internal struggle, Claude finally stopped denying his feelings. He didn't care about Callian's gender. He had simply fallen for the person. Today was John's engagement ceremony, but Callian, his younger brother, was told not to attend. So he hid himself away in the library. He pulled the self-proclaimed doctor's glasses and battered laptop from his pocket. Someone had passed them on to him. Laura has a missing daughter, the illegitimate daughter of Marquis Bell. Should we meet? But security was tight around the Lu kingdom recently. John's engagement banquet ended in a week. He planned to enter Lu, then to search for his mother. Oh, there you are, Callian. Claude, who should have been at the engagement ceremony, appeared. He had seen Callian on his way to the ceremony. What are you doing here instead of attending the engagement ceremony? I'm not feeling well. If you're unwell, you should see a doctor. Why are you in the library? It's not that serious. Seeing Callian's flushed cheeks, Claude worriedly placed a hand on his forehead. Are you really all right? Your face is very red. You seem to have a fever. Callian rejected the suggestions of going to the hospital or the ceremony. His awkward and evasive manner immediately told Claude something was amiss. Well, then I have no reason to go either. He settled onto the sofa, making it clear he wasn't leaving. Being here with you is much more enjoyable than that boring engagement ceremony. But you can't miss it. My brother will be upset. There are so many people there. They won't notice if I'm missing. At times like these, Claude acted like a child. Anyone who didn't know him would think he was irresponsible. My father is injured, so I've been thinking about what I should do first if I become the Duke. His gaze met Callian's as he finished speaking. I must first gather people I can rely on, keep those I trust close, and then strengthen the territory. Back in Kosovo, Claude had suggested that Callian become the steward of the Ihar dukedom. But Callian couldn't understand why the young Duke would choose him. He was just his brother's shadow. Will you refuse me this time as well? Unexpectedly, he was rejected again, because he has something he wants to do, to be a teacher and educate children. But the Duke's house also has children who need teaching. Didn't you ask me about this? So Callien had asked Duke Claude before to take in Rupert's 2 children. After you begged me to take them in, you didn't come to see me even once. Callien, feigning death, was both incredulous and overjoyed. Claude truly was a good person. He had actually followed through on something Callien had only mentioned in passing. He wanted to say something more, but an unexpected guest intruded. "Miss, why are you here?" "I heard Claude, Marquis Shao, was here, so I came looking." Hearing the commotion, Claude instantly pulled Callien into his arms. "This is so annoying. Just stay like this for a moment. Do you think we won't be discovered like this? At least they won't discover us. If Marilyn believes I'm on a date with someone else, maybe she'll lose interest in me. I'll pull you closer in a moment." No sooner had he spoken than Callien was pulled tightly into an embrace. The librarian and Marilyn had already arrived. Seeing them, Claude glared at the newcomers with annoyance. "Can't you see I'm busy?" To anyone unaware, it looked as if he were silencing a lover. As expected, Marilyn stormed off, furious. Bearing the title of Claude's fiancée, she couldn't tolerate such an insult. But, feeling inferior, she didn't dare cause a scene. Callien, breathing a sigh of relief, felt a pang of guilt. You only needed her to see you with someone else. Why did you have to treat Miss Selby that way? There was no need to hurt her. You're worried about Marilyn being hurt. Of course, because she likes you. Now please let me go. You should hurry to your engagement ceremony. The next second, his chin was caught in Claude's grip, forcing him to meet Claude's gaze. If Marilyn likes me, then what about me? Who do I like? My dearest brother is getting engaged, but his younger brother isn't allowed to attend. It turned out this was all the Marchioness's arrangement. She didn't want the brothers to have any regrets. Claude led Ian to a secluded room. From here, not only could he freely watch the engagement ceremony, but he wouldn't be disturbed by anyone unnecessary. Am I really allowed to stay here? There's nowhere you can't go as long as I'm with you. The words felt like a veiled confession to Callien, making his heart pound. Afterwards, Claude went to the ceremony. I have an engagement present for you. John looked up, puzzled, and saw Ian waving and smiling at him. Seeing this, John smiled with deep satisfaction. It was the best gift he could have received today. Time quickly passed to evening. Marilyn was searching for Claude again. She wanted to apologize for what had happened earlier in the day. For a high-ranking nobleman like Marquis Shao, having a secret lover or two was quite common. She had originally thought Claude would be different, but it turned out he was just like other men. Just then, fireworks exploded in the sky. Turning around, her eyes widened in shock. Callien, who had been missing all day, was actually right there. Recalling the scene she had witnessed earlier, the person in Claude's arms had golden hair. At that moment, she finally realized she had been deceived by them both. The scene shifted. Claude brought Callien some food. The chefs at the Imperial Palace are really good. It's completely different from what I eat at home. That's because your chef isn't very good. Although, the stew and olive bread are excellent. Callien had some sauce on the corner of his mouth. Claude felt the urge to wipe it away, but reason told him he shouldn't. So he stood up to get Callien something to drink. Suddenly, Callien tilted his head, a question in his eyes. He had noticed something. Claude had said this was a place he used to frequent as a child. Then this rocking horse must have been his. An image of a young Claude holding the rocking horse. A proud look on his face flashed through Callien's mind. He had to admit, it was rather cute. Just then, the door opened with a creak. He thought Claude was returning with a drink, but when he turned, he was met with Marilyn. You with that scowl? It's just like you, he said. What are you even doing here? Meanwhile, Claude, holding a glass of red wine, was heading back. He was stopped by Ian at the top of the stairs. Ian was looking for Callien. It turned out the Emperor had kept him occupied with conversation until now. The topic was the neutral territory rich with diamonds, half of which belonged to Ian. The Emperor had promised a peace treaty and granted him management rights. Only then did Ian realize he'd been cleverly maneuvered. The purpose of this trip was to find Callien. I'm asking you, where is Callien? I don't know. Find him yourself. Just as he finished speaking, Callien's voice drifted down from upstairs. Please calm down. Immediately following, Marilyn's furious roar echoed. Prove it to me. The next moment, both men raced towards the second floor. Marquis Shao, it was you in the library, wasn't it? Callien, caught red-handed, widened his eyes. He nervously averted his gaze, claiming he'd been there the whole time. But Marilyn's sharp eyes saw through the lie. I thought it was strange before he even lied. No matter how beautiful, a man is still a man. Or rather, ever since Callian appeared, everything has been strange. With a face that pretty, I'd believe he was a girl. I don't see anything strange. Please calm down, Mississippi. Then prove it to me. Out of your clothes. Callian fearfully backed away, but in the next second, his collar was seized. Marilyn wasn't about to let him go. Prove to me that my suspicions are foolish. With a snap, the buttons on his shirt flew to the floor. As Callian struggled, they both tumbled onto the bed behind them. I understand your misunderstanding, but please rest assured. What you're worried about won't happen. I promise. Marilyn didn't respond to his assurances, only quietly told him to let her go. Realizing the impropriety, Callian scrambled to his feet. I didn't mean to, but before he could finish, a sharp slap cut him off. How dare you? How dare you treat a lady like that? Marilyn had finally discovered Callian's secret. But as long as he remained Callian, he would have to live as a man. Anxious, she added a warning. You're a man now. Don't be too greedy. She turned to see Claude standing in the doorway, his arrival unnoticed. What was this situation? His fiancée pinned beneath her secret love. His secret love slapped by his fiancée. The man opens the door to this scene. What was going on? I caused Callian to misunderstand. Don't be so harsh with him. Claude was confused. Misunderstand? What misunderstanding? Ashamed, Marilyn explained. I wanted to confirm whether he was truly a man. I was rude first. He misunderstood my intentions and, in his agitation, pushed me onto the bed. Claude's scrutinizing gaze swept over Marilyn. Then he fixed his eyes on Callian. So you hit her and left a mark? Words meant to express concern for Callian sounded different to Marilyn. Blushing, she rubbed her hand and said, It's nothing. Please don't worry. But Claude didn't see it that way. If there's an injury, there must be consequences. Anyone who hurts the person I care for will pay a heavy price. Truly, those involved were blind to the bigger picture. Ian, silent until now, finally lost his patience. This is ridiculous. Duke Xiao, do you believe this woman's lies? In Kosovo, the punishment for false accusations is severe. They cut out your tongue, chop off your hands, and you're forbidden from leaving the country for 3 years. It's a pity the empire doesn't have such laws. Under this blatant threat, a chill ran down Marilyn's spine. She turned and gave Callian a pointed look. If you want to argue, Callian can prove it himself. After all, he started it. He was certain Callian wouldn't reveal the truth about his disguise. So, using the excuse of sore wrist, Marilyn made her escape to see a doctor. Watching her flee, Ian could only shake his head in disbelief. In the blink of an eye, he was shut out. At this moment, he felt utterly defeated. Just then, one of his men reported that the person claiming to be the second prince had made a move. Now, only Claude and Callian remained in the room. Callian clenched his fists, feeling deeply wronged. I caused offense. I apologize, but I absolutely never intended to seduce your woman. He was interrupted mid-sentence by Claude. Do you like Marilyn? Callian was shocked and embarrassed by the question. He looked up to meet Claude's pained gaze. Are you a man who likes women? Callian hastily denied it, explaining it was just a misunderstanding. Unconsciously, he found himself backed against the wall by Claude. I truly haven't done anything improper with Miss Selby, so please forgive me. Even now, he hadn't defended his title. Claude's eye twitched. He reached out and cupped Callian's reddened cheek. He hit you. You don't need to apologize. And I'm about to do something I need to apologize for. Callian, whether you're a beast or a man, it doesn't matter now. As soon as the words left his lips, a deep kiss landed on Callian's. Startled by the sudden turn of events, Callian's eyes widened, but he soon closed them, surrendering to the haze. The hand resting on Claude's chest instinctively clenched into a fist. An unknown amount of time passed. Claude finally and reluctantly pulled away, but the anticipated look of surprise didn't materialize. Claude, do you like men? Callian's question pierced straight to his soul. Facing a tearful Callian, Claude was about to explain when a hurried knock came at the door. Duke Xiao, are you in there? What is it? The Duke is gravely ill. Meanwhile, the Grand Duke Ihar coughed up blood. The doctor diagnosed him with having drunk poisoned tea. Claude rushed to his side. Upon entering, he was beckoned by his father. He gripped his father's hand, his voice trembling. How could this happen? Poisoned? How did this happen? But thankfully, you're here, Claude. From now on, Claude d'Ihar, Xiao Duke, will become Claude d'Ihar Duke. From now on, you are the master of Decasa. The Grand Duke Ihar, poisoned and on the brink of death, bequeathed his title to his only son, a pillar of the empire. Claude, a Gerlander within the Empire, became the prime suspect. Ian, the Gerlander prince still within the Empire, was in a precarious position. He hadn't expected his brother to be so foolish. Whether or not the poisoning was at his brother's behest, it was undoubtedly connected to him. He had to return to his own country immediately. His only concern was Callian. From this moment on, many difficult things would happen, so he intended to take Callian with him. At this crucial juncture, Ian was stopped by G. Allen. He shielded Callian behind him. Before war broke out, Ian had to hide quickly. His identity was far too sensitive. Though reluctant, Ian had no choice but to leave. He gently pulled Callian close, knelt on one knee, and kissed his hand. "I will come back for you. Wait for me." Callian looked at Ian with composure and determination. Having done this, Ian quickly departed. "Everything will be all right, won't it?" Soon after, Claude found the true culprit behind the poisoning, Marquis Selby. The Emperor was incredulous. Marquis Selby didn't have a motive. While the Selby family wasn't as powerful as the Ihar or Bell families, they had always been loyal to the Empire and the Emperor. And why would he conspire with Gerland to kill the Duke? Weren't you discussing marriage with the Selby family's daughter? At the mention of this, Claude's expression darkened. The Selby family is responsible for all the tea offered to the royal family. And Marquis Selby himself is very particular about the tea he provides. Therefore, he manages it meticulously. The tea my father drank was also provided by him. Perhaps their target wasn't the Ihar family, but the royal family. And we overlooked Ian. The Sergio kingdom may not want to admit it, but he saw Gellin urging Ian to hide. Could it be that Gellin also wants to oppose him? They also captured Boo, who was close to Ian, but he bit his tongue and killed himself. "Your Majesty, I intend to take this opportunity to reclaim all the neutral territories. Therefore, I request your permission for my troops to go to war with." Or, how is the Grand Duke? Was it really the Geralds who did this to Ian? It's not yet certain, but Ian is definitely not the culprit, and the Grand Duke is unlikely to survive the day. Hearing this, Callian's heart lurched. He was deeply worried about Claude's current situation. Could his sister and the Grand Duke share the same fate? It turns out something happened 2 years ago that Gellin still remembers. Snow was falling that day, a common occurrence, yet Claude seemed captivated by it. "I remember something. What was the taste he found in the snow?" That's right, he was referring to Callian. "Lien, are you all right?" Claude's question was cut short by a sudden shout. "Talion, you are such a disappointment. I explicitly forbade you from participating, and you dared to defy my orders." Seeing their mother's fury, Gellin shielded his younger brother. "The Grand Duke is critically ill now. Lien's matter can wait." But Anata wasn't about to let it go. "They say blood will tell. Even Gellin has been led astray by you. You're truly remarkable, Talion. Even if he is your younger brother, there are limits." The usually good-natured Gellin finally lost his patience. "Mother, please stop." Her son defied her for the first time. Anata trembled with rage. "Lien, go back to where you were and wait for me. You're so impulsive defending that kind of person. You don't even care about your mother." Hearing this, Gellin radiated an icy aura. The glacial chill in his eyes seemed capable of freezing someone solid. "That day, I was left by the frozen lake. Was it truly Lien's fault, Mother?" Her carefully constructed facade shattered. Anata froze, struck dumb. Fighting back her guilt, she struggled to hold her ground. "Gellin, what do you mean?" "What I mean, Mother, should be perfectly clear to you." Claude, having finally resolved to confess his feelings, received the news of his father's critical condition. His father's haggard face was a devastating blow. That night, he sought out Callian, his body heavy with exhaustion. Only here could he find a sliver of solace. The next day, the beloved Grand Duke Ihar passed away. Overnight, Claude became the ruler of Decasa. Grief shrouded the entire empire. People whispered of the bloodshed that was sure to follow. This time, Claude's departure from the capital meant that the two would be separated for a long time. Downstairs, a familiar figure caught Lien's eye. It was the man who had taken his measurements for clothes. The only person in the palace who knew his true identity. What was he doing here at a time like this? After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Fland revealed his purpose. The life of a noble isn't so easy, is it? Callian felt a prickle of unease. As he feared, the man pulled an envelope from his coat. The familiar format brought back memories of the kidnapper's letters. There was no response to the last letter, so I came again. Callian couldn't believe it. Fland was working with the kidnappers. "There's a map inside. The person you're looking for is there." but it's dangerous. If you're not prepared, it's best not to go. Be ready before you open it. I heard Marquis Selby is also looking for him. This was something Callian could never have imagined. Before he could recover from shock, Flan continued, his voice soft. I kept your secret last time. Now it's your turn to keep mine. I trust you. After this, Callian went to find his father. I heard you're going to war. I want to go to war with the Duke, Callian declared. The loss of my old friend, Grand Duke Ahar, has left me too restless to sleep. After much hesitation, he finally mustered the courage to face his father. Father, I want to end my life as Callian Bell. Marquis Bell was utterly shocked. Have you found Laura? His father's question confirmed Flan's words. His father was also searching for his mother, but he still couldn't understand. How could his mother abandon his brother by the frozen lake? His father didn't answer his question directly. Laura, she was always good at hide-and-seek as a child. Callian grew even more confused. Wasn't mother a servant in the house? His father and mother had known each other since childhood. Why had he never heard of this before? But his father wasn't about to answer his questions. Instead, he abruptly dismissed him. However, just as one problem subsided, another arose. On his way back, the butler informed him of Prince Ian's proposal. He finally understood what Ian had meant earlier. The master is afraid you'll say you want to go to Gel. The Gel royal family is extremely paranoid and cruel, and Ian Sergio is the Prince of Gel. He is also Master G. Allen's benefactor. As the butler, I shouldn't gossip about the master's relationships, but they're bloodthirsty and tyrannical. Absolutely not to be trusted. So please don't choose to go to Gel for the sake of temporary peace. Callian's mind was in turmoil. He wasn't sure if Ian's words were sincere. If war broke out, they probably wouldn't see each other again. Troublesome matters piled up one after another. Exhausted, he pushed open his bedroom door, only to find Claude inside. You always come back so late. Hello, Callian. Long time no see. Callian was surprised. What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be going to the Northern Territories? He had come to say goodbye to Callian. There's something I need to tell you before I leave. Callian swallowed nervously. He guessed Claude was going to talk about that day. The thought made his heart pound with anxiety. But the next second, his suspended heart plummeted. Callian, I've come to apologize. Back then, in the attic, I acted out of curiosity and impulse. I did something I shouldn't have done to you. Callian was consumed by unease. He lowered his head, his fists clenched tight. I don't understand what you mean. I'm sorry. I was rude and thoughtless that day. So just forget it. The girl, robbed of her identity, lived cautiously under another's roof, longing to return to her mother. One day, a boy burst in her life. He startled her, bullied her, teased her. Yet, he would defend her in her most vulnerable moments. Unknowingly, a strange feeling began to blossom in her heart. Until the day he kissed her. It felt like a dream. At least in that moment, she felt like someone finally recognized the real her. And that person was none other than the special one in her heart. The thought even brought her a fleeting sense of healing. But now he was calling it a mistake. It had all been her wishful thinking. Callian choked back a sob, tears welling in his eyes. Then, a warm hand touched his forehead. Are you unwell? You're burning. Their eyes met, and a whirlwind of emotions swept through Callian. He brushed the hand away. No, I'm just a little warm. I want to rest. Please leave, Your Grace. If it was all just a mirage, then it was time to let go. Claude, dismissed, stared at Callian's retreating figure, lost in thought. He realized he was finding it harder and harder to understand Callian. Back in his quarters, the more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. That day, after Callian was kissed by him, she cried. She had wanted to tell him that it wasn't men she liked, but him, specifically. But if he was a man who liked women, if he was also afraid of himself, then apologizing for his involuntary actions was the right thing to do. Yet, he couldn't understand why, after apologizing, Callian looked as if she was about to burst into tears. 2 hours remained until their departure. There was still plenty of time. To clear up the confusion in his heart, he went back to find Callian. But Callian had already taken her medicine and fallen asleep. So he decided to just take a quick look and then leave. That one glance completely changed Callian's fate. For the next few years, the two would be unable to see each other. He was still wondering if Callian would miss him when Callian whimpered and turned over, murmuring about being hot. This not only made Claude sigh, thinking she was truly a worry, but in the next second, his rising smile abruptly vanished. An unnatural blush quickly crept up his cheeks, because he saw the snowy white skin beneath Callian's collar. For a long while, he stood by the bed, frozen like a statue. When he finally reacted, he was so shocked he could have swallowed an egg whole. He hadn't realized Callian was a girl. Callian, you tricked me so well. Before leaving, he placed the iron wire lily brooch, the symbol of the Grand Duchess, on the nightstand. It represented his claim, a promise of his life. When the war was won, he would return to reclaim his name, reclaim his life, and fully possess her. Meanwhile, Callian also discovered the brooch. Claude must have dropped it accidentally, but she had already made up her mind. Once she recovered, she would go and find her mother. After seeing her mother, she might leave immediately. So, she probably wouldn't be able to return the brooch to Claude personally, because she had decided to become Kalia again. By chance, the Grand Duke finally discovered Callian's true identity. Overjoyed and anxious, he immediately sought out the culprit, Gellin. He tentatively instructed him to protect Kalia. Unexpectedly, he had guessed Callian's true gender. Ignoring Gellin's shocked and stunned face, he continued, "If anything happens to Kalia, I will never forgive you. You must protect her. Don't let a single hair on her head be harmed. This is the price you pay for deceiving me, Gellin Bell." Early the next morning, the proud Marilyn knelt before the princess. It had been determined that her father was responsible for Grand Duke Ihar's death. Confused, she pleaded with the princess for a chance to prove Marquis Selby's innocence. Rosina's expression became unreadable. She couldn't do anything about this matter. But if Marquis Selby was innocent, then there wouldn't be a problem. Marilyn was clearly dissatisfied with the princess's words, so she fabricated a lie. "Your Highness, did you know? Your fiancé, the young Marquis, believes your younger brother, Callian, molested me on the day of your engagement. Grand Duke Ihar saw it with his own eyes. If His Majesty the Emperor were to find out about this, I fear he would be disappointed in the Bell family." Rosina panicked. To avoid jeopardizing her marriage to Gellin, she promised to help Marilyn by appealing to the Emperor for a chance to clear the air. Until then, you had best hold your tongue. Afterwards, Rosina sought out Gellin to discuss the situation. "My brother, Callian, molested Marilyn. He, as a man, had improper thoughts about her. That's what Marilyn said. If that's true, it will severely damage the reputation of the Bell Marquisate, and our marriage will be in jeopardy." Unlike Rosina's worried expression, Gellin let out a long sigh of relief. It's hard to say about others, but Callian would absolutely never do such a thing. As for Marilyn saying the Grand Duke witnessed it as well, that's even more impossible. Because if Callian wanted to molest Marilyn, the Duke won't just stand by idly. When I go to the neutral territory to see Father off this time, I'll have the Duke write a letter. That should prove my younger sibling's favor. Rosina, who had been speaking formally, finally smiled again. If Claude could provide testimony, then he would have the basis for his judgment. So, the next day, the group boarded the fire coach bound for the neutral territory. To please certain people, Gellin even brought his younger sibling, Callian, along. Callian, leaving Ethel for the first time, was overjoyed. But Gellin's sudden teasing startled him. "Are you really that happy? Or are you just excited because of Claude?" Looking at the flustered Callian, Gellin was in high spirits. Thinking about the two people who were worried about his sibling, he felt a pang of sadness. Because he wasn't satisfied with either of them. Neither was worthy of his sibling. On the other hand, Callian wasn't as calm as he appeared. It was the first time they'd seen each other since that parting. He didn't even know what to say first. After returning, he would go to find his mother. This might truly be their last meeting, or at least a chance for a final farewell. At this point, he didn't know that all his worries were for naught. Because he missed him so much, Claude couldn't help but embrace him the moment they met. Marquis Selby wanted to feign stopping the poisoning of the royal family, taking credit and then shifting the blame onto Prince Ian, thereby seizing the resource-rich neutral territory. But the tea laced with poison was accidentally drunk by Grand Duke Ihar, leading directly to his death. The second prince, Alan Seguggio, who had orchestrated the plot, had his scheme backfire spectacularly. Not only were his subordinates caught and his identity exposed, but he also offended Claude, the master of Decasa. Ian would certainly not let this matter rest. If he chose to support the first prince, this war would determine who would be the next king of Gel. In other words, Ian and they had a common enemy. Gellin had already considered this, so he had written a letter earlier, requesting to propose an alliance with Prince Ian. Hearing this, the crown prince fell into deep thought. Just then, the carriage arrived at the encampment. The war had caused many injuries. Callian couldn't help but worry about Claude. He learned from his brother that Claude had been grazed by a bullet and was receiving treatment. Callian was instantly overcome with anxiety, but he also worried that Claude would dislike him. Callian, do you know the meaning of the Grand Duke Ihar's family crest? The Ean symbolizes Grand Duke Ihar, and the iron wire ring symbolizes the Grand Duchess. That iron wire ring brooch signifies that it belongs to the Grand Duchess. Callian paled, but the Grand Duke left that brooch in my room. If I had known it was so important, I would have brought it. This was clearly different from what Claude had said. He had clearly stated that he had intentionally left it for Callian. It turned out this silly sibling knew nothing. What if he's angry with me? How could he be? Go in and see him. Callian hesitantly moved forward. The voice he had longed to hear suddenly rang out. So the Crown Prince has arrived? You've made quite the entrance. He was told the Duke was sleeping. The next moment, Callian's voice invigorated him. Grand Duke Claude, the iron wire ring brooch. It was left in my room. I didn't know it was so important, so I didn't bring it. If I had known, I definitely would have. I'm truly sorry. His voice grew increasingly softer, because Claude had strode towards him in a single bound. The next moment, a strong hand encircled his waist. Claude's handsome face was inches away. Overcome with longing, he couldn't wait for a reply and simply wanted to indulge in the moment. After a long while, Callian blushed and abruptly pushed him away. You're injured. You shouldn't be moving like this. But Claude didn't care. He simply extended his hand, beckoning him closer. Seeing Callian's hesitation, Claude immediately guessed his concern. You're saying I'm a man? Yes, and last time, you were the one who... That behavior was unreasonable and hostile. Did you even apologize after telling me to forget it? Could it be you started to like men? Claude Warlock had drawn close. It's not that I like men. I like you. The sudden confession made Callian's heart pound uncontrollably. The last vestiges of his composure forced him to look away. So you like men? Claude's reply was sharp and decisive. I said I like you. Come here, Callian. I don't. The words barely left his lips before his hand was gently taken. Please, don't go far from me. His beloved stood before him, eyes shimmering. Claude could scarcely believe his eyes. He'd briefly lost his reason. Seeing that Callian was startled by his actions, he promised not to do anything that would upset him again. Callian's heart fluttered at the sight of Claude's vulnerable expression. And master, please lie down. It's a gunshot wound, after all. Be careful. You haven't even been to the hospital yet. In the next instant, his hand was caught. Claude pulled him down to sit beside him. Right now, I'm a soldier. Treatment can wait. Right now, I just want to be with you, Callian. Aren't you afraid of the war? Afraid? How could I not be? Can't we just call a truce? Revenge is the only way. I'm not just doing this for revenge. Callian learned that, for a long time, Decasa had suffered many casualties because of the war in the neutral territory. Claude wanted to take this opportunity to establish a safe Decasa, one that no one could invade. Callian stared at the wound on Claude's abdomen, lost in thought, even if it means giving up your life. At those words, Claude suddenly smiled. No, my life is precious. I can't give it up. There's only one person I would give my life for. Was the journey here difficult? It was all right. It's just that I couldn't bathe properly on the road. It's very uncomfortable. Speaking of which, he realized how dirty he was. He probably even smelled. In the next second, he sprang to his feet. I have to go. But his escape lasted barely a moment before Claude caught him firmly. Where are you going? Everyone outside must be resting. Please lie down. We were talking. His words were cut short by the resounding announcement of the Crown Prince's arrival. Claude's displeasure was evident. But by the time the Crown Prince and his entourage arrived at the tent, they found Claude with a smug look on his face. Mortified, Callian didn't want to stay a second longer. After bowing to the prince, he tried to leave. But Claude stopped him. Where are you going, Callian? Do you like it there? The neutral territory is a very interesting place. Some areas are perpetually covered in snow, while others have hot springs like this one. I've already given orders to restrict access to the hot springs. Not even an ant can get in now, so you can bathe without worry. Claude's thoughtfulness made Callian's heart race. He had left so coldly that day, yet today he was so gentle. How could Callian possibly hate him? Could it be that Claude truly liked men? Or did he only like him? If Claude truly liked men, wouldn't he abandon him, a woman disguised as a man? But he had said he liked him. If only that were true. Under the enchanting moonlight, Callian finally understood his own heart. He had loved Claude all along. As long as Claude liked him, nothing else mattered. When Callian finally returned, the restriction on the hot springs was lifted. The soldiers could finally bathe. Callian thought about many things that day. Even if Claude's affection was a misunderstanding, he still loved Claude, no matter what. But as an illegitimate child, disguised as a man, could he truly allow himself to love Claude? His mother had said she would hold a funeral for him, to restore his identity as Kalia. He thought about how few days he had left as Callian. After seeing his mother, he would have to leave. Perhaps this was the last time he would see Claude. If that were the case, if it truly were their last meeting, could he confess his feelings? Could he, just once, do what his heart desired? The scene shifts. Claude searched for Callian, finally finding him asleep in the carriage. He was completely out. Did he feel unsafe staying in the barracks? A realization made Claude's eyes widen. Callian hadn't locked the carriage door. He seemed clever enough, yet at times so daring. A smile played on Claude's lips as he stroked Callian's hair. "Callian," he murmured, "may I kiss you? If you don't wake up, I will kiss you." Lost in a dream, Callian mumbled, "No, don't." The name Ian pricked him like thorns. Claude's sensitive nature, so that's how it was. "Ian Sagugio must know you're a woman. I'm the only one who's been fooled." Discovering that his rival knew Callian's true identity first, the Grand Duke's jealousy seethed. The very next day, he took Callian to his rival's headquarters, a high vantage point, to declare his claim. Just last night, the normally oblivious Claude had finally realized something about Ian Sagugio, supposedly knowing Callian's true identity. Thinking back, it seemed Ian had known all along. But how did he know? Did Gellin tell him? Or did Callian let it slip? More importantly, he knew Callian was a woman and still lived with him. The thought made Claude grind his teeth until dawn. Callian finally awoke. The first thing he saw was Claude's handsome face. He stared for a long time, a daring thought forming in his mind, and he acted on it. He sat beside Claude and brushed his hair away from his face. This, however, woke Claude. "What are you doing?" Callian didn't flinch. Instead, he grew bolder, touching Claude's ear. "Nothing, just this." The innocent Claude blushed. "Teasing a sleeping Grand Duke, you're quite brave." Claude stepped out of the carriage. He had somewhere to take Callian. Before they left, he needed to confirm something. "Can we really go this far? Who would dare say otherwise?" "Callian, can you see over there? That's Ian Sagugio's town. They can see us from there too." Callian tilted his head. "Is Prince Ian really there?" As soon as he spoke, he was pulled into a firm embrace. Claude rested his chin on Callian's shoulder. His voice was low. "What? Do you miss him?" The sudden question flustered Callian. He stammered, "Why are you asking this? When you and Ian were living together, did you share a room?" Callian swallowed. "No, we each had our own rooms." "Did you play with Ian's hair?" "I never touched him like that." "Did you kiss?" The barrage of questions left Callian bewildered. He pushed Claude away, asking why he kept asking these things. Looking at Claude's obvious discomfort, Callian finally understood. "Your Grace, are you jealous?" He didn't voice the question, but Claude seemed determined. So, was there something or not? He waited until he heard Callian's firm, "Absolutely not." Claude finally smiled, a look of satisfaction spreading across his face. "Good." The next second, Callian's eyes widened. Claude had kissed him, catching him completely off guard. The thought that they were close to Ian's headquarters brought a smug smirk to Claude's lips. The kiss ended. Claude held Callian tightly. "Be careful while I'm gone. Don't get hurt. And don't sleep anywhere unlocked." A playful smile spread across Callian's face at Claude's concerned instructions, and he readily agreed. "I left something for you earlier." Knowing the item in question was the wireman brooch, Callian averted his gaze, a blush rising on his cheeks. "How can you say you left it for me? Don't joke. Do you even know what it means?" "I heard it's the Grand Duchess's brooch." "That's right. Keep it until I return. I'll come back for it myself. Don't disappear." These were the words Callian longed to hear, yet now that he'd heard them, he found himself speechless. Because he was neither a man nor a nobleman. Because the image Claude held of him was entirely false. If Claude knew his true identity, his feelings would surely change. Logic dictated that this should be their final goodbye. "All right, I'll be sure to wait for you." He knew he shouldn't, but his mouth moved of its own accord. He desperately wanted to accept this affection, however fleeting. He wanted to see Claude smile just one more time. After a brief farewell to his father, Claude appeared, leading a horse. He first handed a letter to Jillian, asking him to deliver it to the princess. "I'll make anyone who hurts my people pay. Don't tell Callian. There are other things I need to tell him myself when I return." He still firmly believed Callian was completely unaware of the truth. Only after giving these instructions did he call for Callian, This is my father's mare. Her name is Reliance. I'm entrusting her to you. Looking at the two of them, Claude added, I mean for you to take care of her. If anything happens, you can ride her to Decasa. She'll always find her way back here. With that, he turned and left without a backward glance. In the midst of war, could one truly make a promise to see each other again? What if Claude were to fall in battle? Would he regret this? The thought spurred Callian to run after him. It was the last chance, after all. Even if his feelings had never been reciprocated, he wanted to confess them now. Wait, lean your ear closer. I like you too. I won't say it again. So you absolutely must come back alive. It's all right if you're injured, but you must return. Callian's sudden confession was so startling that Claude couldn't believe his ears. When he finally processed the words, his heart pounded in his chest. All right, he agreed, gently pulling Callian's tie loose. But you must promise me something in return. When the war is over, you will stand at the front during my victory celebration. I'll take this as a token. We have something to exchange later. With a respectful bow, Callian departed. Claude stared after his retreating figure, lost in thought. He said he likes me. Haha, no matter what happens, I have to go back. Marilyn had intended to clear her father's name by falsely accusing the princess's fiancé's younger brother of assault, since only the two of them were present. She was certain Callian wouldn't reveal his true identity and accuse her of lying, but she'd miscalculated. Jillian had received evidence from Claude that proved the accusation was false. The letter stated he had overheard Callian and Marilyn's conversation in the hallway. Combined with Callian's torn collar and the content of their conversation, it was clear that Callian was innocent. Furthermore, Claude had sent another significant piece of evidence, proof of Marquis Selby's involvement in the rebellion. Hearing this, Marilyn felt her world crumble. She jumped to her feet, vehemently denying that her father would ever participate in a rebellion. But the princess clearly remembered her tearful complaints and accusations against her fiancé's family, and how she had warned her about the severity of false accusations. The matter was settled. Rosina refused to hear any more of her excuses. Guards, take Marilyn Selby, who has insulted the royal family, away. Marilyn's furious cries of indignation echoed through the hall. Your Highness, you can't do this. You tricked Claude again, didn't you? You shameless wretch. You're a man. If it weren't for you, Claude wouldn't treat me and my father like this. It's all your fault. My father did nothing wrong. Why is Claude on your side? Do you think this will make you the owner of the brooch? Your Highness, please give me another chance. Marilyn pleaded, but her words were cut short as the heavy doors slammed shut. The proud Marilyn, who had always held her head high, was left with nothing but a single red high heel. But as one crisis ended, another began. The Grand Duke says he's found the owner of the brooch. Do you know why he suddenly said that? The words hung in the air, leaving both brothers startled. The princess's intense gaze fixed on Jillian, sending a shiver down his spine. Thankfully, Callian quickly intervened. Your Highness, the brooch, it's with me. I think it was accidentally dropped. The owner said he would come back for it. But this clearly contradicted the letter, which stated that the owner of the brooch had been found, implying, by Claude's design, that the owner was Callian. He never usually made such blatant jokes. And Callian had returned, riding Reliance. Had the Grand Duke truly chosen Callian as the brooch's owner? If so, their marriage would be in jeopardy once more. To spare her brother further difficulty, Callian made a startling decision. Miss Selby is your friend. Firstly, thank you for choosing to believe me in this matter. I won't let Her Highness and my brother be troubled by this any longer. At this crucial moment, Jillian abruptly stood. He wanted to stop Callian's self-sacrifice, but Rosina gestured for him to let Callian finish. Brother, don't worry. I never had any improper thoughts about Miss Selby. And I'm not a man. I'm a woman. I know this is shocking, but I don't want my brother to lie to Your Highness on my behalf any longer. Nor do I want Your Highness to misunderstand the Grand Duke. Of course, the Grand Duke doesn't know I'm a woman yet. I just want to assure Your Highness that what you fear won't happen. As Callian finished speaking, Rosina abruptly stood. Instead of reprimanding her, she gently embraced Callian. She patted Callian's shoulder reassuringly. Every noble family has its unique circumstances. I understand. For the first time, someone understood Callian's plight. Tears welled up in her eyes. This confession brought Callian a sense of relief. She insisted on excusing herself to give the couple some privacy, but not before offering them a heartfelt blessing. The two of you are truly well suited. You seem to be deeply in love. If you were to marry, you would be happier than anyone. Rosina and Jillian beamed at her words. After Callian left, Jillian revealed everything about Callian to Rosina, so she could help in the future. As for Callian, still unaware that her secret had been discovered by Claude, Rosina assured Gillian that she would handle the situation. She would guide Callian and ensure she met royal standards as the Duchess of Earhar by the time Claude returned. She also thought Callian was strikingly beautiful and would look stunning in a formal gown. Elsewhere, a young girl ran away from home, seeking her birth mother, as she dreamt of their joyful reunion. The unwelcome sound of a carriage approaching from behind shattered her fantasy. The woman who raised her had followed. Her escape plan ended abruptly. Anata's face contorted with rage at Callian's defiance. She grabbed Callian roughly, and a stinging slap landed across her face. "How dare you betray me after I raised you? If I'd known you were so selfish, I should have left you to starve in the gutter." But Anata seemed to forget that Callian had never asked for any of this. Her life with the Marquis had been entirely Anata's doing, but he would never admit his mistakes. If you didn't have those feelings, would you and the Grand Duke, Claude, be on such familiar terms? If you were planning to leave secretly like this, you should have lived quietly as I warned. Even the Grand Duke and the Princess are asking about you. If you disappear suddenly under these circumstances, what will people think? You should consider the damage this will do to the family. Mother was right. Who would remember someone like me for long? With the war, the domestic situation is in chaos. The Grand Duke and Her Highness the Princess will soon forget us. Shouldn't you be happy to have resolved this burden on your heart? But the Marquis personally instructed Anata to take good care of Callian until his return. Claude also instructed Gillian to protect her. If we can't keep our promises, how embarrassing it will be for Gillian and me. And these instructions are things Callian never knew. I've said it before. You've already stepped into aristocratic society. Disappearing like this will harm the family's interests. I heard you were intelligent. Can't you even consider such basic common sense? But I don't want to worry about that now. My brother has recovered his health, and now the Bell family won't be shaken by such things. Seeing Callian so obstinate, Anata sighed deeply, her expression turning cold. I really can't reason with you. That note has Laura's address on it, doesn't it? Callian quickly hid the note behind her back. Seeing this, Anata gave a sinister laugh. You don't have to hide it, because I never intended to tell you. I already know where Laura is. Callian's heart lurched. A sense of unease washed over her. Sure enough, the next second, the chilling words came. If you want to go so badly, go ahead. Remember to hide well. No matter where you hide, I will find you, and then I'll kill your mother, so you can never go back. Unable to believe her mother could utter such venomous words, Callian immediately pushed her away. Anata, seeing this, gloated. So you'd better do as I say. That way, your mother will remain safe. And think about it. Does Laura even want to see you? Your mother seems to have forgotten and is living well. Your appearance will only cause her a headache. So stop this nonsense and do as I say. When your father returns, we'll hold the funeral. Then, go live somewhere where no one knows you. Atone for your sins for the rest of your life. Live quietly. If you obey, I won't harm Laura in the slightest. She was convinced her threats would work. In her eyes, Callian's delusional defiance was utterly foolish. If it weren't for Callian and her mother, Gillian wouldn't resent her, and the Marquis wouldn't have betrayed her. And Callian dared to talk about returning to her mother's side and living happily. How could she allow that? She would make Callian feel the same pain. Let her experience what it felt like to be betrayed by a loved one. That desolate loneliness and betrayal. After 3 years, Callian finally wore women's clothing again. Her beautiful blonde hair now reached her waist. The princess admired her handiwork. Callian, restored to her femininity, was truly lovely. But Callian herself felt incredibly awkward. Although the princess strongly suggested wearing them every day to get used to it, Callian felt content just being able to try them on. Try it. Once you get used to it, you might want to live as your true self. More importantly, you're so beautiful. It's a shame to hide it. If you're willing, I'll definitely help you live as a woman. The princess's encouragement comforted her, but she was an adult now. She was confident she could handle everything. Callian had placed first in the exams. The princess was congratulating her when they heard a hurried knock at the door. There's news from Decasa. The Marquis Bell has been captured by the Daiku. Grand Duke Earhar has already organized a rescue. With 2 of the most important people in her life in danger, Callian was consumed with worry. Inside the military camp not long ago, it took 3 years to finally take down Alan Sergio's head. and the enemy they captured was being interrogated. But simply waiting for the results wasn't a solution. Just then, Prince Ian arrived with good news. He found where Marquis Bell was being held, but he wasn't willing to share this information freely. After the war, he likely wouldn't have another opportunity like this. So, he couldn't let this chance slip away. "Your Highness, the Crown Prince, please grant me permission to marry the only daughter of the Bell Marquis family." A marriage supported by the Imperial Crown Prince would be ideal. Claude was the first to object to Ian's blatant opportunism. Seeing this, the Crown Prince put on a theatrical performance. The Marquis family only has 2 sons, but Ian saw right through him. "You needn't pretend to be unaware of the truth. Don't you already know? The Marquis' second son is actually a woman. I'm not trying to force a marriage. I simply wish for your Highness's blessing once I've persuaded the Marquis and won Kalian's heart." Seeing things take a turn for the worse, Claude hastily intervened. "Time is of the essence. We should end the war swiftly and return home victorious." But his suggestion was ignored. "Very well, I agree. However, if the rescue mission fails, the agreement is automatically void." He knew how dangerous the Marquis' current situation was, and with Ian holding the Marquis' life in his hands, it was better to comply for now. This is also for Kalian's sake. The soldiers are exhausted. Seeing this, Ian chimed in, "Grand Duke, don't be so selfish. You should think more about the Marquis and Kalian. We can't let someone who's about to become a relative of the Gur royal family wait in such a dangerous place for too long." A fist the size of a sandbag slammed into his face. But instead of anger, he laughed, because he had won this round. Claude, on the other hand, looked terrifyingly grim. "For Kalian's sake, I'll let this slide for now. But you won't succeed easily. Not in winning her heart, nor in anything else." The Crown Prince bought himself a drink. Getting punched was a small price to pay. Even Anata, back in the capital, couldn't reach her husband. Only after learning that the Grand Duke of Irhar had personally gone to the rescue did she finally relax, her worries slightly eased. She had also heard about Kalian graduating at the top of her class. Given the Marquis' capture, it wasn't a time for celebration. Kalian wasn't planning to attend the graduation ceremony. Jillian also thought it best, but Anata uncharacteristically insisted. "You must attend the graduation ceremony. This is the first event held since the truce declaration. We should be present to demonstrate the stability of our family." Her words sent a chill down the sibling spines. "The whole country knows about our father's situation. Wouldn't attending the ceremony draw too much unwanted attention? If Kalian attended alone, yes, that would be the case. But if we go together, it's different. It will, on the contrary, project an image of composure, showing that we aren't panicked. It will also offer comfort to those who have suffered." Kalian was overjoyed that her mother would attend her graduation ceremony. Lost in her happiness, she missed the deeper meaning in her mother's words. The man looked up and saw his lover after 3 long years. He was surprised to find her within the palace walls. More importantly, what would happen if someone saw them like this? After all, Kalian had always presented herself as a man. He hurried upstairs, only to find her quite drunk. It seemed today wasn't the day for a heart-to-heart. Come to think of it, Kalian had always been busy. He hadn't noticed the inconsistencies. He truly felt like a fool. Kalian nuzzled against him like a kitten. He could only keep reminding himself to think of sad things, but it didn't seem to have any effect. Suddenly, he pushed Kalian away. "Kalian, this is dangerous. I've endured for 3 years." Kalian, with a radiant smile, retorted, "The Grand Duke has also endured for 3 years. I have too. I missed you terribly these past 3 years. Enduring has been truly agonizing." Claude clung to the man like a koala. He wanted to share a reunion kiss with Claude. The reason Kalian had drunk so much was because of something that happened at the graduation ceremony. It was hard to believe her mother had actually agreed to attend. Full of anticipation, Kalian went to the graduation ceremony. When she saw that her mother and brother hadn't arrived, she sought out an alumnus responsible for checking the attendance list and inquired. To her dismay, the person told her that the Marquis family wouldn't be attending the graduation ceremony. Marchioness Anata herself had sent a letter declining. Immediately, Kalian became the subject of her classmates' gossip. Disgusting. He just wanted to show off, didn't he? The Marquis has been captured, and he's still attending the graduation ceremony? He should be spending his time praying for his father. That's what a filial son would do. These words hit Callian like a blow, right? Her mother would never do anything for her. She shouldn't have expected anything. But she was no longer the same person she used to be. She wouldn't just cry like she did before. Her father had told her, under no circumstances should you lose your composure. This was a celebration of graduation with friends after so many years. I should attend on behalf of my family. Congratulations on your graduation, young Earl. Her composure drew gasps of admiration from those present. Meanwhile, in Decasa, Claude had infiltrated the enemy camp and rescued Callian's father. Because of the sudden appearance of enemies, distracted, he hadn't noticed a dark muzzle aimed at his back. Bang, bang, bang. Fortunately, Crown Prince Ian intervened just in time, taking down the enemy behind him. Now that everything is over, thanks to Marquis Bell, we've taken the West as well. At this moment, Crown Prince Ian stepped forward solicitously. Before you return to the Empire, we still have many things to discuss. I haven't heard your reply yet, including regarding my proposal. Claude's face darkened instantly. He stepped forward and draped the Marquis's other arm over his shoulder. The Marquis needs treatment. We need to prepare for our return. We won't have time. The two men spoke back and forth, neither willing to give an inch. This was quite difficult for Marquis Bell, caught between them. The princess also heard about what happened at the graduation ceremony. The Marchioness was truly too much. Even the graduation ceremony wasn't spared. You handled it very well. Don't worry too much about it. At the dinner that evening, he avenged Callian. Callian handled it remarkably well. Word has even reached the palace. The slightest misstep could have harmed the Bell family. Please, Marchioness, take care of Callian. I'm also concerned about my fiancé's family. I hope you won't be displeased to hear this. Anata immediately understood the princess's veiled reprimand. Though resentful, she could only force a smile and agree. Besides this, the princess also gave Callian a grand gift. A beautiful room in the palace. This was so she could see Callian more often. After all, during the war, without Callian, she truly struggled to cope. To fill her brother's absence, Rashina was under immense pressure. Often, she was deeply worried by delayed war reports. During those difficult days, only when she was with Callian could she let her guard down. She was truly grateful for Callian's companionship. The two of them inadvertently drank too much. Callian suddenly heard Claude's voice. Turning around, there he was, standing before her. If this was a dream, she hoped she would never wake up. The man unbuttoned his girlfriend's blouse. What met his eyes was a body tightly bound with cloth strips. As the strips were slowly unraveled, the expression on the man's face froze. The next second, he abandoned his girlfriend and hurried away. The bewildered girlfriend wept in the bathtub as she showered. Just this morning, Callian had an embarrassing dream. In the dream, Claude came to find her and kissed her, but she, like a wild kitten, bit Claude's lip. Claude said she was a little wild animal. These words echoed in her mind, a constant refrain. How utterly embarrassing. But then again, it wasn't so strange to dream of Claude. He'd appeared in her dreams more than once. It was probably the excitement of finally being able to join the parade. That's why she had such a dream. An hour later, the parade officially began. Callian finally saw the Grand Duke, the man she had longed to see. The war was truly over. But then she noticed something odd. There was a real injury on the corner of Claude's lip. She'd heard that the Grand Duke and Prince Ian had arrived last night. Only her father had arrived this morning. Her brother's words struck her like a lightning bolt. It suddenly dawned on her. Last night hadn't been a dream. She wished the earth would swallow her whole. But then she realized something even more significant. Claude already knew her secret. He knew she was a woman. I hereby bestow upon Ahar, the Grand Duke who led the war to victory, the title of Archduke. Thank you for protecting my people, soldiers of the Empire. Our victory in this war is due to your noble sacrifices. Some have lost family. Some have lost their dreams. But your sacrifices will not be in vain. Because of your sacrifice, your families and the Empire can welcome true peace. Thank you all for coming home alive. The war was over. Loved ones returned. Everyone was embraced by their families. Everyone except Callian. She was held back by Anata. Unable to receive her father's embrace, she felt a pang of sadness and confusion. Just then, Claude appeared and embraced her. His gentle voice reached her heart, becoming a deafening heartbeat that amplified and drowned out all other emotions. She had been lonely in the Bell household, always grieving alone and terrified that Claude would discover her secret. But the moment he stood beside her, all those feelings vanished. What mattered was that Claude had returned alive, and they were reunited in this moment. As night fell, a celebratory banquet was held at the Imperial Palace. Callian finally had the chance to embrace her father. She was grateful for his safe return, and he was proud of her graduating at the top of her class. But just as she was about to bring up the matter of leaving Pelga, Anata, sensing her intentions, intervened. Subtly, she steered the Marquis away. Seeing that there would be no opportunity tonight, Callian said goodbye to her brother and prepared to retire. But the scene she witnessed only reinforced her feeling of not belonging. Unlike her, alone and isolated, everyone else seemed happy. She had thought she was starting to fit in, but now it seemed like a mere illusion. As she turned to leave, Claude caught that fleeting glimpse of loneliness. He followed her, appearing suddenly behind her. "May I have this dance, my lady?" The surprise quickly turned to alarm. The word lady startled Callian. She hurriedly explained that she was the Bell family's adopted son. Seeing Callian's reluctance to admit the truth, Claude, with a playful smile, mentioned the balcony. He had seen everything, their intimate interaction. Overheard by two passing nobles, Callian's eyes widened in shock. Panic seized her. She wrenched her hand from Claude's and fled, an action that only fueled the noble suspicions. The scene shifted. Claude had caught up to her. He was displeased. Callian had been running from him, running from her true self, Callian. He decided on a small punishment. The kiss ended. He held her hand tightly, his eyes filled with deep emotion. "I don't want to play hide-and-seek with you anymore, Callian. I am Callian. Are you going to keep playing dumb?" The words had barely left her lips when Callian was swept off her feet, lifted into a princess carry. "Try running away again. I won't let you go." Claude's gaze fell upon the bruises that marred Callian's body, varying shades of purple and blue, a stark contrast against her skin. In that moment, Claude's rage reached a boiling point. Meanwhile, Ian, strolling leisurely, was blissfully unaware of the impending danger. All the way back, Marchioness Anata berated Callian for leaving the banquet without a word. Finally, Ian, unable to bear it any longer, offered a rare rebuttal. Anata stared at her precious son in disbelief, unable to comprehend his defense of Callian's abrupt departure. Ian simply handed his mother the umbrella, choosing to walk through the rain himself to find Callian. Seeds of resentment, long buried in Anata's heart, began to sprout. Who did Callian think they were, daring to drive a wedge between her and her son? Not once, but repeatedly. Ian hadn't been gone long when he encountered a furious Claude. Claude not only ignored Ian's greeting, but knocked him to the ground with a single punch. Ian scrambled to his feet, only to be grabbed by the collar. "Have you seen Callian's body? Have you seen all those bruises?" The bruises all over their body from binding their chest day after day, from living a lie to hide their true identity. They live in agony, pretending to be someone they're not. And you? You hide behind that small frame, playing the fool. Why do you insist on feigning ignorance? Ian was left reeling from Claude's furious accusations. Memories of the years he'd spent with Callian flooded his mind. He had cared for Callian, truly cared. He had tried his best to protect them. Claude's response was sharp and unwavering. "You shouldn't be protecting Callian. You should be protecting Lilia. You should be protecting the real person, not the facade." Claude's words unlocked a buried memory. The reason Lilia had become Callian in the first place was to earn his mother's forgiveness for his mother. But the truth was, the one who had abandoned him by the frozen lake was his own mother, Anata. Neither Lilia nor his mother did anything wrong, Ian. Will you abandon them again, just like you did before, for your family and your mother? Callian cherishes you more than anyone. Tell them, I'm taking them back to Decasa with me. I won't let them suffer in the Bell household any longer. From now on, I will protect them. Meanwhile, Callian was in the bath, crying under the icy water. Claude must have seen the bruises, seen how ugly they were, and left. The thought made the tears flow harder. Suddenly, Claude's voice cut through the sobs. What are you doing? Why are you showering in cold water? Claude shed his shirt and draped it over Callian's shivering shoulders. You're freezing. What if you catch a cold? Callian finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. The words of explanation were on their lips, but they couldn't speak. Instead, they clung tightly to Claude's neck. When Callian finally calmed down, Claude spoke, his voice laced with worry. Can you tell me why you did that? Callian turned away, their voice thick with tears. I'm just so ugly. Everything about me, these bruises, they just prove I'm neither male nor female. I wanted to wash them away. Then, maybe you wouldn't leave me. Claude looked at them, bewildered. What are you talking about? Why would I leave you? But you saw them, the bruises you left. Callian whispered, their voice choked with emotion. Because I'm ugly. Claude rested his forehead against Callian's. Callian, if I had known you were thinking this, I never would have left you alone. And you're not ugly. Not at all. He leaned down and kissed Callian. Then, why did you leave in such a hurry? Callian asked, their voice barely a whisper. Claude hadn't realized Callian would interpret his actions that way. I'm going crazy. Are you a fool? I've never been angry with you. Don't you really know that? Callian choked up instantly. I don't know. Just like you said, I'm stupid and foolish. If you don't tell me yourself, I really don't know anything. In the next second, her hand was caught. Claude pulled her hand, forcing her to meet his gaze. I'm not angry. I'm worried about you. He couldn't bear to leave Callian like this. For the past 3 years of relentless war, he had clung to the memory of Callian whispering, I love you, in his ear. He had waited 3 years for this moment. How could he possibly find her ugly? The next day, Claude woke up first, gazing contentedly at the breathtaking beauty beside him. He desperately wished that only he could behold such beauty. Overcome with emotion, he couldn't resist. Touching her gently, he thought, no matter how I look at it, this doesn't resemble a man. How was I fooled? His self-doubt was overheard by Callian, who had just woken up. My acting is very good, isn't it, Your Grace? Claude abruptly leaned closer, imperiously demanding that Callian say his name. Seeing Callian hesitate, his hand slipped unexpectedly beneath the covers. Callian's heart leaped, her face flushing crimson. Reluctantly, yet willingly, she breathed his name, Claude. Satisfied, he withdrew his hand. They were unexpectedly caught up in the moment when a rush of hurried footsteps grew closer and closer. A second later, the door burst open. It was the Crown Prince who had barged in. But before he could see anyone, a pillow struck him. Claude rose angrily, shielding Callian behind him, 1,000 furious thoughts racing through his mind. If you have something to say, please come outside and say it. It turned out the Crown Prince knew he was there, because Rashina had given this room to Callian. He grinned, teasing Claude. So, your long, unrequited love has finally ended. How should I tell Ian? No, seriously, what's the matter? It turned out the Crown Prince was looking for Callian. The Marquis's villa had been attacked, and the diamonds that the Marquis Belle and Claude's father had brought back from the neutral territory were missing. But the Marchioness was accusing only Callian. Callian, having disappeared suddenly from last night's banquet, was suspected by the Marchioness, who had raised her, of stealing the diamonds. Witnesses claimed to have seen her near Lubeck, and because she had been secretly sending letters to Lubeck, she was suspected of colluding with Lubeck's faction. But she had been with Claude all night. If Claude went to the police station and testified, he could prove Callian's innocence. The problem was everyone saw Callian as a man. Having the Grand Duke, Claude, come forward would resolve the matter, but it would damage both their families' reputations. But Claude didn't care. He wouldn't stand by and watch his beloved be falsely accused. Seeing the Crown Prince and Claude arguing fiercely, Callian hurriedly intervened. She agreed with the Crown Prince. Claude didn't need to take the risk. If the witness was lying, there had to be a reason. They could hear the witness's testimony first. This time, she wanted to handle it herself. All Claude needed to do was trust her. Claude reluctantly agreed, on the condition that he accompany her. Meanwhile, the Belle Marquis's household was in chaos. Gillen, it's impossible for Lillian to have overpowered so many of Mother's guards. You're being biased. She even injured the butler, Angoulême, severely. All the evidence points to Lillian. She was also secretly sending letters to Lubeck behind our backs. Gillen's eyes reddened. Mother, don't you know why she was writing to Lubeck? The Marquis, finally losing his patience, snapped, Gillen, how dare you speak to your mother like that? Callian is our child. There's no doubt about that. Even for the sake of the family, we should protect her. Anata slapped her husband's hand away. Callian transferred the royal diamonds to Lubeck. That's the Empire's biggest headache. She must have given them to her mother. She must be expelled from the family and severely punished. Seeing his mother's growing hysteria, Gillen finally voiced the words he'd held back for so long. The Grand Duke won't stand idly by. He's deeply fond of Ian. He was with Ian last night, too. Marchioness Anata was struck dumb, as if by lightning. Yet, she remained stubbornly fixed in her beliefs. The investigation isn't conclusive yet. We should wait. Silence descended upon the room, leaving only father and son. Try to understand. He cherishes Callian as his own, but Ian has always been searching for his birth mother. That's why he's like this. We need to clear up your mother's misunderstanding first. Gillen stared at his father, speechless. A long time ago, I was found by the lake. The person who abandoned me by the lake that day wasn't Callian's birth mother. It was my mother. The Marquis, however, didn't seem surprised by this bombshell. Callian had just returned home when they received an anonymous package, a vase overflowing with jasmine blossoms. It brought to mind the finger Dr. Carl had given them. Jasmine Scented Days, clothing store number 46 in Lubeck. Meet Laura at the time, written on the note. But the vase seemed unusually heavy for Callian to carry. Claude, ever alert, sensed something amiss. He took the vase and smashed it on the floor. A cascade of diamonds spilled out. It seemed someone was trying to frame Callian as the mastermind behind the recent theft. These diamonds are imperial property. Gather them carefully. Don't lose a single one. From the servants, they learned the vase had been deliberately left at the front door. Whoever left something so valuable wouldn't have gone far. They must be nearby. Claude offered to have his men search, but Callian was still unsure if their mother was involved with the terrorists. If Claude intervened, their mother might be in danger. So they refused Claude's offer. Didn't you say you'd only help when I needed it? It seems you need help now, don't you? No, you don't need to help me. Grand Duke, please go back. This sudden coldness puzzled Claude. He couldn't understand why Callian was so adamant in refusing his help. As he watched his beloved turn and walk away, Claude felt a pang of hurt. When Callian arrived at the clothing store, the shopkeeper was already waiting. In an inconspicuous corner of the store, there was a hidden door. Carl knew they would come. Bring them in. The hidden door closed. Callian reminded themselves to stay calm, to subtly probe for their limits. But they hadn't expected what lay beyond. Behind a bookshelf, another passage led to the Decasa harbor, and their mother was there. They didn't know if Carl was telling the truth, but now they had no choice but to trust him. You put something else in the vase. You've already figured it out, haven't you? No wonder you were acting so stiff. The armed group that attacked the Bell household. The thieves, was it really you? We had our reasons. Haven't you ever felt wrong? Watching them hoard all the resources just because they were born nobles, just because they're nobles, they can steal other people's mothers and lives, even their freedom. Don't you understand? Once they're done using you, they'll discard you completely. Along the way, Carl kept urging Callian to betray them, but they didn't respond, just silently followed. Finally, they reached their headquarters. In this room, you'll see your mother. With a trembling heart, Callian slowly stepped forward. The sight before them brought tears to their eyes. They were truly face to face with the mother they had longed for. Their mother was still so beautiful, just as they remembered. Carl suddenly stepped forward. Laura's legs aren't well. After losing Miss Callian, she frantically searched the entire kingdom of Lubeck. Later, she was attacked by a strange man, and her legs were badly injured. At the time, there were many rumors in Lubeck. They said that the man was following someone's orders. After her daughter disappeared, the mother frantically searched the entire slum. On that rain-soaked night, she fell countless times. Footsteps suddenly approached. Thinking it was her daughter, she looked up sharply. Unexpectedly, she was attacked by a stranger. Because of this incident, her legs were badly injured. But the mother still didn't give up. She dragged her injured legs to Casso. Not only did she not see her beloved daughter, but she almost lost her life. After that, until her legs completely gave out, she went to look for her daughter several more times. But each time was in vain. Callian, learning all of this, was deeply shocked. She hadn't known her mother had gone through so much to find her. But she doesn't seem very happy now, does she? Although their food and clothing are incomparably better than Miss Callian's, they are much happier than you. How can you say that? Because Laura was at least never betrayed. Haven't you noticed? The one who framed you as the diamond thief is the very person you've always called mother, Anata. Callian's face was filled with disbelief. There was no nurturing kindness at all. That woman was intent on ruining her. Of course, there must be other nobles helping her. But how long can they help you? Once you lose your value, they will abandon you immediately. But here, no one will mind your origins. You can live a happy life with Laura again, just like before. If you can bring some of the Marquis' property, it can also solve our poverty problem. Laura will be even happier then. Carl's words held a powerful allure. Callian didn't refuse on the spot. She would give him an answer the next time they met. However, what she didn't know was that this was all Carl's deception. This wasn't some headquarters like he claimed, but the place where Laura had been doing charity work and teaching. The man beside her was just a colleague. Entering that dark passage, Callian felt no joy. The first thing she thought of was her mother's radiant smile. Although she had always dreamed of living a happy life with her mother again. Even without her, her mother seemed happy now. She worried that her sudden appearance would shatter the smile her mother had finally regained. After what had happened, she couldn't stay in the Bell household any longer. If those three knew she was from Lubeck, they probably wouldn't treat her the way they did now. But she couldn't just join forces with terrorists because of that. Just as she was feeling utterly despairing, Claude appeared. Callian, hurry! Claude pulled her close. In that instant, she was pulled back from the abyss of despair. Claude held her tight, as if she were a rediscovered treasure. Close your eyes, Callian. There are things out here you can't bear to see. Don't open them until I tell you to. Just listen to my voice. Claude asked Callian why she had put herself in danger. He had never truly been angry with her before, but this time he truly was. Callian quickly apologized. Seeing her safe and sound by his side, Claude couldn't bring himself to stay angry. At that moment, he was just relieved that Callian was truly all right. Through the car window, Callian saw a bloody scene. It was the owner of the clothing store, Sandor. If this continues, you'll truly be implicated with Lou. You're practically handing evidence to the eager Marchioness. Callian looked up. If I truly were involved with Lou, Grand Duke, how can you be so certain I'm not the mastermind behind this incident? It's possible I really am connected to them. You don't know me that well. How many years have we known each other? You're not that kind of person. I knew you were from Lou a long time ago. It's not a problem for me at all, so you don't have to worry about me. From now on, let me handle this with you. Feeling the unwavering trust placed in them, Callian's eyes welled up with tears. Callian confessed everything they knew. Lou's terrorists want funding from me. They want me to defect to them, taking the Marquis family's fortune with me. My mother, no, the Marchioness, wants to ruin me at any cost. She's working with the people from Lou. A child born in Lou sent diamonds from Lou. Anyone who doesn't know the truth will believe it. Even if I can prove I was with you last night, it will be difficult to clear my name of any association with Lou. Claude, however, told Callian not to worry. He would use this opportunity to make Anata disappear completely, severing the tie between her and Callian. Callian's heart clenched at his words. But what about my mother? Callian asked. Claude, perceptive as ever, sensed an underlying connection. I'll take care of it. This incident will end with Sandor being caught red-handed. After that, I'll start making inquiries about your mother and formally begin the investigation. This reassurance put Callian's mind at ease. They were truly grateful to Claude. Callian offered their assistance, no matter the task. After confirming that Callian truly meant anything, Claude, his mind already scheming, said, "Then come live at my house.